Volume 1, Chapter 27, Part 1. Upon reaching the area where several wagons were lined up, Fiend immediately went to report to Miles. The rank 3 mercenaries of the Pace Mercenary Corps were adjusting their positions, each knowing where they ought to stand. The front was to be managed by the Tariq Mercenary Corps, while the rear was assigned to the Pace Mercenary Corps, as agreed upon the night before. Finn and Helmut, awkwardly out of place, were to follow from the very back. A protection mission, an assignment that involved guarding while transporting. For Helmut, protecting something, whether it be a person or an object, was a foreign concept. In the Forest of Roots, the only thing Helmut had to protect was himself, having nothing to his name and being the weakest among his peers. It must be something worth stealing, Helmut concluded, understanding the situation to that extent. The details of what they were transporting were secretive. Only Miles and the representatives of the mercenary groups knew the detailed route and the destination, a measure to strictly maintain confidentiality. The specifics would be shared with the third-rank mercenaries after departing from the village. That they had hired mercenaries in the double digits suggested that the journey would not be smooth. The Tariq Mercenary Corps had more than twice the number of people on the other side. The Tariq mercenaries looked at the other side with displeasure or showed signs of vigilance, though they did not overtly display hostility. The Butin Trading Company was a large organization. With a high-ranking official like Miles present, they would not cause a conflict. However, that was a matter for those above the rank of third-rank mercenaries. The Tariq Mercenary Corps had brought 4 errand boys, essentially fourth-rank mercenaries. It wasn't simply because their numbers were more than double that they ended up with 4. Normally, errand runners are 1 or 2 at most. Miles had forcefully included as many as possible, to the point of grimacing. One of them was actually a third-rank mercenary, but was being treated as a fourth rank due to a broken arm in recovery. This mercenary Helmut made it abundantly clear with his attitude, "I may be treated as rank 4 because of my injury, but I'm not one of you, I'm not at the same level as you." And Helmut had been hostile towards Finn and Helmut from the start, seemingly bearing a grudge against the Pace Mercenary Corps. When he accidentally locked eyes with Finn, Helmut burst out yelling, "What are you looking at, you little runt? Kid, do you even know how to use a sword?" Finn seemed upset but remained silent, biting his tongue. Helmut sneered as he walked past. "Coward, just keep trailing behind." It was an overt provocation. Helmut then turned his target to Helmut. "Is that a girl back there? Such a pretty face, shouldn't you be wearing a skirt?" Helmut ignored him cleanly. The provocateur was not worth paying attention to. "Arg, how can such people exist?" Once out of sight, Finn kicked a stone on the ground in frustration. If it weren't for what Finn said, "Don't mind it," Helmut recited the words others would typically say in such situations, having learned from observation. "Aren't you angry?" After glaring at me for calling me a weakling, Helmut was actually unfazed by being called pretty or girly. Why that would be upsetting he didn't understand, but being called weak or frail was different. That was an unbearable insult, something he could never accept. The memory of Alaga dragging him around by the tail and looking down at him mockingly made his teeth clench. Suppressing the rising anger, Helmut said, "Ignore it. Do you plan on causing trouble on our first mission? Fine, I get it." Finn's anger subsided, acknowledging Helmut's point. Truthfully, he didn't have the courage to confront Helmut, a third-rank mercenary. Soon the group set off and Helmut's thoughts drifted elsewhere. With the use of Vis, he became more aware of the presences around him. What was once blurry became clear. Helmut habitually measured the strength of those around him, their movements, posture, and the amount of Vis they possessed. This was a natural instinct Helmut had developed, akin to a magical beast's. It helped determine whether to engage in combat or not. Indeed, humans are different from magical beasts. They can conceal their strength. While magical beasts expelled their magic outwardly, Vis was a power that pooled inward. If Helmut's Vis had been complete, assessing others would have been easier. But even now, he could vaguely sense who held the upper hand. The provocateur seemed weaker among the third-rank mercenaries, perhaps due to his injury. Definitely seems weaker than Tanya. Given his current state, Helmut couldn't confidently claim victory even in a fight with Finn, so ignoring was the best strategy. Yet seeing so many mercenaries gathered stirred eagerness within him. The air was tense and rigid. Mercenaries lived by their strength. Among them, some used hammers or short swords, but most wielded swords. Helmut yearned to test his sword skills honed during his time away against humans. And Finn. Among the humans he had encountered, Finn seemed the strongest, even more so than the second-rank mercenary representative from the Tariq Corps. 10 days, Helmut murmured, promising himself the time he needed. After that, he planned to reveal his true abilities. Chapter 27, Part 2. The journey remained peaceful for several days. Peace for some meant boredom. "Damn, this is so boring," Helmut spat as he walked, the fourth-rank mercenary boys around him watching cautiously. Helmut's brother was a second-rank mercenary in the Tariq Mercenary Corps. Having joined following his brother, Kellup had been a competent third-rank mercenary. His rash and foul temper often caused trouble, but his brother's status as a second-rank mercenary spared him from expulsion. Kellup had one particularly bad habit, heading straight to gambling dens whenever he drank. This time, drunk and brawling in a gambling den, he broke his arm. His brother berated him with every curse known, forcing him to participate in this mission as punishment, demoting him to rank 4. Kellup, who was resisting, received the final notice from his brother. Cause trouble this time and you're out of the mercenary corps for good. Curse it all, who does he think he is? Kellup gritted his teeth. Without his brother's backing, his mediocre skills and attitude wouldn't have been tolerated in the Tariq mercenary corps. Expulsion would mean struggling with menial, dangerous jobs for meager pay. With a broken arm, there wasn't much for him to do here. Picking on the young members of the Pace Mercenary Corps was out of boredom and because they were easy targets. The Tariq Mercenary Corps tacitly allowed Kellup to harass them. Despite sharing the same mission, the Pace Mercenary Corps, which commanded higher fees and had a better reputation, was a thorn in their side. To them, harassing a fourth-rank errand boy was trivial. It wasn't as if they were beating them to a pulp. Though the two mercenary groups guarded different parts of the convoy, they often crossed paths during breaks. Errand boys frequently encountered each other while fetching water or gathering fodder and firewood in the woods. Kellup seized these opportunities. Tripping them, hurling insults and curses, he reveled in Finn's visibly agitated reactions, finding pleasure in his discomfort. Like they dare retaliate. Even with a broken arm, Kellup, as a third-rank mercenary, knew the gap between third and fourth rank was significant. Against a 14-year-old, he could play around even with one hand. While Kellup was satisfied with Finn's reactions, dealing with the other boy was different. With his delicate appearance and pale skin, Kellup initially mistook him for a noble's offspring. His name is Helmut. Even his name sounds pretentiously elegant, looks like he belongs at a ball playing an instrument. Well, a noble's son wouldn't be doing rank 4 mercenary work. Kellup took every opportunity to provoke Helmut. But no matter the insult, calling him girly, pretty, or suggesting he must have received flowers, Helmut seemed unaffected, brushing past Kellup with an indifferent face. Kellup felt like he was chasing after a girl who wouldn't even look back. His irritation grew. Is this kid ignoring me? Unlike the clumsy Finn, Helmut skillfully maintained a distance, eluding direct confrontation. There's always a way. Kellup smirked, his mind working best when plotting mischief. He felt confident he could distort Helmut's impassive face. Boys, you'll have to help me later, I'll show you a good time. After all, they were part of the Pace Mercenary Corps. What harm could touching them do? For the other fourth-rank mercenaries, avoiding Kellup's wrath was satisfaction enough. They snickered and agreed to his plan. That night the group made camp in the forest, a common practice during escort missions. Finn exclaimed, this is driving me insane. Not wanting to provoke him further, Helmut remained silent. Truthfully, Helmut was also getting irritated, though not to the point of losing control. It was aggravating, ignore it, avoid it. Simple in theory, but not easy in practice. Why should they tolerate hostility from someone weaker? Though not yet confirmed, Helmut felt confident he wouldn't lose. Smashing someone to silence them was Helmut's preferred method. Isn't it too much, that Kellup guy old enough to know better, yet he acts like this? It did seem like he had nothing better to do. Even as an errand runner, Kellup seemed to delegate all work to those around him, idly passing time. Can't we do something about it? It'd be manageable with the other 3, but having a third-rank mercenary among fourth-rank ones feels like cheating. Finn grumbled, frowning for lack of a better plan. It wasn't the time for tattling. As the group ventured into increasingly dangerous territories, tension was visible on the faces of Finn and the other mercenaries. Monsters existed in the human world too. Outside the barrier where Helmut had been found, monsters didn't appear because it was too close to the barrier. Though not as powerful or frequent as in the Forest of Roots, encountering monsters on the road wasn't uncommon. But they were easier to deal with than humans. In the human world, the more threatening foes were other humans. Unpredictable human attackers were why Miles chose a route filled with monsters. Many mercenaries were hired for this reason. Soon their services would be essential. Being a mercenary meant risking one's life. Complaining about harassment at a time like this was mere petulance. Finn, though a fourth-rank mercenary, understood this much. Great, another round of harassment when fetching water. Despite his complaints, Finn grabbed the water containers. Better to get it over with sooner rather than later. But this time, the confrontation wouldn't end as easily as before. Chapter 28, Part 1, Hey, come on over. As he was about to return with a bucket full of water, someone suddenly popped up from behind. Kellup. Seemingly with determination, 4 people blocked the path tightly. Finn, who was about to turn back with a frown, suddenly felt his nape seized. How can he be so strong? Kellup was known not for his exceptional swordsmanship but for his innate strength. His brother, on the other hand, was both an excellent swordsman and strong. Helmut, fitting for a rank 3 mercenary, realized the atmosphere had turned. It was the perfect time since no one would care if he picked a fight with rank 4 mercenaries. "Look, buddy, I might have been a bit harsh before, right? It's all good you weren't." Finn gasped for air as he was suddenly hit in the back. It felt like he was struck down with a blunt weapon. Moaning in pain and holding back tears, Helmut, who had casually thrown an arm around Finn, asked, Hey, your friend, have you ever bathed together with that bastard, your friend, so you must have, right?" We haven't." Finn replied with a face pale as death. They had different waking times. Finn was the type to sleep in and then sluggishly head out to wash in the morning, whereas Helmut would wash quickly when no one was around at dawn. "Really? Then you wouldn't know. Don't you wonder if that pretty boy is really a girl or a boy? You're curious too, right?" "Not curious, ah," Finn grimaced in pain. Helmut had twisted his shoulder with his large hand as if forcing it. "Oops, my bad. I accidentally put too much strength, so you're curious too, right? A bruise would surely form there. Shall we find out then?" Someone appeared before the grinning Helmut. It was Helmut, who had come out of the water late. He put down his water bucket, having understood the situation. To capture Finn first and block the retreat. Helmut had caught on. This wasn't a targeting of Finn, the target was himself. His black eyes flashed coldly. Running away was easy. It wasn't exactly about loyalty, but he had no intention of fleeing and leaving Finn behind. "Thanks to training every night, my vis has recovered a lot." It was an opportunity to test his skills. It was a bit disappointing to face a rank 3 mercenary with a broken arm and 3 rank 4 henchmen. Helmut shouted excitedly, "Go grab that bastard, let's strip his pants." "In front of my friend, even if you strip my pants, could you still look down on me?" Finn was shivering in his grasp, a fitting reaction. That impassive face turning red and shedding tears of frustration would be a delight. A mercenary should have at least one unforgettable memory. "Be thankful to me." 3 boys from the Tarik mercenary corps, all 4th rank mercenaries, surrounded Helmut. Their faces filled with mockery did not seem forced. It was rare to trample on someone with a strong backer. The pleasure was immense. Come on, hurry up." Just as one of them was about to touch Helmut, "What is this?" a woman's voice pierced coldly. The owner of the voice, Tanya, stepped out from the shadows. "Damn it!" Helmut's excitement cooled instantly. He quickly released Finn. The 3 boys hesitated and stepped back from Helmut. Tanya's face seemed calm, but anger was evident in her eyes. "I was asking why members of the Tarik Mercenary Corps are messing with our 4th rank mercenaries from the Pace Mercenary Corps." The boys from the Tarik Mercenary Corps looked at Helmut in confusion. Helmut shrugged and said, "Well, we were just having a chat. I heard quite clearly someone mentioned stripping pants. No, well, it's just how men share friendship among themselves. You as a woman might not understand." Helmut smiled slickly. Tanya called out, ignoring him, "Come here, Finn." Helmut. Finn quickly hid behind Tanya and Helmut walked over, his expression cold as ice. To Helmut, Tanya's arrival was as unwelcome as Helmut's. He had just reached for his sword, just pulling it out would have been enough. "I could have cut them all down." A boiling rage cooled down forcibly. Helmut calmed himself quickly. There will be other chances. Helmut thought the same, and Tanya had seen through Helmut's thoughts. To the 4th rank mercenaries of the Tarik Mercenary Corps, Helmut's facial muscles twitched. "I was originally a rank 3 mercenary. But now you're employed as a rank 4, am I wrong?" Rank could decrease if one's skills deteriorated. And even across different mercenary corps, a 4th rank could not act recklessly towards a 3rd rank. It would be a cause for conflict. Helmut would be in trouble. "If you cause trouble, this time you're out of the mercenary corps for good." His brother's voice echoed loudly in his head. Helmut gritted his teeth. Lucky bitch, having a good brother. Despite himself being in the Tarik Mercenary Corps thanks to his brother, Helmut inwardly cursed. There's no way this woman had the skills of a 3rd rank mercenary. If he were in good shape, he could have floored her in 5 minutes and then had a great time after. While making all sorts of vile plans in his head, Helmut forced a laugh. "All right, let's say you're right. My apologies. Don't let something like this happen again. Next time it won't end with words." Tanya issued a cold warning. The eyes of Miles, not just hers, were sharp. Not only her, but the client was aware of conflicts among 4th rank mercenaries. Though it was a conflict between 2 mercenary corps, they kept neutral, not intervening. But they knew if a dispute arose, they would support the Pace Mercenary Corps side. Chapter 28, Part 2. Tanya was furious enough to draw her sword immediately, but knowing the opponent was not just any 4th rank, but the brother of a high-standing 2nd rank mercenary in the Tarik Mercenary Corps, meant the issue could escalate. Helmut could walk away from this situation thanks to his brother. "Let's go, boys." Helmut led his men away first. Silence lingered in their absence. Finn barely held back tears with reddened eyes. "Stop sniveling. This will be common," Tanya sighed. The men of the Pace Mercenary Corps were indeed indifferent. They noticed Helmut and Finn being bullied but pretended not to see. Tanya hadn't wanted to intervene either. It was their first mission, but not all experiences would be pleasant. This too was part of experience. Such incidents are frequent in mercenary life. One must learn to fight their own battles or seek help. Helmut and Finn remained silent, so it was right for Tanya not to intervene. Yet she did because she had experienced similar situations herself. Even having a second-rank mercenary brother, Fiend Tanya, a rare female mercenary, often became the target of crude jokes. There were bold ones who tried to assault her. It was common to face harassment, but having a rank 3 mercenary involved. While minor skirmishes among 4th rank mercenaries were one thing, a 3rd rank mercenary posing as a 4th rank getting involved was unfair. Tanya tapped Finn's shoulder and said, "Stop sulking and both of you grab your water buckets." She then patted Helmut's shoulder reassuringly. "You've seen quite the rough side of being in a mercenary corps right from the start." The simmering anger inside Helmut slowly eased. He had thought help was for the weak. This time it was more interference than help, but it didn't feel bad. Helmut and a red-faced Finn returned to their sleeping quarters. A campfire had been lit by then. Sean handed them well-roasted sweet potatoes without asking anything. "Eat." The momentary indignation faded as Finn soon fell asleep to the crackling sound of the fire. Helmut looked into the flames, his hand reaching for the hilt of his sword. It was a sword he hadn't yet fully swung outside of this camp. He had no intention of ending things this way. After all, it doesn't seem like he'll give up so easily. Helmut was planning to give him a very blatant opportunity. From this area onwards, demonic beasts may appear, so refrain from going out alone. Even when you need to relieve yourself, don't go by yourself. The next day, Fiend issued a warning. Even when fetching water, call a rank 3 mercenary to accompany you. Though he provided a reason, it was because of yesterday's incident. It was decided that they couldn't leave things as they were any longer. Fiend had also complained to the leader of the Tariq mercenary corps. The leader looked at Helmut with disdain and warned him to restrain himself in the future. Helmut was seething inside. However, since yesterday, he deliberately ignored Finn and Helmut, not even bothering to speak to them, as if he had completely cut off his nerves. "I had them in my grasp, but because of that damned woman I lost them." Malice is persistent by nature. It was even more so for those with nothing better to do. He decided to wait. An opportunity would come someday. "There doesn't seem to be a single demonic beast in sight," Finn grumbled. Taking Fiend's words at face value, he was nervous yet excited to see a demonic beast for the first time. "It's because there are many people around. They won't show up right away." Helmut felt a faint trace of demonic energy circling the area. It was weaker than the first rabbit he had hunted. If the demonic beast was this weak, it couldn't attack when so many people were gathered. Maybe if it targeted someone alone. There are places where demonic energies converge, and this forest seemed to be one of them. The density was low, but the familiar sensation on his skin was peculiar. "You talk as if you've seen one. Have you seen a demonic beast?" "Well, it seems so." Helmut was about to answer cheerfully but quickly corrected himself, realizing he was suffering from amnesia. "Really? That's fascinating. Are their teeth really this big?" "It depends on the species. Some have claws as their weapons." Finn constantly talked to Helmut. He was of an optimistic nature and seemed to quickly forget about the incident that occurred yesterday. Except for when he screamed while applying medicine to the bruises Helmut had given him. "Helmut, you bastard." He must have been quite upset about being unable to move in Helmut's grasp. Finn would practice with a wooden sword every night until he was utterly exhausted and collapsed. Helmut didn't neglect his training either, but for different reasons. He didn't slack off due to habit. Compared to when he had learned swordsmanship under Darien, it was almost like he was playing now. "It's only been about 10 days since I left the Forest of Roots." It felt like it had been a year. As Vis began to recover, Helmut felt almost no fatigue despite the daily forced marches. Helmut, who had barely been able to keep up with the group while sweating profusely, now showed no signs of difficulty, which Finn found somewhat surprising. Can someone's physical strength improve this quickly? Despite grumbling that Helmut was still weak, Finn felt a strange sensation. The current Helmut seemed different somehow. His speech and demeanor remained the same, but an indescribable sense of pressure was felt. When those black eyes, indistinguishable from the iris, stared at him, he felt a chill down his spine. "Ah, it must be my imagination." Shaking his head, Finn still couldn't shake off a sense of alienation. Chapter 29, Part 1, Passing through a demonic beast-infested zone without a single attack is impossible. The weaker ones were cautious, but not the big and strong ones. It had been a while since prey rolled in abundance. If they let them go easily, they wouldn't be called demonic beasts. There was no meat as tender and savory as human flesh for the demonic beasts. Even seasoned mercenaries couldn't maintain tension all day. It was natural to relax a bit right after lunch in broad daylight. In the middle of the procession, a third-rank mercenary from the Tariq mercenary corps was almost turning his water bottle upside down, trying to drink from it. "Why isn't any water coming out?" Grumbling with his neck cranked upwards, a dark shadow covered his view in an instant. What's that? There was no time to draw his sword. Something that fell from the tree shadow above crashed onto him like a flash. Thud. A demonic beast had bitten the unprotected neck and chewed with a crunching sound. Horrible liquid dripped to the ground with a splattering sound. It's a demonic beast. Oh my God, Billy. Billy, with half his neck gone, had already breathed his last. Blood and flesh dripped from between the demonic beast's teeth. It was a grotesque demonic beast resembling a giant monkey, with long limbs and a purplish face. Magical energy flowed from the beast, spreading out faintly. A powerful demonic beast was rare to see in the outside world, capable of releasing magical energy. Its lips curled up in satisfaction, almost as if mocking them. Arg, a mercenary excited by the death of a comrade, recklessly drew his sword and charged at the beast. Stop, don't just rush in, Kiek, a sharp scream echoed. The sound filled with magical energy paralyzed the body. The demonic beast lightly flicked the sword aimed at it with its magically imbued claws and swiftly burrowed into the faltering mercenary's embrace. Crack, a chilling sound was heard. The demonic beast's hand pierced through the muscled body of the mercenary as if it were paper, taking his heart with it. The beast, pulling out the pulsating heart, bounced it in its palm and chuckled mischievously. The demonic beast was enjoying the murder. Moreover, it was underestimating them. So many mercenaries, the mercenaries in front tensed up in fear. Their limbs trembled. The dreadful and brutal scene stoked their fear. In front of this powerful demonic beast, trained mercenaries seemed like mere herbivores. Such a demonic beast was rarely encountered even by experienced mercenaries. They were a bit worried about entering a demonic beast-infested zone, but they didn't think it would dare to attack so many people. I was too careless. Had they known such a demonic beast lived here, they wouldn't have come. The forest, almost devoid of passers-by and thus lacking information, was mistaken for being manageable despite its abundance of beasts. Ki. The demonic beast chewed the heart in its hand like biting into an apple. Crunch, crunch, black blunt claws and a face smeared with blood. The beast, tilting its head, threw the corpse with a gaping chest towards the forest. The body, thrown into the air, made no sound upon hitting the ground. Someone muttered in disgust, "He's sharing with his subordinates." The presence of other demonic beasts was felt around. Rustling sounds accompanied a group of beasts surrounding the carriage. While the beast leisurely ate, the formation of the procession quickly changed. Two second-rank mercenaries from the Tarak mercenary corps took the lead, and Fiend joined them. They were the head and the remaining third-rank mercenaries were the wings. They fought back-to-back against the carriage. A full combat stance. "Get under the carriage, don't foolishly stand out," Tanya, with a grim face, gestured with her chin. There were 5 carriages. The attack occurred near the second one. Having watched the entire scene, Finn shivered and crawled under the 5th carriage. Helmut hesitated for a moment before following Finn. The carriage was low enough for an adult man's lower body to fit. "Draw your sword and stab any that try to crawl in. You can do that much, right?" Tanya advised and signaled to the other mercenaries. They had to keep formation. Otherwise, they might not be able to care for the 4th-rank mercenaries. In the center carriage were Miles and the traders. His carriage was particularly sturdy, but that didn't mean it was safe. The client's safety came first. If necessary, they would abandon everything and only take the 3rd carriage to escape. "Helmut, Finn?" "Yes," Helmut responded. Finn was already in a panic. It seemed unlikely he could do anything. Helmut slapped his cheek. Slap. "Pull yourself together." Admittedly, there was a bit of personal satisfaction. He had wanted to hit him several times before. "What are you doing?" After a solid hit, Finn's eyes blazed as he shouted. He quickly drew his sword. "Oh, what kind of damn situation is this? AI, are you going to the next world from the first request?" His mumbling showed his mind had returned. Helmut calmly peered outside from under the carriage to assess the situation. If that thing has intelligence, it might command the beasts under his command. Rather than charging straightforwardly, it would try to drain their strength by hitting and running. With so many of them, it wouldn't be an exaggeration to say they intended to capture this group entirely. The beasts, expecting a feast, gleamed with red eyes. The bright sunlight did nothing to diminish their dark glint. Chapter 29 Part 2. Having fought enough demonic beasts, Helmut found Finn's trembling somewhat pathetic. The leader, that monkey, wasn't particularly large and its movements were visible. Helmut had encountered one of the most powerful demonic beasts, Naho. Compared to its vicious appearance, this one seemed almost cute. "Should I step in?" Helmut thought leisurely. A sharp light flashed in his black eyes. Truthfully, he had wanted to face humans more than beasts, but there was a calculation involved. He remembered the conversation among the mercenaries by the campfire before sleeping. They said they'd pay more for acting heroically in a crisis. Finn had lamented the cut in their pay. Although Helmut hadn't thought much of it at the time, earning more if possible seemed better. There were many uses for money in the human world. For Helmut, who needed travel expenses, it was better to earn as much as possible when taking on a job. Fighting a beast that killed a third-rank mercenary wasn't a task for a fourth-rank mercenary. It was natural to receive a bonus for doing more than expected. Miles wasn't stingy in that regard. Besides, they hadn't received their pay yet, and it would be troublesome if the one paying them died. I'm in good shape. Having slain demonic beasts all the way out of the Forest of Roots and only having trained since, his body was itching for action. However, Helmut decided to wait and see a bit longer. If Helmut knows my strength, he won't pick a fight, so let's wait. I'm curious to see them fight. If necessary, I'll move towards the third carriage. Keek. As the monkey beast screamed and beat its chest, the battle began. Bang, crack, boom, the ground shook as if an earthquake had struck. Finn, with eyes wide open, crouched under the carriage. 3 second-rank mercenaries led the charge against the leader, stabilizing the mercenaries quickly. A stable center helped solidify their fighting spirit. Once the battle commenced, their bodies moved as they were accustomed to. The mercenaries coordinated their attacks, focusing on one beast at a time, taking them down. Indeed, the mercenaries from the Pace Mercenary Corps, even those of the same third rank, had better coordination and movement than those from the Tariq Mercenary Corps. It might end without me needing to step in. Smaller beasts resembling monkeys or bats acted chaotically. While they did charge in groups, they largely acted independently. However, the humans' battle scenes were certainly impressive. Relying on physical strength and resilience, the demonic beasts charged in, whereas humans, frail and slow to recover from wounds, were cautious. They aimed to strike down the enemy with minimal losses. Such train movements rarely exposed weaknesses. Moreover, their movements complemented each other, forming a solid front. The beasts charging at this solid shield were effectively shattered. Indeed, the strength of humans is hard to underestimate. Helmut had underestimated the mercenaries, thinking they would struggle against so many beasts, but the flow of battle proved otherwise. The only human Helmut had been close to was Darien, a human brimming with immense inner energy. Helmut naturally compared others to him. As Darien said, I shouldn't underestimate humans. As Helmut continued to watch from under the carriage, Finn poked his ribs. Hey, we can't let them notice us here. What are you doing? It's almost over. Many beasts were either slain or had fled with injuries. The mercenaries were tired, but it was fair to say they had nearly repelled the offensive. However, one robust demonic beast remained, the leader. The giant monkey, wielding a tree branch as a weapon, raged on, but the second-rank mercenaries did not allow any openings. They surrounded the beast, inflicting small wounds which seemed to infuriate it further. The situation wasn't great for the second-rank mercenaries either. The beast had superior stamina. They needed to strike a decisive blow, but the demonic beast possessed tremendous strength and speed, capable of crushing a human head with one hand. Any recklessness could lead to death. It was a terrifying situation. The beast surely realized its underlings were being killed. It knew that if the remaining third-rank mercenaries joined the fight, it would be at a disadvantage. Eventually, the demonic beast threw the tree branch in frustration. Kayak. Frustrated that things weren't going its way, its eyes scanned the humans as if counting them, then its gaze suddenly halted. 2 black eyes peering from under the carriage. Something about that gaze seemed to stir the demonic beast's instincts. However, the second-rank mercenaries didn't give it a chance to act. Fiend's sword aimed for the beast's leg as it charged. If it parried, 2 others would strike from the side. The beast leaped upwards, thump. The force of its jump from the ground sent it soaring like a bird, its arms reaching and grabbing the branches above. It fled across the trees, not looking back, at a speed no one dared chase. Is it over? Fiend clicked his tongue, watching where the beast disappeared. The remaining beasts, noticing their leader's retreat, began to withdraw. Only then did the tension ease. It had been a while since Fiend experienced such an intense battle. 2 mercenaries were dead. Even though they weren't from Fiend's corps, they were comrades in arms. The incomplete state of their bodies weighed heavily on everyone's hearts. Fiend nodded slightly to the second-rank mercenaries from the Tariq mercenary band who had fought alongside them, then returned to his group. Any casualties? How is everyone? Tanya reported. We're okay. Yuter got a scratch on his arm, but it seems free of poison. We're all tired but fine. She smiled reassuringly, patting Fiend on the shoulder, who had taken on the most dangerous task. You did well. A brief smile appeared on Fiend's face as well. Chapter 30, Part 1. How about our rank 4 mercenary rookies Helmut and Finn? They had now found enough leisure to tease. Both are safe. No one approached the carriage. Hey, you can come out now. Helmut had just emerged from under the carriage, standing up. However, Finn had no intention of coming out. Did he faint underneath? As he thought this, a small cry came from below. Helmut, looking inside, Finn, who had been crouching, reached out his hand with a pale face. Helmut, hey, I've got a cramp in my leg. Pull me out, quickly. Helmut did not bother to hide his disdain as Finn emerged from under the carriage, rubbing his leg. I thought my leg was paralyzed. Helmut was certain that if he had left and a beast had rushed under the carriage, Finn would have died clutching his leg instead of fighting. Uter, with his arm bandaged, chuckled and spoke. Despite hiding comfortably under the carriage, your face looks as if you've been fighting for 10 hours. Ah, come on, stop teasing me. Finn shouted in irritation and then became disheartened and shut his mouth. In the mercenary corps, he was amazed and demoralized to see the third-rank mercenaries, who seemed to laze about fighting against formidable beasts in perfect order. Uter then turned his target to Helmut. Helmut, what about you? Do you think you can handle it? Want to try fighting? I can fight too, Helmut stated calmly. Being a fourth-rank mercenary, it was right to follow Tanya's orders, but he was certain the attack wasn't over. That monkey beast, a creature with intelligence, bears similar traits to humans. They have a sense of revenge and cannot withstand unilateral losses. A single watch is enough. While he was wondering whether to step in or not, it ended. Ah, you'll just become a burden if you get hurt. You've never faced a demonic beast before. Helmut, who was about to answer that he had faced more than Uter, shut his mouth before he carelessly responded. That damned amnesia. Still, the kid didn't die, right? A mercenary needs courage, you'll get used to it eventually. Having overcome a crisis, Uter seemed to be in a good mood. Once everyone from the Pace Mercenary Corps gathered, Fiend gave the order. All right, everyone did well. Let's inspect the carriage and collect the corpses. It's going to be quite profitable. Helmut asked Finn. Collect the corpses. Is that profitable? Demonic beasts' corpses are worth much more than regular game. Fortunately, we didn't have any casualties on our side. The mercenaries drew their hatchets or daggers, leading the way to rummage through the fallen beasts' bodies. Leather or teeth collected would sell for money. They are used for mages' experiments or in weapon crafting. The harvest collected was taken by the Butin Trading Company, but about 70% of it went to the mercenaries. Soon, the trading company's people who had come down from the carriage were assessing the value of the corpses brought in by the mercenaries. Watch and learn. Marrows, who had called Helmut and Finn over with a gesture, skillfully dissected a monster's corpse, peeling off the intact parts of its skin. He meticulously searched for any valuable parts, plucking out teeth and harvesting sharp claws. It wasn't the beasts that were cruel. This one has unusual eye color. Could it be worth something? It might have some value as a collectible, but it's hard to preserve eyes, just leave it. The mercenaries were particularly careful in collecting the monster's cores, what humans called the seed of darkness, and assembled them together. Helmut's gaze slightly wavered. The priests might not like it, but this is where the money is. There's not a single intact core. I told you to stab off-center. It's hard enough as it is. Who has time to pay attention to that? Finn looked on with a pale face, chatting away as the third-rank mercenaries worked. Tanya signaled to Finn and Helmut with her chin. There's one over there. Try working on it together. Finn moved towards the corpse Tanya had pointed out with an uneasy face. Helmut did the same. But as they got closer, a strange feeling struck Helmut. Finn, what? Scared? It's okay. Finn, pretending to be brave, reached out his hand confidently towards the corpse. At that moment, magical energy surged. It was a creature that pretended to be dead. It revealed its true colors when they tried to touch it. Kyarak, its teeth bared, it lunged at Finn, aiming for the throat. Tanya, who had been watching them, shouted in urgency. Finn, Chapter 30, Part 2. Finn rolled to the side, narrowly avoiding being bitten. The creature that had landed in Finn's place now faced Helmut. It looked somewhat like a larger monkey, but it was still a monster. It bared its teeth and leaped at Helmut. Watching this, Helmut's eyes were eerily calm. Like a flash of light, his sword was drawn. Helmut's sword effortlessly sliced through the monster, bisecting it. Whack, what? What did I just see? Tanya's eyes widened. The speed of the sword was so fast that its trajectory was invisible. With a nonchalant tone, Helmut kicked the cleanly split monster aside and said, It seems dead. Yeah, it does. Ah, I must have cut through the core too. It won't be worth anything now. Regrettably, Helmut muttered as Finn clumsily got up. What happened? Did you do this guy? Tanya looked at Helmut with a troubled expression, as if seeing something strange and unfamiliar. Helmut, instinctively making excuses, sheathed his sword at his waist. This sword must be good. It cuts well. Darien didn't like decorations, so no one had really examined the plain sword. But now the light lingering on the blade was extraordinary. Tanya nodded. Must have been a critter that was playing dead, got a bit stiff maybe. Finn seemed to think nothing of it. He got up and patted Helmut on the shoulder. Hey Helmut, thanks, I owe you one. I'll fill your bowl with soup later. Finn was in charge of cooking and he was quite good at it. Wait, there was a living one. Did you take it down? Soon, the mercenaries gathered around, curious about what had happened. But no one had seen it clearly. It seemed like the matter would be resolved just like that. That night, having escaped the site of the bloody battle, the group stopped only when it was late at night. They needed to leave the forest as soon as possible, fearing the monkey beast might attack again. There was a consensus on this, so they hurried, even though it was burdensome. The forest, with its paths barely cleared. After cutting down trees to make space for camping, they lit a campfire and had their meal in the peaceful sounds of crickets chirping and occasional bird calls filling the air. The presence of magical creatures would usually silence the insects, so their noises were a sign of safety for the moment. Guard duty will be split into pairs, rotating in 3 shifts. Helmut and Tanya, Finn and Marrows, Sean and Byrne, Uter, you're out due to your injury. Fiend, a second-rank mercenary and the leader of the mercenary corps, did not stand guard. He emphasized the importance of vigilance, warning against any laxity in guard duty. Sean grumbled in response. I should have pretended to get a scratch too, then I could have slept comfortably. Jealous. Want me to give you a natural scratch with my knife? Enough already, aren't you tired? After a short exchange, the mercenaries went to sleep much quicker than usual. They fell asleep almost instantly, knowing well the importance of rest with uncertain dangers looming ahead. Without a head count, those not on guard duty could sneak away unnoticed. Helmut waited patiently. He had become accustomed to sneaking out nightly under the guise of practicing vis, only returning after a couple of hours. In front of others, he only practiced basic movements. Time's up, sleep well. With those words, Tanya, who had been struggling to keep her eyes open, was the first to go to sleep. Maybe now's the chance to create an opportunity. A cold smile crossed Helmut's lips. He had not forgotten his target. Rising from his spot, Helmut moved stealthily towards the area near the Tarik mercenary corps. Kellup was still awake. Unexpectedly, he slept little and was diligent, especially when it came to tormenting Helmut and Finn. On a night when everyone was exhausted from beast extermination, vigilance against Kellup might be lower, thinking he wouldn't bother harassing fourth-rank mercenaries after a casualty within their mercenary corps. But fatigue was a foreign concept to both Helmut and Kellup. Kellup had merely watched from under the carriage, excusing it as protecting the fourth-rank mercenaries, and Helmut did the same. Helmut walked into the nearby woods, sensing Kellup following. He had half expected Kellup to shrink back due to fear of beasts, but that didn't seem to be the case. While he tried to keep his presence hidden, it was impossible to completely silence his steps given his size. When Helmut felt he was far enough from the camp, he stopped in a clearing and casually reached for his sword, pretending to start practice. Rustle, rustle, Kellup made no effort to hide his approach, revealing himself with exaggerated footsteps and a smirk. Hey kid, risky to come here alone, isn't it? It's dangerous. We have unfinished business from before, don't we? Kellup intended to beat Helmut until he was bleeding and crying, still feeling humiliated from being chased off by Tanya. Frozen, huh? Helmut didn't move. Kellup stepped closer menacingly. You should have kept a lower profile. No one's here to help you in places like this. Hiding behind a girl's skirts won't work. Only then did Helmut speak. I knew you would follow. What? Kellup's eyes widened. Helmut's gaze was as calm as the night. An oppressive aura seemed to emanate from his dark pupils, leaving Kellup in disbelief. Why am I being intimidated by this kid? It's so predictable, it's almost boring. This was a good place to deal with Kellup. Here, no one would suspect a fourth-rank mercenary like Helmut. The narrative would be simple. Strayed a bit too far from camp and was attacked by a demonic beast. Kellup snapped back to reality. This was just bravado. How could this small fry stand a chance against him? If that's what you think, you're really out of your mind. Kellup raised his hand not to slap but to crush Helmut's head with his massive palm. However, the descending hand froze midair. Helmut's pale fingers had seized Kellup's wrist. Though it seemed a gentle grip, Kellup couldn't move, as if his thigh had been grabbed. Cold sweat formed on Kellup's brow. The one without fear is you, or perhaps just stupid. Aye, or is it both? Perhaps it would be best to pluck out such ignorant eyes. After all, who else would recognize Helmut for who he truly was? Helmut kindly lowered Kellup's hand and then placed his own on Kellup's shoulder. As soon as Helmut applied pressure, an irresistible force pushed down. KGHHH, with a groan, Kellup's 2 knees, which had collapsed without strength, touched the ground. Thud, Kellup couldn't believe what was happening. What the hell is going on? Chapter 31, Part 1. Helmut's head tilted quirkily. He spat out with a cold gaze, I don't want to strip your pants off, so kneel and beg and I'll let you go just like this. His tone was flat, but it sounded mocking. Even if it wouldn't be satisfying to hang him naked near the campsite upside down and utterly humiliate him, one must be merciful to the weak. It was a teaching of Darien. Helmut crossed his arms and stared at Kellup as if to dare him to beg. It was absurd. He was just a 14-year-old boy. A mere fourth-rank mercenary shouldn't be able to do this to him. The boy was sneering at Kellup with an expressionless face. Of course, he couldn't accept it. His pride wouldn't allow it. Sometimes pride shatters the sense of reality. Who would beg to someone like you? Kellup sprung up and headbutted Helmut. Helmut easily dodged by twisting his body to the side. Ah, yeah, Kellup screamed as he drew his sword. His strength was among the best in the Tarik mercenary corps. The sword swung by Kellup made a terrifying noise as it sliced through the air. You just kicked away your last chance. Helmut calmly drew his sword, a man without proper skills. His body has dulled even more from not training lately. One arm is broken and his balance is off. Dodging his recklessly swung sword was easy. Helmut, moving into range, swung his sword at Kellep's ankle. Schick, the sharpness worthy of a famous sword. Helmut's sword sliced through Kellep's leg flesh without friction. Blood spurted out like a fountain due to nicking a blood vessel. Ugh! As Kellep staggered, Helmut, who had passed by him, stabbed from behind again. Blood dripped from the other leg where the sword tip penetrated. A bipedal human loses their means of movement if their legs are injured. Thud, Kellep staggered and sat down on the ground. Helmut's movements were as fast as the wind. He couldn't even react properly, let alone read the movements. Fear filled Kellep's eyes. Helmut, approaching him, seemed like a reaper to him. Helmut clenched the handle of his sword tightly. Seeing blood, a ferocious impulse boiled within him. It seemed as if the patience he had endured until now had turned into a murderous intent, uncontrollably stretching out. He wanted to maul and kill until his body was covered in blood. Kill, nobody would know even if he died anyway. A vicious and wild cry echoed within him. This is, however, Helmut abruptly stopped. His senses returned, a dark will dominating his reason. This emotion, unnaturally powerful, drawing him in. Helmut knew what this was, the seed of darkness. What seemed to have faded away while passing through the barrier, that small entity coiled inside his heart, was swelling in response to Helmut's murderous intent. I must not lose myself, Darien's last words struck his head. Kellep tried to kill Helmut. It's not slaughter for Helmut to kill him, it's justified, but it must not be done in the grip of murderous intent. Helmut suddenly realized his breathing was rough. He calmed his breathing and composed himself. You cannot control me, Helmut declared towards the SRRD of darkness and forced it back into his heart. The slightly increased volume was irksome, feeding on emotions of malice perhaps. The magical energy seated in this forest seemed to have drawn out the seed of darkness. Darien told me to stay away from magical energy. He would have to heed that advice once this task was completed. Only after all this did Helmut realize that Kellep was no longer in his spot. In the time he had paused, Kellep had desperately run towards the campsite. Insane, what kind of thing is that? That's not human. Despite the darkness, for a third-rank mercenary not to even properly see the movement. It was faster than the movements of his brother, a second-rank mercenary. Such movement was impossible for a 14-year-old boy. Blood was dripping from his legs, but Kellep, paralyzed by fear, felt nothing. He was running purely on the instinct to survive. The will to live moved his legs. As the campsite neared, hope returned to Kellep. He didn't even notice that the sound of the insects had stopped at some point and ran mindlessly. Almost there. If I shout from there, Helmut began to follow Kellep belatedly, the instinct of a hunter to plant an arrow in the neck of fleeing prey. However, the moment the hunter noticed its back, something massive in the air swooped down on the prey. It was as if night had covered the night. Kellep felt his vision turn pitch black as if he had gone blind. What? Crack, eternal darkness descended. Kellep couldn't even let out a scream before his breath was cut off. Helmut's steps halted. His eyes pierced accurately through the darkness. That guy, this dense magical energy, as expected it appeared again. A familiar shape revealed itself in the darkness, backlit by the campfire, a giant monkey, red eyes flashed in the darkness. The creature pushed its claws into the back of the human it was sitting on. Crunch. The claws crushed through muscles and spine to reach their target. The creature that had pulled out a fresh heart from the just-deceased human savored it contentedly. That one's mine, Helmut spoke, standing still. His voice was surprisingly calm. The purple-faced monkey rolled the heart in its hand and tilted its head. Key, you've just stolen mine. Helmut spoke again, his gaze deeper than usual. Helmut was slightly angry. He hadn't properly vented his anger. Wasn't Kellep's death too comfortable a fate for him? Thump, thump, the monkey holding Kellep's heart took steps towards Helmut. After about 10 steps, the creature blatantly chewed and swallowed the red meat as if to provoke. You can understand words. Helmut was convinced. This monkey-shaped demonic beast had high intelligence. Chapter 31, Part 2. It might not be able to speak, but if a creature with high intelligence develops demonic nature, it can understand speech. Most humans wouldn't think it possible to converse with a demonic beast, but Helmut was different. He grew up in the forest of roots where it wasn't strange for demonic beasts to talk. Key. The monkey demonic beast looked at Helmut as if observing him. Compared to his body, it was a tiny young human. Soft flesh and thin bones, it would be tender to chew. It didn't like that this human wasn't trembling in fear like others. Moreover, it was a bit strange. Though human, it faintly felt like a demonic beast. If you attack me, you'll die, Helmut stated bluntly. Demonic beasts know how to gauge the strength of their opponents. Helmut met the creature's gaze, revealing his vis, which was mixed with faint magical energy. His body was faintly enveloped by a gray aura, similar to how demonic beasts emit magical energy. Feeling the formidable aura, the creature bristled its fur, screaming threateningly as it infused its cry with magical energy. K-I-E-E-K, Helmut commented almost disdainfully, shouting like that will wake the humans, won't it? Indeed, noise began to stir in the campsite. Rustling and clanking sounds followed as people woke up and grabbed their weapons. The once silent atmosphere tightened with tension. Helmut pointed towards Kellep's body. "I'll give it to you, so just take that body away." Having a pierced back didn't matter much, but the slashes on the legs were a problem. He had intended to kill and bury or dispose of the body, but this could work out. Or is it? "I regret not finishing it with my own hands." He wavered. His hand reached for his sword again. This monkey demonic beast, should he kill it to prove his strength? How much would the Butin Trading Company raise his pay? He was slightly conflicted. However, considering Tanya's reaction earlier, there was something off. It was unclear if it was the right situation to reveal his strength. Humans, awoken and armed, were approaching from the direction of the screams. The demonic beast, without its minions and facing humans alone, needed to make a quick decision. Whether to attack and flee or simply flee. The creature hesitated. The unsettling aura Helmut exuded confused it. The faint magical energy felt in Helmut's aura was too strong to be underestimated. But the one in front was just a human after all. Prey according to his demonic instinct. A normal demonic beast would have attacked the human before it, following its instinct without realizing the human's strength, but its high intelligence held it back. The decision not to attack was clear. However, to flee just like that was against its pride. Pride, intelligence, and instinct were in turmoil, while the torch-bearing mercenaries got increasingly closer. Glancing back and forth between the people and Helmut, the creature finally moved. "Kie." As if saying, "See you next time," it made a sound and leaped away. Not forgetting to grab Kellep's body, the creature jumped up a tree and disappeared. Helmut sighed. It was a mix of relief and disappointment. He was left alone. Helmut thought about how to explain this situation as he moved towards the campsite. Someone spotted him from the opposite side and shouted, "Who's there?" "Who is it?" "A person, it's me." Helmut raised his hand. Recognizing his voice, the members of the Pace Mercenary Corps quickly approached. "Helmut." Under the moonlight, Helmut's face appeared pale, as if he had nearly encountered a disaster. "Why are you here? Let's go back to the campsite and talk." Fiend grabbed Helmut's shoulder and led him. Surrounded by the Pace Mercenary Corps, Helmut returned to the campsite. Miles was waiting with a serious look at the campsite. Helmut was led in front of Miles. Others were likely to conduct a search around. Standing among the stern-faced mercenaries, Helmut faced Miles. The wrinkles on his forehead seemed to reflect his worries. Two second-rank mercenaries of the Tariq Mercenary Corps besides Fiend and Tanya were present. The questions fell like an interrogation. "Explain what happened. Why were you in that place? You know you shouldn't leave the campsite recklessly." Helmut responded calmly, "I was going to relieve myself. I thought it might smell, so I went a bit farther." They seemed to understand, but their expressions were sour. Only Tanya rebuked, "Still, there was an attack earlier. It was reckless of you. You should have told someone." "Tanya, now's not the time to argue about right and wrong." When Fiend intervened, Miles waved his hand. "Go on, continue." "I was walking away from the campsite when I realized someone was following me. It was Kellep." "Kellep." The two second-rank mercenaries of the Tariq Corps looked at each other. Only now did they realize Kellep was missing. "That guy still hasn't come to his senses," Tanya burst out angrily. The listeners seemed to be on her side. Maybe he had a knack for piecing stories together. Helmut continued seriously. "He tried to catch me, so I ran away. I ended up further from the campsite, and suddenly the beast from before appeared. The big one, it had followed me here." Tension spread across everyone's faces. This was the creature that had killed two third-rank mercenaries. Their vigilance was heightened. It probably thought Kellep was more appetizing than me because it attacked him. And when people started waking up, it took Kellep and ran away. That's the end of it. Chapter 32, Part 1. "So Kellep is dead then?" The members of the Tariq Mercenary Corps showed disapproval. Truly, he died in a way that was hard to speak of to anyone. Even his brother would find it ridiculous. To think he followed a young fourth-rank mercenary into the forest to bully him, only to get eaten by a demonic beast. His body couldn't even be found. Moreover, it was already a problem with the discipline of the Tariq Mercenary Corps that on the day of the attack, when two of their comrades had already died, he went off to do such a thing. "On behalf of the Tariq Mercenary Corps, I apologize." One of the second-rank mercenaries slightly bowed his head. It seemed like a well-handled apology without raising suspicion, but something felt lacking. Tanya stepped forward. "Is this all going to end with just a verbal apology, Max? You knew what that Kellep was up to, and you left him be until this kid almost died. The reward for Kellep's task will be paid to this child. Please handle it that way, Miles." Max, the second-rank mercenary, called out promptly. It wasn't his money anyway, so it wasn't a big deal to him. Actually, he was somewhat annoyed. Not just because of Kellep's case, but also because this situation had exposed the flaws of the Tariq Mercenary Corps in front of a client. No one died from the Pace Mercenary Corps, but 3 from ours. The loss of manpower was a problem, But what was worse was the atmosphere of the commercial guilds already favoring the Pace Mercenary Corps over theirs, and this incident would only confirm that sentiment. Perhaps the only positive was that a useless person had died. It's quite disappointing, really. I tried not to get involved in the problems between the two mercenary corps, expecting you to handle it yourselves. Now the atmosphere has been disrupted, and who knows what might happen before we even leave the forest. 3 have already died. We will be cautious, Miles sighed deeply. He had experienced many dangerous moments while leading the caravan, but this was the first time he felt so uneasy. The forest was more dangerous than expected, and the monsters were stronger. Maybe we should have hired more mercenaries. Miles always hired mercenaries with a margin for potential risks. He regretted that his calculations might have been too conservative. Well, it seems it wasn't a big problem, so let's move on. There's a chance that Monkey Beast could appear again, which would be a big problem. Make sure your people don't wander around at night. Yes. And then they dispersed, each returning to their respective campsites. As soon as they reached the campsite, Tanya turned around sharply. Snap, Helmut blinked. It was Tanya who had hit him. It hurt quite a bit. He sensed the swing. He thought it would hurt, so he tried to dodge, but while he was pondering whether it was okay to dodge, the fist had already reached him. Helmut protested, "It hurts." "It should hurt, you fool, you were almost killed. If you had just told me when you were on guard, I could have watched your back. What were you thinking, wandering around here alone without thinking?" The accusation of not thinking was unfair. Kellup or 100 like him wouldn't have mattered, and Helmut had driven away that demonic beast earlier. But he was the only one who knew that. Helmut's eyebrows twitched. Should I just tell her? He was strong. Strong enough to protect himself. He was confident he could prove it. Honestly, being considered on the same level as Finn didn't sit right with him, but there was something bothering him. Tanya had found Helmut near the Forest of Roots. If she were to connect that forest and him, it might not have been a good idea to reveal himself to her. Tanya crossed her arms and said, "Do you know how shocked I was when you were the only one not seen among our mercenary corps? Are you going to wander around on your own again? I was in a hurry because of an upset stomach. Maybe it was something I ate last night." Helmut made an excuse. "That's what you get for eating so recklessly." "I was hungry." As he made excuses, he noticed Tanya's expression becoming increasingly stern. Helmut suddenly remembered what to say in this situation. What did Finn say when he was pressed like this? "I'm sorry." He had never said that to Darien. In truth, Helmut had never done anything to apologize to Darien for. Darien wouldn't have thought to apologize while bossing Helmut around, though he might have expected gratitude. It was a learned response. Hanging out with Finn had slowly been improving Helmut's social skills. Tanya's expression softened a bit. "That's right, don't worry about Kellup's death. He deserved to die, don't feel guilty about it." Okay, he wasn't sure about guilt, but he was feeling another emotion. Helmut had his prey stolen by that monster. It was an infuriating situation, a one-sided loss. He won't just let it go, will he? Not as malicious as Naho, but he was a creature filled with toxicity. It would attack again before they left this forest. Since I got Kellup's reward, is it a gain? He needed money, and now he had more. That was satisfying, at least. Chapter 32, Part 2. Since it was known that the monkey beast had chased them this far, they couldn't spend any more time in that place. It seemed everyone had lost their sleep. 2 third-rank and 1 fourth-rank mercenaries. The creature had single-handedly killed 3 mercenaries. It was enough to instill a sense of alarm. The order to depart immediately was given. "We're going to force march, so refrain from dueling or training and conserve your energy. We've decided to leave the forest as quickly as possible." Everyone nodded gravely at Fiend's words. The preparations were almost complete. They would be departing soon. "Hey, Helmut," Finn sneakily approached and poked Helmut's side. Well, he tried to, but when Helmut swiftly dodged, Finn clicked his tongue and clung to him, saying, "Hey, troublemaker. From now on, I'm sticking to you day and night. You won't be able to do anything else. You'll be safe then." Even as he thought this, a wave of annoyance washed over him. Now he would have to drag Finn around all day. From the way it sounded, sneaking out for night training would be difficult. If he got caught sneaking out while they were supposed to be asleep, Tanya would give him an earful. Why would you think to walk into that pitch-dark forest? You're not afraid at all, you're just scared. If it were me, I'd just do my business in any corner, hoping the Tariq Mercenary Corps guys would step on it." Finn laughed mischievously, then glanced at the Tariq Mercenary Corps and whispered in Helmut's ear. "Honestly, I'm glad Kellup ended up that way. Really, it's bad to say this about someone who died, but I've been wishing every night that he'd get taken down by a beast. Guess my wish came true." His wish, too timid to enact vengeance himself, was modest. Whether this was a common thought among boys his age, Helmut, who had never encountered peers before, couldn't tell. But it was clear that Finn was both timid and a coward. "You're still alive at least, a hero of reversal, surviving even after encountering a demonic beast. You must have used up all your luck for a lifetime." Finn laughed, wrapping his arm around Helmut's neck. The contact made Helmut uncomfortable, so he pushed Finn away. let go, but Finn was used to being pushed away by Helmut. He always had that haughty look about him. How did it feel seeing that thing in the dark? Didn't you think you were done for? Hey, I thought I was going to faint when I saw it standing there with a human heart in its hand. My legs were shaking. Finn was seriously saying he would have fainted if he had been told to fight the monkey beast. If he had seen Naho's form in the Forest of Roots, he might have died of a heart attack immediately. Well, not really. Acting all cool, you didn't pee yourself, did you? This guy, not sure if he has the qualities of a mercenary, but he definitely lacks the qualities of a knight. But Helmut decided to hold his tongue. Complaining would only annoy Finn. Finn was in charge of meals. Even with simple ingredients at a campsite, he could create a variety of delicious dishes. This gave him some power, albeit temporarily. During meal times, regardless of what Finn said, everyone kept their mouths shut. It even crossed Helmut's mind that maybe the Pace Mercenary Corps brought Finn along just for this purpose. He was more than worth his pay as a cook. Seizing the moment, Helmut mentioned, "I got more reward money, they're giving me Kellop's share." "Wow, lucky you, after all that nagging he turned out to be useful. You're going to treat me right?" "Treat? Yeah, after we finish the quest in the village. Let's secretly have some drinks. People keep saying we're not of age and won't let us drink." Their whispering attracted a shadow. Helmut pretended not to notice. Soon a heavy fist landed, snap. "Ouch," Finn cried out, tears welling up in his eyes. Leading a perfectly good kid astray, this kid were still a long way from finishing the quest and he's already thinking about drinking. Tanya. With Tanya glaring daggers at him, Finn held his head. She gestured sharply. "We're leaving, let's go," Finn grumbled but followed her command. Helmut joined them. "Why do monsters attack so frequently?" Finn, having become accustomed to hiding under the carriage, muttered with a sickened expression. The sound of fierce fighting could be heard outside. It was a sound they had been listening to all day. Not long after their departure, they were attacked. After repelling one attack and setting off, another group of creatures would attack. Without a moment's rest, the mercenaries were constantly fighting off the assaulting beasts. Helmut and Finn didn't need to be told to hide under the carriage anymore. "Have all the forest monsters gathered here?" "Maybe," Helmut answered leisurely. Once he decided to hide his strength to avoid connecting himself with the Forest of Roots, the itching to fight subsided. He would step up if absolutely necessary, but not now. The presence of magical energy outside indicated they were only small fries. The mercenaries should be able to handle them. There were no attacks before that monkey beast appeared, right? Did the families of the beasts we killed come for revenge? A creative thought. Helmut looked at Finn with a disparaging eye. Finn, focused on the sounds outside, seemed not to notice Helmut's gaze. A sharp screech nearby made Finn jerk and move his head frantically. "It seems like a movement to tire us out." A smart monkey beast, its magical energy could be felt from a distance. It roamed around the mercenaries without engaging directly. Choosing not to attack was a decision for more efficient combat, sending minions continuously. The tense humans wouldn't be able to rest properly. It would appear to deal with the humans when they were exhausted. Not a difficult plan to come up with. In the Forest of Roots, demonic beasts rarely struggle against humans, but they don't always charge head-on when fighting among themselves. It seemed the monkey beast had experience dealing with humans. Finn turned to Helmut belatedly. What did you say?" "Nothing. Would anyone notice that obvious plan? But even if they did, what could they do? They couldn't just march into the forest to hunt down the monkey beast. It won't fight me for now." It was wary of Helmut, and the 3 second-rank mercenaries who had faced it directly would be on its mind. The mercenaries were loyal to their task. They faced the enemy, protected the wagons, and moved forward. It was an inevitable flow. Helmut observed quietly within this flow. To him, it was a boring journey for him. Chapter 33, Part 1. Only when night fell did the attacks subside, allowing the mercenaries to finally rest. After cutting down trees and setting up a simple camp surrounded by them, the mercenaries sat around a campfire they had lit. Roughly 10 attacks had occurred throughout the day. Without the manpower to collect the bodies, earning extra income was out of reach. Only the sensation of slicing through monster fur remained in their hands. The relentless attacks had them snacking on jerky and bread for lunch. Hunger gnawed at them. The mercenaries of the Pace Mercenary Corps were usually jovial, but today they were unusually quiet, conserving their energy for speech. Finn noticed the subdued atmosphere as well. Permission to fetch water was denied, so their meal consisted of thick meat soup made from stored water, into which they dipped bread accompanied by roasted eggs. Finn had prepared it so at least the taste was decent. Everyone ate silently as if to replenish their strength. Finn, with dark circles under his eyes from fatigue, was eating soup when Tanya whispered to him, "How much further do we have to go?" As a second-rank mercenary and leader of the Corps, Finn was Tanya's most trusted brother and a steadfast comrade who supported him. Since their opinions often aligned, they usually took on requests together. "If it's this forest, we still have 4 more days before reaching the outskirts. The problem is tomorrow." At this rate, everyone will be physically exhausted. That's true. I'm not sure what will happen starting tonight, especially since Marrow's injured his leg. It's not a severe injury, but it will affect our fighting capability. We'll have to pair him with Uter, who has an injured arm. Monsters are more active at night. It seemed they retreated at dusk, but based on past patterns, a peaceful night was unlikely. Tanya frowned. Our fourth-rank mercenaries might also have to fight. I saw earlier that the Tariq Mercenary Corps was planning to arm even their fourth-rank mercenaries. Can Finn handle it? It was a mistake to bring him here thinking it would be safe since it was a mission that involved a large number of mercenaries. Monsters don't take hostages, so they thought it would be less dangerous than missions involving humans. So far, Finn had not encountered danger, but the coming days were a concern. They were unsure if they could afford to fight while keeping an eye on the wagons. I should be able to protect myself. I don't expect more than that. Helmut should be fine. He's brave, decent with the sword, and seems almost fully recovered from his injuries. Helmut is. Tanya hesitated, about to mention something she observed, but then shook her head, dismissing it as a misperception. She spoke again. Since they stick together, Helmut should be able to look after Finn. They plan to place them inside, close to the wagons. Helmut's calm demeanor will have a good influence on calming Finn down. Then we should talk to those two. I'll do it. You lads, from tomorrow it's the real deal. Finn appeared while they were burying trash to avoid attracting smells and tapped Helmut and Finn on the head. Helmut, with his keen hearing, didn't react much, but Finn's eyes bulged as if he'd heard they were diving into ice water. What, the real deal? Yes, with the situation as it is, Miles decided to pay the mercenary group an additional fee. You two need to earn your keep. The third ranks have been rolling in dirt all day. If that big one shows up, Finn glanced around, apprehensive. Don't be silly, no one's going to match you up with that kind of beast. If you were to face that thing, our mercenary corps would be in dire straits. Finn inwardly smiled bitterly. It was a relief no one had died so far. The anxiety of potentially being wiped out lingered. They had to make use of any available manpower since they couldn't afford to spare anyone. Finn, go to Tanya, she'll check your stance. Finn gestured towards Tanya, and Finn, nervously adjusting his sword belt, ran to her. To Helmut, who had finished burying the trash, Finn, with crossed arms, said, Helmut, come here for a moment. Yes, you need to keep an eye on Finn, not that we want you in danger, but move together. You'll be placed inside, so fight with the wagon at your back. Yes, I will. Finn had dodged a monster's attack while collecting its corpse. Though he seemed to chatter incessantly, his movements were as nimble as his tongue. He had a natural survival instinct, so even if he couldn't fight off a beast, he was good at avoiding them. I think the beasts will keep attacking us until we leave this forest. It'll be hard to get a good night's sleep for a while. I know you've been practicing with your sword at night, but you should refrain for now. Did he notice? Perhaps he had noticed Helmut's absence from his bed at night. It seemed he hadn't noticed the secret training with Vis. Helmut nodded. Yes, I feel bad about giving you such a dangerous task when you're new to our corps, but I know you've had some sword training. You're prepared and calm. You seem confident in your skills. Finn smiled faintly. You'll do well. This will be a good experience for you, so stay calm and collected, understand. He patted Helmut's shoulder as if to reassure him. It seemed that he called to encourage the fourth-rank mercenary who would fight a demonic beast for the first time, or that's what he thought. Helmut had likely faced more monsters than any other member of the corps. The thought was somewhat absurd but not unpleasant. This sibling duo had been kind to him. They had rescued him without expecting anything in return, treated his injuries, and welcomed him into the mercenary corps. He owed them a lot. Even though Helmut was just a 14-year-old boy, their kindness was far from ordinary. Was this what Darien referred to as the warmth of humanity? It felt as if the seed of darkness in a corner of his heart was melting away, reducing in size. But he couldn't let his guard down. Helmut could never be like them as long as he harbored that dark seed. He was a human who had survived being abandoned in the Forest of Roots. Helmut must never forget that. If there are humans who show kindness without reason, there are also those filled with malice without reason, like Keleb. He must be content with understanding humanity through his mind alone. Let's do our best. Chapter 33, Part 2. After Finn left, Finn returned from receiving some quick instructions from Tanya. Wow, to fight against demonic beasts on my first mission, I'm so nervous I won't be able to sleep. Trembling, Finn patted his chest, while Helmut looked at him as if he were a heavy burden. In his own way, Finn was something like a benefactor, and now he was officially under Helmut's responsibility. Finn had another reason for not being able to sleep properly. That night they were attacked 3 more times, exactly at 2-hour intervals. Keeping watch was almost pointless. Just as they tried to catch a bit of sleep, they were attacked again, forcing everyone to sleep with their swords in hand. Uter ground his teeth in frustration. These damn creatures. They're filled with malice because they harbor magic. We might as well leave as soon as it gets light since we can't sleep anyway. Finn made a decision. Miles and the Tariq Mercenary Corps had come to the same conclusion. Their goal was to leave the forest as quickly as possible. Sean let out a deep sigh. Sometimes this is what being a mercenary entails. Once we get out of this cursed forest, let's have a drink. Forget the mission, I need a drink. Sounds good, I'm in too. In an effort to shake off their looming anxiety and fatigue, the mercenaries buoyed their spirits. Helmut quietly placed his hand on the hilt of his sword tucked at his waist. The time to draw his sword was near, and Helmut eagerly awaited that moment. To the wagons, Tanya raised her voice sharply. Helmut, taking Finn by surprise, positioned him with his back against the wagon. With the wagon behind them and mercenaries beyond it, no creature could approach from the rear. The horses pulling the wagons were all well trained. They were quite calm, as their vision was blocked and they couldn't smell the beasts due to the magical dust. The mercenaries did not allow beasts near the wagons. However, Helmut noticed that their defensive line had been slightly pushed back since yesterday. The bastard is watching me. He felt a gaze on him. The creature had chosen this passive approach likely due to Helmut's influence. It was wary of Helmut, a human who had dared to threaten the demonic beast. Since he revealed himself, the area around the Pace Mercenary Corps, where they were located, seemed to be targeted more by beasts. He must want to test me. Considering the number of monsters it has deployed, it must be the ruler of this region. Strong demonic beasts can dominate a territory. While common in the Forest of Roots, it was debatable whether that monkey beast was strong enough to compare to Alaga. It would be a disservice to Alaga to place it in the same category. If there's no stronger creature than that monkey beast, this should be easy. Helmut had paused his Vis training, but his body was nearing peak condition. It was almost as if he had been resting all this while. Just come at me. How much would the skin of such a large monkey be worth in the human world? A cold smile flickered across Helmut's lips, but now was the time to deal with the smaller creatures. Even with the rear blocked, the sky was open. Helmut swung his sword at the creatures falling from the densely packed trees above. Ag! Finn screamed as if he had been stabbed himself, clutching his head. Because of that, he missed seeing Helmut's sword slice through a monster's head at the speed of light. With a sound more like a light brush than a clash, the cleanly separated heads of the creature thudded to the ground. In one breath, Helmut had cut down two demonic beasts and then slapped Finn across the face. Smack, get a grip. This is just the beginning. It wasn't out of frustration that he wanted to hit Finn. What? Without another word, Helmut launched another attack. More creatures were leaping down from above. As he fended them off, they landed and charged at him. The battle began in earnest on all fronts, filled with the sound of combat. Seeing Helmut fight calmly by his side, Finn finally snapped out of his daze. Finn swung his sword like an axe, as if he had forgotten all the swordsmanship he had learned so far. Fortunately, some of the creatures fell to his clumsy strikes. Helmut moved as efficiently as possible. He wasn't showing off his vis, but he didn't hide his swordsmanship either, given the circumstances. No mercenary from the Pace Corps had the luxury to properly watch Helmut. They were all too busy fighting for their lives. The convoy continued to move forward, with everyone gritting their teeth and following the wagons. Any of them could have fallen in battle without it being a surprise. Meanwhile, the front had a bit more breathing room. Since they couldn't abandon the rear wagons, they couldn't move very fast, but focusing on killing one or two monsters that charged at them was manageable. It's blatantly targeting us. Have they decided to break through at one point? During a brief lull in the assault, Fiend muttered. This convoy was actually divided between the Tariq and Pace Mercenary Corps. With fewer numbers on the Pace side and the two second-rank mercenaries belonging to the Tariq Corps, they were unlikely to come to the rear's aid. Their priority would naturally be their own safety. Moreover, given the incident with Kelep, the Tariq Mercenary Corps harbored resentment towards the Pace Corps. Cooperation was unlikely. Knowing this, the beasts would focus their attack on one side. It's easier to defeat the enemy in detail. Unfortunately, it seems we've encountered a demonic beast with intelligence. Sweat ran down Fiend's back. He had been leading the charge, looking after his mercenaries and swinging his sword. He bore no ill will towards the Tariq Corps. They had their clients and wagons to protect. Was it good luck or bad? 3 of their number had already died. Just hope no casualties occur. With fervent hope, Fiend continued to fight. Despite the endless battle, an end always comes. They just had to survive until then. Chapter 34, Part 1. That day, the state of both camps making up the caravan was starkly divided. On one side, the Tariq Mercenary Corps, who had almost not fought that day and thus found some leisure. And on the other, the people of the Pace Mercenary Corps, who were nearly dying. Due to everyone being exhausted, it was decided that the Tariq Mercenary Corps would take over the watch. Since they had just been observing all this time, it was the least they could do if they had any conscience. Another person was added to the injured list. The new injured person joked with a laugh. Hey, at this rate, in a few more days, there'll be more injured people than those without injuries. Shut up. How sluggish do you have to be to get your leg caught? Are you a slug? That bastard should have had his mouth torn off. It was Sean. After Uter and Marrows, Sean was also injured. Sean had his left wrist bitten off while blocking a beast who suddenly lunged at him. His wrist was swollen with poison, but they had applied herbs and taken care of it. Despite the wound being severe enough to expose the bone, Sean did not lose his vitality even though he must be feeling tremendous pain now. In fact, everyone was more spirited than actually being on the verge of death. They might have been forcing themselves to appear that way, perhaps to alleviate the anxiety of not knowing when they might die. Finn was fine, with Helmut, who sliced through demonic beasts as if cutting meat, fighting beside him in the safest area. It was understandable. Having gained some confidence from this, Finn was astounded towards the end of a battle when he saw at least about 10 demonic beasts lying near Helmut, who had started a campfire. Sitting next to Helmut, who was starting a fire, Finn asked cautiously, "You really are good with the sword. Where did you learn?" "I don't remember." "Ah, right, but how do you remember swordsmanship if you can't remember anything else?" It was a sharp question. Helmut often forgot he had said he was suffering from amnesia. "It's ingrained in my body." "Really? Then do me one favor." "What is it?" "Friend, if I die, please take my body back to my hometown at least, so that I can be laid to rest in a sunny place." Choked by emotion, Finn covered his face and crouched. Finn, who had been complaining about his arms being sore from swinging the sword too vigorously, seemed to still have the energy to jest. "That being set aside, who's a friend?" One eyebrow raised. Helmut said in a cold voice, "Carrying a body is more troublesome, so you'd better go back to your hometown on your own two legs." "You heartless guy." Helmut easily shook off Finn, who tried to wrap his arm around his neck. As Helmut tried to ignore him and stand up, Finn took out his only weapon. "I'll dump loads of salt in your soup." Helmut sat back down. Such an ungrateful guy. Helmut had secretly helped him in dangerous moments today, too. It was because Helmut had slaughtered all the demonic beasts approaching them that Finn hadn't fallen into danger in the first place. He probably doesn't have the insight to notice that. Helmut sighed inwardly. He had never interacted with someone weaker than himself in such an equal position for this long. The feeling of getting used to it was strange. "Do you guys still have energy left?" Tanya passed by and said. "Helmut, you seem to fight well. Looks like your body has fully recovered." "Yes." Much more than when he had dueled with Tanya, it was as if a cripple had started running on two legs. As Helmut cut through the demonic beasts that the mercenaries struggled against, he became certain of one thing: he was strong. There was no need for a duel to prove it. If he were to fight Tanya again, he would win. This realization satisfied Helmut. "It might be good to take a promotion test once we return. Fiend will speak to Miles to give you a little more of your share." "What about me? I fought well too." Yes, you did well too. "Try hard again tomorrow," Tanya said nonchalantly and quickly left the spot. Helmut, ignoring Finn's grumbling, threw some firewood into the campfire. At that moment, a certain conversation was taking place on one side of the camp. Miles was facing Paul, the second-rank mercenary and representative of the Tariq Mercenary Corps. Miles, as the person in charge of the caravan, was deeply worried about the crisis they were facing. The wrinkles on his forehead had deepened even more than before they had started the caravan. "What do you need?" As you might have seen, the offensive seems to be concentrated on the Pace Mercenary Corps side. "Since you have more numbers, I hoped you'd actively help." Miles spoke in a strong tone, dissatisfied with the passive actions of the Tariq Mercenary Corps. However, Paul replied with a cool face, suggesting something else. "Wouldn't it be better to move only the important things from the back wagons to the front?" Miles squinted his eyes. "What do you mean?" "It's an unavoidable situation. They are very tired. They might soon be unable to serve as combat forces. A bold decision is necessary." The Pace Mercenary Corps had a total of 8 members, and with 3 injured, almost half of them were incapacitated. It would be harder to hold out by tomorrow. Even though they had 4th-rank mercenaries fighting, it was doubtful whether it would be effective. "If I had hired only the Tariq Mercenary Corps and it was them being attacked, would you still say the same?" Despite the 2 mercenary corps being competitors, isn't there such a thing as morality? Miles burst out, momentarily shaken. He had a long-standing commission relationship with the Pace Mercenary Corps. To abandon them like this would be like losing a reliable mercenary corps to entrust missions to. It wasn't about being cruel or not. It wasn't the time to discuss abandoning the Pace Mercenary Corps. However, the decision was in the opponent's hands this time. Chapter 34, Part 2. Paul smiled slyly, a smile that seemed to drip with coldness. He who held the real power in the Tariq Mercenary Corps was known to be cunning as a snake, a cold-blooded rumor. Paul never stepped forward unless absolutely necessary. Even during minor conflicts with the Pace Mercenary Corps or when Helmut was plotting something, he just watched the situation with his arms crossed. Fiend thought of him as neutral. But Paul thought if a crisis could be used to knock out a competitor, then it was a good opportunity. Mr. Miles, you knew the relationship between Tarek and Pace wasn't good yet hired both. You should know we wouldn't unilaterally take care of Pace problems. You had to have anticipated this situation. I thought you'd cooperate to fulfill the commission. I didn't expect such indiscrimination. You must not have expected this situation. A dangerous commission with wrong information. If we were to fight monsters like these, you should have hired at least 50 men. How many do we have here? Being stingy had brought them to a situation where the mercenary corps could be wiped out, making the caravan infamous. Miles' expression twitched. He indeed had estimated the personnel based on the danger of the mission, but trying to save costs, he ended up estimating a bit too conservatively. It's true that things have gotten difficult because of my mistake, but we agreed to pay for it. The Butin Trading Company intends to pay a fair price for the mercenaries' hard work. Of course, but that's if we live to escape this forest. If we die, all those thoughts become meaningless, as you know. The situation is not favorable. This is a battlefield and there's no capacity to care for the injured. We might all be annihilated. In such a situation, if the caravan fled and abandoned the mission, the Tariq mercenary corps reputation might suffer, but it would be offset by the fact it was an unreasonable request. However, going to extremes against a large trading company like Butin was a difficult choice for the mercenary corps. Paul and Miles were just eyeing each other, and eventually Miles threw in the towel. Just hold out for a few more days until we get out of the forest, somehow. The best method is to leave the wagons here and only escape with the people. Since it's a deserted area, if we're lucky, when we come back with a lot of mercenaries, everything will still be intact. That way, it's fine for the Pace Mercenary Corps to just escape with their lives. Will you do that? Miles had no other choice. The mission items were not something that could be exchanged for less than 10 mercenaries. If the mission items were lost, he would have to pay a huge compensation, and he would be reprimanded by the caravan leader. Miles would be in an unbearable situation. So your plan is, when an attack comes from behind, we abandon the back, including the wagons, and escape. Since their numbers are few and the attack will be concentrated there, the monsters won't pay attention to the front. Meanwhile, we break through the forest, move the goods, but what you're talking about, we'll see how it goes, don't worry, Paul smiled. It was a smile like that of a snake showing its fangs. It was rather quiet last night. That's a relief. Yeah, there was only one attack, right? It seems like we've thinned out the monsters living in this forest. The people of the Pace Mercenary Corps talked while having breakfast. Soon they would all be silent as they set off, but it was the only time they could afford to have a conversation. Fiend said. Miles said if it's unavoidable, it's okay to abandon the last wagon. It seems they changed the cargo last night. Then mostly food must be in the back wagons, right? Yeah, food can be resupplied once we get out of this cursed forest. Hey Helmut, yes, soon we might need to see your hunting skills. There are some big eaters here, so you'll have to run around a lot. Yes. Helmut pondered for a moment whether to talk about what he had heard. He was just about to enter the nearby forest to gather more firewood. No one had truly recognized his skills yet, but since he had been acknowledged to some extent, Helmut had become free to move around alone. During this time, he overheard Miles and Paul gathering together and talking. Helmut instinctively killed his presence. He was more than 50 steps away, so it wasn't that he was eavesdropping, it just so happened that he heard them. His hearing was exceptionally good. Abandon the Pace Mercenary Corps, use them as shields and escape. That was their plan. Helmut knew that this wasn't a common decision among humans. Is this what betrayal is? The betrayal that Darien had suffered. Probably the first betrayal he witnessed in the human world. The people of the Pace Mercenary Corps didn't know anything and were burning with the will to endure just today. If I tell Fiend, what would he do? He might confront Miles. But there was no evidence. The evidence was only Helmut's words. Even if Fiend believed Helmut, he wasn't the type to give up the commission and escape the forest by themselves. This fact could lower the morale of the Pace Mercenary Corps. They might blatantly abandon us now if they know that we found out. Yesterday's battle had been hard. There were also 3 injured. Since the Pace Mercenary Corps was tight-knit, they wouldn't abandon anyone. Then, knowing their intentions were discovered, the other side might more readily decide to abandon the entire Pace Mercenary Corps. Helmut quietly sorted out his thoughts. If this goes on, the situation where 3 second-rank mercenaries collaborate to beat that monkey monster won't happen. Then it's only me who can catch it. I can't hide my skills. Then the fewer people who witness my skills, the better. It was rather a good opportunity. Finn, who had realized Helmut was a strong swordsman, didn't connect Helmut with the Forest of Roots at all. When prompted to guess about his past, Finn crafted a whole creative novel where Helmut might have lived with a retired swordsman deep in the forest and was chased here by the swordsman's enemy. He even added a speculation that Helmut might actually be from a noble family that was annihilated. Although some parts uncomfortably matched, that allowed Helmut to be confident in revealing his skills. If someone guesses the relationship between the Forest of Roots and me, Helmut would have to silence them, even if it meant killing. Fortunately, that wasn't necessary. The scenario Finn provided would be useful later. Chapter 35, Part 1. Again today, Finn clicked his tongue. With 3 injured, the strength of the Pace Mercenary Corps was definitely reduced. However, the monster's onslaught that started not long after they set off was concentrated on the rear of the convoy, just like yesterday. Our rank 4 mercenaries are playing their part well. They were more than making up for the decreased combat ability of the rank 3 mercenaries who had been dulled by injuries, especially Helmut. That guy is definitely not just a rank 4 mercenary. Helmut was fighting quite well with his back against the carriage. His expressionless face made it hard to tell if he was tired, but he seemed to be in good shape. He had stamina and was useful. Including him in the corps, even if it was a bit forced, was the right decision, but the burden on Finn was definitely increasing. He had planned to save his strength for when the monkey beast appeared, but with reduced forces, Finn had to fight without holding back. At least he felt less burdened thanks to the good teamwork with his younger sister Tanya. She also managed to avoid injuries and provided decent support by his side, but a critical moment was approaching. We really might have to abandon the carriage. The Tariq Mercenary Corps fought passively. Finn had tried to ask for help before they departed, but the answer was to conserve strength in anticipation of the unknown leader of the demonic beasts. By now, it was hard to stay silent. It seemed they might even wish for the complete annihilation of the Pace Mercenary Corps. Could mercenaries be this uncooperative with each other? Damn them! Finn slashed at the beast clinging to him and shouted, "Abandon the carriage and quickly join the front line." He was worried about running out of food, but once they left the forest, they could procure supplies from anywhere. Protecting the food wasn't the issue now. They were like defeated soldiers retreating from battle. They couldn't take everything with them. But then, wait, look there. The distance between the front and the last carriage had widened. The continuous battles at the rear naturally slowed them down. Suddenly, the front carriage started to speed up. With the Pace mercenaries pushed to the back, the convoy split into 2 in no time. With the front line not slowing down, there was no way to catch up. What are those guys doing? They're using us as a sacrifice to escape for themselves. Those bastards. Realizing the situation, the Pace mercenaries cursed. The demonic beasts did not spare them and rushed towards the remaining humans. Finn grimaced in despair as he cut down a monster. We've been abandoned. Not anticipating this was his mistake. It couldn't have been just the Tariq Mercenary Corps' decision. He had been trading with Miles of the Butin Trading Company for a long time. Because of that, he didn't doubt when they were asked to move the goods in the last carriage. In such difficult times, trust was crucial. Looks like this is where we'll end. I'm sorry, everyone. Finn clenched his teeth. It was a desperate situation. They were abandoned in a forest full of demonic beasts with 3 injured. There was nowhere to run. Unless a miracle happened, they were all going to die. Yet, even in this extreme situation, the will to live did not falter. Everyone was aware of the situation but did not lose their fighting spirit. Even Finn, for once, stood with his sword held straight, his face pale. The Pace mercenaries gathered around the carriage, preparing for a desperate fight. It wasn't the time to break through carelessly. Forming a tight circle and fighting to the last was the only way to resist. As if sensing their resolve, the attacking beasts slowed their assault, circling slowly, looking for an opportunity. Red eyes glowed from all directions. Even a weak magic power felt heavy like dense fog when concentrated in one place. In the tense atmosphere, Sean spoke. "Isn't there something like a hunting squad here? If they showed up right now, I'd even lick their feet. If there was, these creatures wouldn't have bred so much. A mercenary's death isn't so bad. Dying in battle isn't the worst way to go. Speak properly. You'll probably be killed from behind. SHT, just thinking about my corpse filling those things' bellies makes me refuse to go down like this. I'm more worried about mixing with you in their stomachs. We're not a couple to be mixed together in the same grave, let alone the same stomach. I'm fine with Tanya, though. Is that a confession? Ooh, better a woman than a man anyway. Keep your mouth alive till the end, will you?" Tanya murmured somberly. She looked back at her brother. Finn watched the beasts with dark eyes. Tanya opened her mouth to speak but hesitated. "I hope at least he survives." Finn might be able to escape alone. He was a rank 2 mercenary and in better condition than the other mercenaries, but he would never do that. He wasn't the type to abandon his comrades, especially his only kin, to escape alone. Tanya steeled her gaze. At least she wouldn't die alone. It was time to fight for their lives as long as they could. As everyone tensed for the tightening noose of monsters, suddenly a calm voice spread through. "I have a way out." Chapter 35, Part 2. It was an emotionless voice, chilling the excitement and tension. Every word distinctly hit the ears. The mercenaries turned to look at Helmut. His expressionless face was peaceful, as if this situation wasn't a crisis for him. "But there's a condition." "What is it?" Tanya asked, a strange premonition seizing her. She saw it, Helmut's sword, but it was fleeting like a mirage. Helmut simply stroked the sword handle and said, "Silence. Silence about everything you see here, that's my condition." "What are you talking about?" This time it was Finn. Instead of answering, Helmut tightened his grip. He felt a boiling heat within, it sharpened into a sword. He had restrained himself enough, endured enough. Had he ever been so patient in a hunt before, now there was no need to hold back. "I'm saying I'll save you, all of you." The next moment what settled on his lips was a predator's smile. Threateningly confident and smug, the demonic beasts charged, thinking the mercenaries were distracted. Helmut's sword left its sheath. The mercenaries gaped as the ash-gray blade materialized, its presence blossoming. That is, Vis, the manifestation of Vis, something even a rank 2 mercenary couldn't mimic. The embodiment of power only manifested by those who had reached the sword's domain. And it wasn't something a 14-year-old boy should be able to show. Whoosh, a gust of wind stirred. It was like an explosive whirlwind had suddenly swept through this place. It was a moment of slaughter. The ash-gray sword boasted its might, tearing through space. The demonic beasts died without knowing how. There was no chance for hit-and-run tactics. Their renowned regeneration was useless after death. With each swing of Helmut's sword, thick fur imbued with magic power was sliced as easily as paper, cutting down to the bone. The speed of the sword strikes was invisible to the eye. It was a one-sided massacre. As if slicing meat in a butcher shop, Helmut wielded his sword without any resistance. The precise nature of his swordsmanship was indiscernible. The Pace mercenaries gaped in unison. "What am I watching? Is this a dream?" But it was reality, a vivid reality unfolding before their eyes. The Pace mercenaries, who had braced for death moments ago, found themselves miraculously out of danger without lifting a finger. It was a miracle beyond their imagination. After Helmut dispatched the last monster, he looked around. Few had escaped alive. He had been annoyed, having to hold back against the swarming pests. Because of that, he made sure to catch and kill them more persistently. "It seems to be over." Helmut smiled as he surveyed the clean surroundings. His rare smile sent shivers down the spines of the Pace mercenaries. Finn looked at Helmut with a stunned face. This was not the Helmut he knew. It was as if something had taken Helmut's place. Is that really the weak Helmut, the one sweating profusely as he climbed the hill? It felt like they should start calling him Lord Helmut. The events leading up to this moment flashed through Finn's mind. "How could you, your skills?" As Tanya stuttered, Helmut, sheathing his sword, replied succinctly, "My body has recovered." Tanya seemed about to say something but then closed her mouth. Normally, recovery doesn't lead to such a dramatic display. "What have I picked up? What have I discovered?" Tanya and Finn thought simultaneously. Finn, who had been watching Helmut fight in shock, finally spoke. "A swordsman who can manifest Vis at 14. I've never heard of such a thing. Where did you learn to use a sword?" "I don't remember." Helmut's amnesia was convenient. Finn stuttered, "Right, your memory. Is it really amnesia?" Doubts arose, but there was no way to confirm them. "I might have lived in the forest with my master." Helmut feigned recalling before stopping. It was better not to say more and reveal any weaknesses. The Pace mercenaries were silent, staring at him as if he were a foreign, unbelievable entity. Helmut and the Pace mercenaries stood distinctly apart. It was natural for things to turn out this way, so Helmut decided not to mind. Even if they had come together for a while, Helmut was a different entity from them. "What do we do now?" "How?" Frustrated by the sudden loss of initiative, Helmut pressed, "What are we going to do? It seems like the remaining danger is gone. The monkey beast has fled." It had been observing from a distance, but once Helmut showed his true capabilities, it ran off in fear. If it had attacked, it would have met the same fate as its minions. Its intelligence perhaps led it to a quick decision. "We should get out of this forest, for starters. Catching up with those who went ahead might be necessary." He gritted his teeth as a forgotten detail resurfaced. The Tariq mercenaries and the people from the Butin Trading Company were probably still rushing to escape the forest by sacrificing them. Though the mission was practically a failure, since they survived, they could demand compensation. Grabbing the representative of the Tariq Mercenary Corps by the collar and beating him would be justified. The food in that carriage should be enough, but with injured among us, we better head to a village for treatment. Finn glanced at Helmut and asked, "But you? Will you join us?" "I mentioned receiving compensation. The commission hasn't been fully paid, so of course." Does he care about money? Finn was convinced Helmut was human after all. He thought he had recruited a promising boy, but the opponent turned out to be a terrifying entity beyond the Pace mercenaries' handling. Grasping the reality that had slipped away, he made a decision. "Then let's chase those who went ahead first, that seems best." Chapter 36, Part 1. Helmut looked over the beasts scattered around him with a hint of regret. "Are we not collecting the demonic beasts' corpses? There's not a whole one among them, so it seems unnecessary." Tanya, having barely regained her composure, surveyed the surroundings and spoke. Helmut felt a bit disappointed. He was slightly excited after showing his strength in battle for the first time in a while. He should have fought with the value of the corpses in mind. Fiend gestured to the mercenaries who were standing around unsure of what to do next. Let's move on. The horses pulling the carriage were calmer than the mercenaries. The mercenaries reformed their ranks and prepared to depart. As Helmut walked toward the back of the carriage, the mercenaries jumped like frightened rabbits at his passing. Finn, who had been moving with Helmut out of habit, approached him tentatively. Helmut, Finn hesitated over whether to use formal speech before cautiously calling out to him. Why, no, it's nothing. Finn shrugged off his concern and fell silent. Normally, he would have been chattering away at Helmut's side, but he was unusually quiet. It was a bit lonely, but also a relief. After all, Helmut's ears had been suffering from Finn's constant chatter. In an awkward and tense atmosphere, the Pace Mercenary Corps hurriedly made their way through the forest. Let's rest here for the night. As the sun began to set, Fiend suggested stopping in a small clearing they had found. The stiff atmosphere had gradually relaxed, and conversations started to flow more easily. They had survived an improbable situation. It was a positive turn of events. A sense of relief had eased their moods. They must have escaped quickly, not even looking back. They'd have more energy than us. If we were massacred, they'd be next. They'd want to get out of the forest quickly. A campfire was soon lit, and everyone started to feed their horses. Finn, who would normally be bossing others around and dividing tasks, moved around doing things without being asked. No one asked Helmut to do anything. He was no longer just a fourth-rank mercenary doing errands. Even Finn, a second-rank mercenary, was wary of him. The pecking order had completely changed. Sitting near the campfire in a comfortable spot, Helmut closed his eyes. It was a leisurely and peaceful moment. He could hear Finn and Tanya talking in the distance. We seem to have some food left over, and I saw various ingredients in the carriage. Should we make tonight's dinner a bit more abundant to celebrate our survival? Yes, but keep it moderate. We don't want anyone getting stomach trouble. I was thinking of making a broth with bones and adding plenty of meat. Eating meat will help with healing injuries. Does Helmut like sweet potatoes? He seems to prefer them over potatoes. He also seems to like candy, having a sweet tooth like a child. Tanya glanced at Helmut and nudged Finn. Why? Vis developed their senses. At his level, he can probably hear everything. From this distance, Finn looked doubtfully in Helmut's direction. Just then, Helmut opened his eyes and met Finn's gaze, startling him. Whoa, he doesn't seem like the petty type, but be careful in the future. That night, Helmut got to eat 5 roasted sweet potatoes all to himself. He also enjoyed plenty of delicious food. After joining the Pace Mercenary Corps, he realized that the cooking skills he had admired in Darien back in the Forest of Roots were actually quite ordinary. For Helmut, who had mainly eaten meat and mushrooms, every dish in the human world was a luxury. Eat up, we still have a long way to go before we're out of the forest. Don't let your guard down. As Fiend spoke, everyone devoured their food as if possessed. It had been a while since they had enjoyed a meal in such a relaxed mood. With Helmut around, demonic beasts were no longer a threat. Not a single one dared to come near after their massacre. Conversations drifted towards Helmut. Wow, it really feels like we're going to survive. It's like having a carpet laid out beneath us. Both our bellies and hearts are full. I wonder if Mercenary Corps with first-rank mercenaries always feel this way. Finn, go refill his bowl, it's empty. So now it's his. The hierarchy among mercenaries is based on strength, isn't it? That's right. Helmut chewed on his sweet potato, enjoying its rich and sweet flavor. Caught gossiping, Finn nervously refilled the empty bowl. The realization that his strength provided comfort to others was a novel feeling, but not an unwelcome one. That night, the Pace Mercenary Corps enjoyed a peaceful night for the first time in days. We're on the right track. Tanya squinted at the ground, following the trail of the party ahead. After a good rest, everyone was eager to move on. The conflict with the Tariq Mercenary Corps, the continuous struggle with beasts being abandoned. Everyone wanted to quickly conclude this unsightly and burdensome mission. Chapter 36, Part 2, A large group leaves traces. Especially in a dense forest, their passage was clearly marked. Broken branches and trampled grass were everywhere. They might have already reached the edge of the forest if they traveled through the night without stopping. If everything goes according to plan, they'll rest at the first village outside the forest. Maybe we'll catch up with them then. They'll probably be shocked to see us alive. They'll think they've seen ghosts. Old Miles will probably be more concerned about how much it'll cost to keep us quiet. Merchants are all the same. We won't let the Tariq bastards off easily. For real, they thought we were weak because we've been quiet so far. They wanted us to keep it down because we were outnumbered. Fiend said he'd dock our pay if we caused any trouble. Fiend coughed awkwardly at becoming the target of the conversation. I knew we should have just attacked that Helmut bastard when he messed with our guys. We just held back for nothing. That bastard's dead though. Well, he got what he deserved. 3 of them died and we all survived. How about that? I honestly thought Marrows was a goner. I've been expecting him to drop dead since he hurt his leg so clumsily. It's a miracle he's still alive. What are you talking about, you idiot? Marrows, targeted by Sean's comment, playfully swung his sheathed sword at him. Finn frowned. Stop the chatter. We haven't even finished the mission yet. We don't have any cargo to protect anymore. All that was left was a single food cart. They all looked bitterly at the cart, having been abandoned by their client due to betrayal. What's this? Helmut suddenly quickened his pace. Moving from the back of the cart to the front, he stared intently into the shaded area ahead. Feeling the unusual atmosphere, the chattering mercenaries turned their attention to Helmut. Do you sense something? Is it nearby? Helmut crisply announced after reading the air. There's a fight going on. A fight. An attack by beasts. Yes, I can feel the magical energy gathering, and that leader is there too. It seemed the persistent one had changed its target. Since it couldn't touch Helmut's group, it attacked the humans ahead. The desire to kill humans was palpable, fueled by the loss of many minions. That big one that looks like a monkey, right? How far away is it? Tanya asked, filled with regret. Even if the Tarek mercenary corps suffered, it would be problematic if the people from the Butin Trading Company were massacred. They could only receive their reward if Miles was alive. A mercenary corps that lost its client would have nothing to say. It would even risk being blamed for abandoning the client and running away. Helmut tilted his head and responded. If we keep up this pace, about an hour. Wait, you're sensing something happening an hour away? Fiend widened his eyes in disbelief. Helmut replied as if it was nothing significant. If we hurry, we can reduce that time. The Tarek mercenary corps should be able to hold on until we arrive. Fiend nodded, understanding the unspoken implication. Let's hurry, we need to secure the client and the cargo. Yes, the relaxed atmosphere tightened up. The distance was not as far as they thought. It seemed the group ahead had made their way through the untamed forest, while the Pace mercenary corps had followed a more beaten path, not making much difference in progress. A tense battle was about to begin again. Left side, maintain the formation. Forget the wounded, there's no time to care for them. Get a grip. The Tarek mercenary corps was in chaos. A monkey-like monster dropped from above, instantly killing 2 third-rank mercenaries. As panic and fear took the lead, the morale of the Tarek mercenary corps wavered. Paul, the representative of the Tarek mercenary corps and a second-rank mercenary, clenched his teeth. Damned, it's only been a day. It seemed to him that the Pace mercenary corps hadn't put up much of a fight and were massacred. Otherwise, it wouldn't have been possible for such a large number of monsters to catch up and attack all at once. Useless fools, Paul's gaze swept towards the carriage. The monkey beast, munching on a heart it had plucked out, watched from a distance with leisure, enjoying the scene. Several mercenaries' legs trembled at the sight. If only we could deal with that one. As a second-rank mercenary, he had to do something. He and Max would have to break through the monsters to attack it. Was it a feasible plan? It was tough even with 3 of us. The absence of Fiend, presumed dead, was regrettable for the first time. Was abandoning the Pace mercenary corps a mistake? Had they fought together, despite some sacrifices, they could have dealt with the beasts. It was a good opportunity to eliminate troublesome members, but they hadn't anticipated the monsters would pursue so relentlessly. Paul schemed coldly like a snake, seeking ways to survive the situation, but found none suitable. His thoughts drifted to a last resort. Maybe we should just run. He and Max, both second-rank mercenaries, could escape. If they abandoned the carriage and ran with all their might, they could reach the forest's edge in half a day. Survival was possible. What did the mission matter if they could live? If he survived alone after a total massacre, he would be branded a coward, but a tarnished reputation could be restored with skill later. Death was irreversible. For a second-rank mercenary, there would always be those who wanted them. It was a foolish mission from the start. Arg, another third-rank mercenary, fell. Their numbers were dwindling. Soon it might be too late to escape. A decision had to be made. Mercenaries are individualistic. While skilled mercenaries lead, they don't take responsibility for every subordinate's life. One's survival primarily depends on oneself. Though the Pace mercenary corps had strict rules and their leader took on more responsibility, making their reputation particularly good, it meant other mercenary groups were not as responsible. Paul raised his voice with clenched teeth. Hey Max, Paul, their eyes met and they understood each other's intentions through their gaze. Max was also considering escape. He nodded immediately. Scatter, Paul shouted and ran in one direction, with Max following close behind to cover his back. The others were just dead weight. The only ones they could trust were each other. Chapter 37, Part 1. Hey Paul, Max, where are you going? To scatter. Members of the Tarek mercenary corps quickly realized the situation and felt a sense of betrayal and a distant despair. This time, Paul and Max were not abandoning the Pace mercenary corps but everyone else. All for their own survival. Was this the behavior expected of second-rank mercenaries leading a mercenary corps? Miles, who was looking outside through the bars of a securely locked carriage window, turned pale. Max, Paul, you bastards. The sight of the two breaking through the encroaching demonic beasts and making their escape was clear. especially Paul, who had not hesitated to abandon the Pace Mercenary Corps to save himself, leaving Miles uneasy all day. Miles, a calculative merchant, was not heartless to the point of being cold-blooded. But why hadn't he realized anyone willing to abandon someone could also abandon their client? Mr. Miles, what do we do now? They're abandoning us, aren't they? Are we going to die now? Besides Miles, 3 other trading company members were in the carriage. Miles sighed inwardly and closed his eyes. It was all his fault. Hiring the Tarek Mercenary Corps, abandoning the Pace Mercenary Corps, even deciding to enter this forest in the first place. Good Lord Almighty! He clasped his hands and began to pray. As an old man who knew not the sword, that was all he could do. Immediately after Paul and Max chose to flee, the Tarek Mercenary Corps crumbled completely. With the second-rank mercenaries who were supposed to lead the fight running away, the morale of the remaining members couldn't possibly stay intact. Trust in each other was lost, and rather than trying to fight in formation, they scrambled for their own survival. Members of the Tarek Mercenary Corps either died while fleeing or fell one by one in resignation. There were those who stood their ground against the demonic beasts until the end, but they were overwhelmed and torn apart. The situation was gradually being resolved through the death of the mercenaries. Only the carriage and horses remained. Even while feasting on humans, the demonic beasts did not approach that area. It seemed right to target where that strong, dark human was absent. A monkey-like demonic beast stepped forward with satisfaction. It was curious why humans were so desperate to protect this large box. A transparent window was barred with iron. As it approached, it felt a fearful gaze from inside, so there were humans inside. Realizing this, the monkey demonic beast raised its voice. Kiek. A strike with its hand shook the carriage as if it were hit by an earthquake, denting it severely. A few more hits and it would crumble like an old box. Hihihi, the previously unaware horse cried out long. The monkey demonic beast grabbed the horse, yanking it out from its saddle, not merely removing it but forcibly extracting it. The horse, with broken bones, could not resist and died instantly. The monkey demonic beast had tasted a horse's heart before. It was a delicacy, but not as delicious as the heart of a human imbued with vis. Tossing the horse's corpse to its minions like throwing a dog or cat, the monkey demonic beast tipped the carriage over. Groans came from inside as they piled up in one place. Pleased, the monkey demonic beast tore off the carriage's top. Crack, crick, crack, eating one at a time would also be a delicacy. Though it took some effort, this hunt was successful. Finally feeling fully satisfied, the monkey demonic beast saw the humans inside, pale and trembling. The sight of their fear-filled faces whetted its appetite. It quickly reached in and pulled out a human whole. The humans screamed and flailed madly. The flesh was softer than that of the mercenaries, appearing more tender. The monkey demonic beast grinned, ripping off the human's arm. Kuwuk, the human with its arm torn off, rolled its eyes back in convulsion. After throwing the arm to its minions, the monkey demonic beast gulped down the pouring blood. The blood tasted different from that of the humans armed with swords. It was richer, more savory. The beast quenched its thirst with the rich, savory stream of blood, slurp. The blood dripping down the demonic beast's chin flowed back into the overturned box. The remaining humans were out of their minds with terror. They couldn't even faint. Unable to pray, their mouths frozen in fear. It was a horrific sight, unimaginable even in a nightmare. Oh, please. After sucking blood from the torn limb, the monkey demonic beast threw the corpse aside and reached back into the carriage. This time the humans were scattered, clinging to the carriage walls, making it hard to grab them. These frail humans were desperately fighting for their lives in this small space, but all that awaited them was death. Chapter 37, Part 2. Emotions like fear, anger, and sorrow gave strength to the demonic beast. Grinning, the monkey demonic beast grabbed a human flailing against the wall. A pitiful creature that couldn't resist and had to watch death approach. Sympathy, the beast felt none. The monkey demonic beast shoved the trembling human body into its mouth, starting with the head. The pulsing heartbeat was felt on its tongue. Crunching down, rich blood burst forth, moistening its mouth. Crunch, munch. The fragile bones mixed with the flesh under its powerful jaw, creating a satisfying blend. This harmony inside its mouth brought deep satisfaction to the monkey demonic beast. The 2 humans left in the carriage were stupefied by the tragedy unfolding in the air. Now only 2 were left. The monkey demonic beast regretted the meat it had thrown to its subordinates. Human flesh was an uncommon delicacy. After tasting human flesh once, it could not forget the flavor. The forest it lived in was isolated from the human world, but occasionally it welcomed guests like these. This time it encountered numerous and formidable guests, but in return it feasted to its fill. Chewing on the contents of its mouth, the monkey demonic beast spit out a foreign object, a bloody, tattered mix of clothing and shoes. Swallowing a human, the monkey demonic beast quietly observed the inside of the box. The most unimpressive, feeble human meat remained inside. This one seemed tastier than the others. Reaching for a younger human, it was careful not to let it die before being eaten. What would be the best way to eat this one? It pondered for a moment. Put that down. Chills ran down its spine. The monkey demonic beast immediately screamed, Kiyik, quiet. Helmut, who had approached right next to the demonic beast, frowned. Although he blocked the magical waves, his eardrums still buzzed. Suppressing my presence in approaching works, such a demonic beast could not detect his approach. Pleased with the outcome, Helmut felt good. No, his mood began to improve from the moment he drew his sword. A smile formed on Helmut's lips. He had come here first just in case. Members of the Pace Mercenary Corps would arrive soon as well, but their help wasn't needed. He could finish this before they even got here. 5 minutes, that should be enough. Helmut commanded the monkey demonic beast arrogantly while looking at it. I told you to put it down. There was no reason to show mercy to the one who had stolen from him. After all, Fiend had mentioned that the corpse of a demonic beast of this size could be worth a fortune. There were countless reasons to kill it and no reason not to. Key. The monkey demonic beast sensed Helmut's intent to kill. A strong human, having witnessed the scenes of his subordinates being slaughtered by the grayish vis emanating from him, the demonic beast realized it should not provoke him. So it chose to flee and prey on other humans. But the monkey demonic beast was now intoxicated with human flesh, in a weak state of excitement that robbed it of its judgment. Slightly squeezing the human it held, it exerted force in its arm. Whoosh. The human body was hurled directly at Helmut. Helmut easily sidestepped, avoiding it. Crash. The human body collided with the ground, rolling several times before coming to a stop. Whether it was dead or alive was anyone's guess. Dodging the attack, Helmut drew his sword. A grayish vis covered the sword's blade. Before, he had been too eager to show off his skills, resulting in an excessive discharge, fighting efficiently. Without unnecessarily extending his vis, he wrapped a single layer around the blade to maximize its sharpness. Darien's sword had the effect of tearing through magic on its own. With vis added, there was no way for the demonic beast in front of him to block Helmut's sword with its bare body. Flesh would be torn and bones would be cut. Helmut's eyes flashed coldly. If you wanted to live, you shouldn't have shown yourself again. It wasn't like he had the leisure to chase down and kill every one of them. He would have left them be otherwise. The monkey demonic beast bared its teeth, igniting magic in its blunt nails. The tables had turned completely. The Reaper's blade had changed direction. Humans and demonic beasts and humans. The one who had been devouring humans until moments ago was now the prey, and Helmut was the hunter. This was an unchangeable absolute truth. Let's enjoy this a bit. It would take only a minute to end its life. 4 minutes remained. This was the strongest opponent he had faced in the human world so far. Maybe it wouldn't hurt to warm up a bit. Humming to himself, Helmut swung his sword. Clang, clang. Each time the black nails charged with magic collided with the sword, they were chipped away, eventually bleeding. Despite bleeding from the fingertips, the demonic beast swung its arms with terrifying strength. This small human, why wasn't he being overpowered? It didn't make sense. The outburst of energy wasn't even that great. Vis granted transcendent power. Despite the vast difference in strength, Helmut wasn't pushed back at all. Key. Feeling the crisis, the demonic beast raised its voice. It seemed ready to fight alongside its minions, as those tearing apart the corpses of the Tariq Mercenary Corps members gathered, eyes ablaze. Helmut casually surveyed his surroundings. Cleaning up all the ones here should tidy things up nicely. For a while, this forest would be peaceful. It wasn't far from the Forest of Roots and was a topography conducive to gathering magic, so it would likely be reconquered by demonic beasts eventually. This time, let's kill them without leaving any marks. Damaging them would reduce their value. It seemed he could harvest quite a number of demonic beast corpses. Facing the demonic beasts charging at him with bared teeth, Helmut moved as if dancing. He tread lightly on the ground, smoothly moving left, right, forwards, or backwards. His movements were so swift that his figure appeared to overlap with itself. Large, rough movements were inefficient. Attacks were dodged and lives were taken in the openings found. Good swordsmanship achieves the greatest efficiency with the least effort. The swordsmanship that Helmut had honed over 4 years was fully displayed here. Snap, squeal, screech. One by one, each that leaped at him died. Targeting the neck was the most effective way to end a life, Helmut had realized. He strictly aimed for the neck. Hitting elsewhere would enlarge the wound, reducing the value of the corpse. Chapter 38, Part 1. The attacking demonic beasts were beginning to shrink back. When many attack at once, it's typical to suffer at least a scratch, but there was no opening. It was as if they were surrounded by a barrier. Taking only 1 or 2 steps from his spot, Helmut cut them down without even being touched. His sword strikes were swift and powerful, as if the concept of a blind spot did not exist. Has it been about 2 minutes? Helmut mused. Now only a few of them were left. As their numbers dwindled, they cowered, watching for the leader's signal. Demonic beasts dominated by magical energy. The weaker ones are controlled almost to the level of brainwashing. This control often overpowers their instincts. Hesitation meant the controlling force of the monkey beast was weakening. It crouched still in one place. What is it doing? In a moment, Helmut sensed it. Magical energy rapidly converging towards its heart. It planned to release its power in one go, intending to kill Helmut. It would lose most of its magic, but its minions were almost all dead. There was no one left to challenge the leader, Ki. With a growl similar to a roar, it lifted its head. Its violet face was turning dark blue. A murderous intent exploded from its fiercely distorted face. A chilling presence compressed the space around it, and the magic became significantly stronger. In an instant, the beast gained enough strength to overwhelm Helmut's defenses. This could be a threat to him. A slight tension made his heart race. Fighting by drawing out its power might be advantageous. Helmut frowned as he felt the presence of Pace Mercenary Corps members approaching. They seemed to have rushed here due to the unfavorable situation, leaving their comrades behind. It would be troublesome if their client died. They'll just get in the way if they try to help. He had never fought while protecting someone else. Nor had he ever cared to. I need to end this quickly. Helmut made his decision, and his decision coincided with the beast's attack. Crack! A giant hand harshly clawed at the spot where he stood, leaving a gouge as if a shovel had dug through it. Regrettable. The only regret was not being able to enjoy the battle more. Dodging to the side, Helmut thrust his sword towards the beast's flank. The beast raised its arm to block. Clang! It was like hitting a rock. The recoil made his grip tingle. Ki. The monkey beast looked at him with eyes red with mockery. Can't pierce through with just this. Helmut did not lose his composure and exerted more strength into his sword hand. A gray aura surged powerfully. The fur and skin began to peel away slowly, but the monkey beast did not stay passive. It stretched its other long arm, attempting to sweep Helmut away. Whoosh! The sound of slicing air was fierce. Helmut ducked down and rushed forward. For a larger beast, the area below was closer to a blind spot than above. The surprised monkey beast crossed its arms. Being caught in that violent embrace would crush him. It's gotten faster. There was no time to aim for the neck. He stepped on the beast's chest and leaped up. Thump! He spun in the air and landed behind it. As the beast turned around, its arm extended. The thick black nails were charged with magic, becoming as sharp as a real sword. Whoosh! Not just the direct strike, but the wind it created also cut through the air. Helmut's old clothes were shredded, but his skin was unscathed. I don't have many clothes to begin with. Helmut glared at the beast, annoyed. It moved faster than expected, making it hard to land a hit. While Helmut's sword was blocked by the beast's magic, the beast could pierce through Helmut's defenses. Human flesh, no matter how reinforced, has its limits. Dodging was necessary. Suddenly, the beast jumped back, gathering its magic centrally. It curled up, concentrating strength in its legs. Helmut intuitively knew what would come next. Thud! The beast kicked off the ground and launched itself at him. Transformed into a spherical shape, it rushed towards him with the force of a piece of metal. If hit in this state, it would feel like being struck by a falling metal boulder. This kind of attack was familiar. Naho did this. Back then, he had been unable to move and lost consciousness, but now the size and speed were different. He could dodge. The thought flashed through his mind like lightning. Helmut decided, I'll confront it head-on. There was no time to delay. It was an opportunity to end it in one strike. Dodging was for when the enemy's offensive was overwhelming. Strength against strength. Magic against vis, attack against attack. When two swords clash, the weaker one shatters. Helmut was confident in his victory. Whoosh! The giant body soared through the air. Crushing the atmosphere, it flew towards Helmut with terrifying force like a giant throwing a boulder. Helmut aimed his sword. His black pupils stared down the enemy with unwavering focus. A perfect stance without a hint of disorder. Within the mass of magic flying towards him, he saw a crack. Inside the body, in the heart, a budding darkness. From there, magic stretched out. A sliver of a gap in the raging magic piercing through to the inside. This was the vulnerability present in all beings, cutting through to become a single point. Helmut's sword moved in a straight line as fast as lightning. Crunch! The sound of something dense being sliced. Silence engulfed the surroundings. Helmut stood there, the spherical body split into two halves in front of him. The two halves rolled past Helmut to either side. Crash! As black smoke rose from the motionless torso, all movement ceased. It was dead. Helmut quietly sheathed his sword. As the leader died, the few remaining lesser beasts fled in panic. It was a perfect victory achieved by Helmut's own hands. A brief euphoria filled his chest. It feels good, the feeling of winning a fight. Chapter 38 Part 2 Helmut savored the victory. How long had he trained for this moment? Helmut! Members of the Pace Mercenary Corps arrived late, rushing towards him. Helmut's lips moved. It's over. His voice was indifferent. The Pace mercenaries who reached him were shocked to find the monkey beast's corpse. You did this? You killed it by yourself? Yes, check the surroundings. Helmut gestured nonchalantly. The Pace mercenaries quickly recovered their wits. They started scouting the area. They had thought to hold out until they arrived, but the Tariq mercenary corps had suffered near total annihilation in a very short time. Only the carriage remained. The corpses of the demonic beasts and the Tariq mercenaries were haphazardly mixed together. Fiend spoke after surveying the scene. It seems the formation was broken, that's why they couldn't properly resist and ended up like this. Either died running or fighting. I don't see any rank 2 mercenaries. They probably ran off together. Otherwise, it wouldn't have ended like this. No honor or responsibility, those bastards. The Pace mercenaries exchanged words with sour expressions. Even if they had betrayed and left them, it was unsettling to see fellow mercenaries meet such a gruesome end. Moreover, the masterminds Paul and Max had already fled. While inspecting the surroundings, Uter shouted, "There's someone under the carriage." A rank 4 mercenary from the Tariq corps had survived, relatively unscathed. Apparently he was unconscious, so the beasts hadn't sensed him. They slapped him awake and he scrambled up in a panic. Am I dead? He was confused, seeing the Pace mercenaries he thought were dead, unsure if he was in the afterlife. Uter smacked him a few more times until he came to his senses. You're damn lucky, you must have used up all your luck for a lifetime here, Uter declared. Isn't that true for us as well? Sean muttered, approaching a person sprawled nearby. He checked the person's condition closely before shouting. Found another survivor here. It was someone from the Butin Trading Company who had been thrown by the monkey beast. Despite hitting the ground hard enough to be fatal, he seemed to have miraculously survived. He's breathing, but looks like he's got a few broken places. Being alive is what matters. Hey, coward, come and carry this guy. If he's alive, he owes us a meal. Who's a coward? Finn started to retort loudly but then bit his tongue. The recovered rank 4 mercenary from the Tariq corps quickly approached. Damn, just yesterday everyone was alive. Marrows muttered in dismay. Helmut pointed towards a carriage lying on its side. We should check there too. He had sensed someone alive inside the carriage when they arrived. If they hadn't died of a heart attack, they might still be alive. Climbing onto the carriage, Tanya shouted, "There's someone alive here." It was Miles, who had fainted. Having witnessed the Butin Trading Company people being devoured by the beasts one by one, he had experienced extreme terror. Even an experienced merchant couldn't remain calm in the face of such horrific death. Should we wake him? Fiend hesitated for a moment before shaking his head. Let's leave him be for now. We need to take care of our client. He's the one paying us after all. But wasn't he the one who decided to abandon us and flee? That's something to be discussed later. Look at his face. We need him conscious to talk about money. They had wanted to beat him up before meeting him, but seeing his pale, unconscious face, they felt somewhat sorry for him. We need to check the carriage and transfer the luggage from the damaged one. So, you plan to continue with the contract? Tanya asked. It was her first mission where both mind and body had been pushed to their limits. She longed for a hot bath back home. If we abandon the contract, it's all for nothing. Fiend looked towards the unconscious Miles. Ultimately, that'll depend on how well things go with Miles. Right, let's quickly wrap things up here and move on. The area was littered with blood and bodies. Although it was still too early for decay due to the forest's low temperature, the smell would soon become unbearable. Fiend clapped his hands to gather everyone's attention. All right, everyone. Let's finish checking for survivors and get ready to leave, and if there are any intact beast corpses, let's collect those too. As the mercenaries busied themselves, Helmut muttered. What is it? Everyone reacted sensitively to Helmut's muttering as if a major problem had arisen. Helmut said seriously, I cut through the core of the big one. It could have been worth something. He had been thinking about salvaging the monkey beast's body but ended up cutting through the core in his haste to finish the battle. The more he thought about it, the more regretful he felt. Tanya looked at Helmut with a half-hearted expression and replied, well, there might still be usable parts, right? Finn, go check it out. Me. Yes, you hurry and see if there's anything salvageable. All right. Though dead, Finn approached the bisected monkey beast hesitantly as if still frightened. Chapter 39, Part 1. How was this giant cleanly cut like this? The cut surface was unbelievably smooth. Is this the work of a vis? The monkey beast, with its incredibly sturdy body, was split in two, much like meat cleaved in a slaughterhouse. Still, given its size, the fur and hide could be useful if salvaged properly. What's this? Finn inadvertently kicked a lump that had sprung out white, and the next moment a chilling scream erupted from his mouth. Aorog, what's that? What happened? Finn, his face gone pale, staggered back and vomited on the ground. He was retching terribly. Uter, who approached, shook his head with a tusk and muttered. It's undigested. The people from the Butin Company that the creature had swallowed before fighting Helmut. Their corpses were halved, yet somehow retained their shape. What Finn had kicked was a human hand half dissolved in the stomach. If we had arrived a bit earlier or if they had held on a little longer, they could have lived. Uter murmured regretfully. Finn, disgusted, stayed far away from that spot, not daring to come any closer. He had somewhat adapted to the sight of demon beast corpses, but he couldn't bear to look at mutilated human bodies with his own eyes. They were like the bodies one might see in the aftermath of a war. After roughly gathering usable parts from the demon beast corpse, the mercenaries began to collect the corpses of the Tariq Mercenary Corps. They collected the Tariq Mercenary Corps badges pinned on the chests and personal belongings like swords, and piled up the bodies as they were clothed. Helmut, who had been silently watching, asked, "What are you doing? We can't just leave them to become beast feed, we have to bury them. Since the forest is so dense, we can't just burn them. We plan to send the personal belongings through the Butin Company to the Tariq Mercenary Corps. Even though they betrayed us, they were mercenaries all the same. We should take care of their final journey." Helmut tilted his head, perhaps puzzled by the human concept of honoring the dead. Soon, a large hole was dug beside the piled-up corpses. The mercenaries pushed the bodies into it and covered the hole, then held a moment of silence. A lot of sacrifices had been made to pass through this forest. They hoped the rest of the journey would be smooth. Miles regained consciousness only in the evening. After the carriage was salvaged and a campsite was found, he sat up with a blurry vision and mumbled to himself. "Where is this? Is this the afterlife, Sir Miles? Oh, it's you, fiend, to meet like this. I really owe you an apology. I fell for Paul's threats. It wasn't right to abandon you and the Pace Mercenary Corps after working together for so long. Sir Miles." Fiend grimaced uncomfortably. It seemed Miles thought he had died and was meeting Fiend on his way to the afterlife. He mumbled with a weak face, drained of all life's venom and cunning. "I'm glad there's a way to apologize even in death. The gods have given me this chance." "Sir Miles," Tanya shouted loudly, startling Miles with her cry. It was a scream that seemed to tear through the eardrums. Tanya, with a displeased face, said, "You're not dead, so snap out of it." Considering he was speaking fluently, his mind seemed to be intact. Miles, dazed, soon came to his senses. He looked at his hands and mumbled with a shocked face, "How am I alive?" "And you all, it's strange that you're alive after we left you for death," Miles coughed dryly. Yet he felt guilty. Tanya crossed her arms and said, "One of your companions is also alive. He's critically injured and unconscious but still alive." She nodded towards a familiar face from the company lying down. There were 4 of them, but only 2 remained. Was it fortunate that they survived? Miles wiped his face upon recognizing the presence of his company. How, isn't it obvious? We survived, and when we followed up quickly, the company was nearly annihilated. Be thankful for the life that saved you." Tanya omitted many details, letting him fill in the gaps himself. Helmut wished for everyone to remain silent about his abilities. As a result, everyone was cautious, and even the 4th-rank mercenary of the Tariq Mercenary Corps who survived knew nothing about what Helmut had done. They could say we saved Miles, but since they arrived late and only managed to collect the bodies, it was hard to claim that. "Did you all take down that giant? It's dead, so you can rest easy." This was not a lie either. "Oh my God, thank you." Miles clasped his hands in prayer, receiving no warm looks. Fiend leaned in front of Miles, who had only raised his upper body. "Now that you're awake, let's talk about our deal." Chapter 39, Part 2, Fiend went straight to the point, though he could have offered some water or food. "I've secured the requested items. The carriage carrying the people broke down, but the cargo side was relatively intact. That's truly fortunate." Regaining a sense of reality meant he had the capacity to think about work. Miles brightened and Fiend showed him 8 fingers with a blank face. "Our demand is 80% of the profits from this trade journey. The exact amount will be verified by the company contract." That seemed to fully bring Miles back to his senses. He was appalled. "That's too much. You have dead on your side and we are all alive, so we're only asking for 80%. Be thankful that we're continuing the commission and not asking for everything after saving your lives." Fiend showed an uncharacteristically firm stance this time. His demeanor was decidedly forceful. "Considering the compensation for the dead, it will be a loss. That's your problem. You should be grateful we're not demanding silence fees. How about 70%? Can you make it on your own from here?" With those cargo, the refusal to negotiate was clear. Miles eventually bowed his head. "All right, let's do that. Sign here, let's get it in writing while we're at it." Miles obediently signed the document. He seemed to lack the energy to argue further. Marrows brought over some hot tea from the campfire. As Miles took a sip, he asked, "Now let's hear it. What sort of cargo are you transporting that warrants such risk?" The cargo was all sealed in boxes, wrapped in cloth and sealed with lid. It had been stored that way, so they hadn't opened it. Neither Fiend knew what was inside. The leaders of the Mercenary Corps had been given a rough description of the cargo, but no specifics were provided. War weapons. Secretly smuggled military funds. It was all speculation. Miles sighed deeply. It would be troublesome if even a rumor started. Our Butin company could be shaken. "It's better for you not to know. Our mercenary group is known for keeping secrets. Tell us, there won't be anyone to spread it around." Despite saying this, Marrows glanced at the campfire area. Finn was busily ordering the 4th-rank mercenary of the Tariq Mercenary Corps around, far from earshot. Miles whispered a name in a hushed voice. "Antial." "Ah, that person. Yes, the one known as a powerful mage. As you know, he's not on good terms with the temple. He requested us to bring him rare materials needed for his experiments. It wasn't an easy request to accept. If we crossed the temple, not only would our dealings be cut off, but we might also be investigated. However, Antial has a special connection with our company. He once saved a merchant lord in dire straits, so despite the risk, we couldn't refuse. And he must have offered a hefty commission. Sorcerers earn well after all. Do you understand why it was kept a secret? It's better to act ignorant than to know. If it's discovered we undertook the commission knowing all this, the temple won't let it slide. We were considering the mercenaries' welfare. It's clear we need to keep a tight lid on this. Tanya, Fiend, and Marrows exchanged looks and nodded. Helmut, who might have been listening, wasn't the type to talk about it elsewhere. Plus, he had his own secrets. The temple has its own paladins, so they hardly hire mercenaries. It doesn't matter if relations sour. They might think a mere mercenary group causing trouble. Just crush them, that's how they are, aren't they? The temple of the main god Lumen is a group with immense power, difficult for any nation to oppose. With a vast number of followers, its own military force and territory, it intervenes in the politics of countries. It doesn't rule but reigns. When the demon lord descended to bring destruction upon the world 1,000 years ago, it was the temple that united humanity to defeat him. The temple that saved the world gained power and authority. All their actions are for the good of the world. That became an absolute justification. However, the temple today is not the same as it was back then. Controlling the world with its rules and influence, parts of it are corrupt, suppressing freedom. Thus, they hope to discreetly deliver the cargo through this demon-infested forest to avoid the temple's notice. If it became known that Antial received items like special herbs unique to the temple or stones imbued with holy magic, the Butin company would be destroyed. Yes, now that you know, we're all in the same boat. They had to complete the commission perfectly, knowing the truth. To think on the brink of death, yet his mind is still sharp, Tanya thought displeasedly. This is why she found merchants distasteful. On our way here, we collected demonic beast corpses along with the cargo. Antial will surely pay a good price for them. Right, it's well known he's looking for a way to break through sacred barriers with his magic experiments. Magic, distinct from divine magic that uses divine power, didn't mix with holy forces, though it wasn't entirely antagonistic like demonic energy. Why break a sacred barrier? Tanya was startled. Helmut had quietly approached. In some major cities, there are barriers installed by the temple to monitor and restrict mages' entry. Like controlling dangerous elements. The temple views magic as inherently corrupt, a power that could potentially side with the demon lord. While they monopolize divine magic and allow widespread use of magic for its utility, they clearly do not favor it. They refuse to acknowledge anything outside of divine magic, including the Vis of Knights. They believe the power they possess is sufficient. Listening to their grievances, it seemed dissatisfaction with the temple was quite high. But what can we do? The strongest single organization remains the temple. Even the high and mighty rulers of nations watch the temple's mood, so what choice do we have? Chapter 40, Part 1. As he listened to their conversation, Helmut was able to grasp the situation of the world around him. Helmut, who harbored a seed of darkness, found himself at odds with the temple. Gathering information about an enemy was beneficial. In that sense, I'm curious about this mage named Antial. To openly oppose the temple and still survive, his skills must be extraordinary. That's why he's called an archmage. But I've heard he's a bit eccentric. While listening to the conversation that followed, Helmut was deep in thought. He was intrigued by the sorcerer named Antial. However, he must hide his own identity. The enemy of an enemy could be a friend, but trusting a sorcerer he's never met before is a different matter. He could end up being used as an experiment. Meeting a human with a seed of darkness would be a first for that sorcerer too. The seed of darkness within me. Though it was suppressed by Vis, passing through the forest filled with demonic energy these past days had caused it to swell slightly. Seeking his past, improving his skills, but also finding a way to eradicate the seed of darkness was necessary. It was a spark that could ignite at any moment, a cursed power that could consume Helmut in madness. There were few who knew how to eliminate the seed of darkness. The temple deemed it impossible to remove, thus they killed or sent those born with it to the Forest of Roots. If divine magic can't do it, could other magic possibly succeed? Helmut was curious about this. Could a mage called an archmage be any different? Antial. Helmut firmly etched that name into his mind. The next day, the Pace Mercenary Corps finally reached the outskirts of that accursed forest. As if the times they couldn't sleep a wink due to ambushes were a distant memory, the journey was peaceful. With their small numbers, only about 2 people were assigned to each carriage. We should reach our destination in about 4 days, said Tanya. This reminded Finn, who suddenly asked, what about the rank 2 mercenaries, Paul and Max, who ran away? They wouldn't have gone back to the Tariq Mercenary Corps, not if they have any conscience. Sean, who was walking behind. Contradicted, no, they'll think we're all dead and they might have returned to the Tarek mercenary corps. Even if they survived, they'll be reprimanded. But they can excuse it as an unavoidable situation. The reputation of the Butin company that gave us this reckless mission will also take a hit. We'll have to tell the truth about them. Seeing our faces again would surely knock them out. Right, if we're lucky, we might run into them in the village. It's the closest one from here after all. Finn gritted his teeth as he spoke. Those bastards, I swear I'll grind them into dust if I see them. With your skills, they are rank 2 mercenaries. Even Fiend wouldn't dare. But there are no beating numbers and an ambush could work. Their 3rd-rank mercenaries are among the top in their rank. Tanya also silently fumed. Then if Helmut, hey, keep it down, Tanya cautioned them. It was important that Miles and Henry, the only survivor from the Tarek mercenary corps, didn't overhear. Everyone agreed to keep quiet about Helmut's abilities. Apart from Finn, it seemed unlikely anyone would spill the beans. Of the compensation received for this request, 70% was supposed to go to Helmut, not to mention all earnings from the demonic carcasses. It might not be enough for saving our lives, but we need to make a living too. Fiend smiled awkwardly. Without Helmut, the mission would have failed. Not just failed, but it would have resulted in the annihilation of the mercenary corps. Helmut thought his share was fair, considering the help they provided. It was a satisfying division. But Helmut, you haven't forgotten about treating us right. Finn approached, casually placing a hand on Helmut's shoulder. It seemed he had given up on figuring out how to treat Helmut and just defaulted to familiarity. It was just like Finn to forget how they had once viewed Helmut as a monster. When did I make such a promise? Finn seemed to have firmly decided in his mind that a casual remark was a concrete promise. Before Helmut could even open his mouth, Sean interjected with an incredulous look. Hey Finn, have you no shame? You should be the one treating. It's strange you're still in one piece considering how Helmut has been looking out for you. You're the fool who got hurt. And now you're blaming me? Sean started to retaliate, but Tanya intervened. Enough, we're still on a mission, that's all for the chatter. We'll see about this later. Finn playfully stuck out his tongue at Sean. It was a typical day for the Pace Mercenary Corps. Finn ended the conversation with a laugh. I'll cover the tabs, so think about what you want to eat. That seemed to energize everyone. They picked up the pace and by evening they reached the nearest small village to the forest. Chapter 40 Part 2. For a village so distant from major travel routes, receiving a group of this size was unusual. The villagers looked at them as if they were a spectacle. The Pace Mercenary Corps immediately stormed into the only inn in the village and booked rooms. Even mercenaries hardened by harsh living conditions longed for a comfortable bed during rest periods. The members of the Pace Mercenary Corps just wanted to rest desperately. After days of not being able to wash properly and smelling from the journey, they craved relaxation. Are there any other guests here? Asked Fiend, to which the innkeeper replied. There were 2 guests who looked like mercenaries, but they packed up and left in a hurry just before you arrived. Their arrival stirred the village into a frenzy. It seemed the others fled upon noticing the attention focused on them. Uter clicked his tongue in annoyance. Those rats really know how to scurry fast. At least now they know they didn't return to the Tarek Mercenary Corps, deserters and betrayers. The Pace Mercenary Corps planned to spread the word about their actions far and wide. The Butin company had also promised to do the same. Our stock will rise, so we'll likely receive more commissions in the future. The Tarek Mercenary Corps had lost many mercenaries. It would take a long time to recover their diminished reputation and manpower. For competitors, this was welcome news. Let's hope we decline missions like this one. Tanya smiled broadly for the first time in days. Fiend, who was a bit stingy, decided to cover that promised tab right away. As he planned, those who couldn't drink due to injuries or exhaustion headed straight to bed after sorting the cargo, leaving only a few to come down to the dining hall. Henry from the Tarek Mercenary Corps wouldn't dare join such an exclusive gathering. Hey Helmut! Excluded from chores and brimming with energy, Helmut and Finn, youthful and vigorous, were the only ones to make it to the dining hall. Finn and Tanya, who had called them down, ended up just eating some pork barbecue before heading upstairs. Let's go to bed early since we're leaving in the morning. Leaving just that message behind. This will all go on Fiend's tab. What should we order? Finn looked excited. He had experienced every kind of danger on his first mission, from bullying to near-death experiences and even miracles. He was elated. After ordering practically every available drink and dish from the limited menu, Finn offered Helmut some freshly brewed black beer. Here, try this, they brew it themselves. After taking a sip, Helmut grimaced. Is this poison? The rush of gas made his throat burn and his nose tingle. However, the pain was minor, and soon a pungent aroma followed by a deep flavor filled his mouth, perfectly complementing the greasy food. Is this what alcohol is like? He had heard stories, but this was a novel experience. Expelling the impending drunkenness with Vis, Helmut commented, It's good, right? Their black beer is really something. Let's order more. It's on him, wasn't even a question. Finn was paying anyway. Finn didn't hesitate to empty his glass. They ordered until they were full, with Finn visiting the restroom twice, increasingly intoxicated. His speech became slurred and hard to understand, mostly rambling about his 14 years of life and its harshness and struggles. During this, Helmut had his first genuine conversation with Finn. Alcohol supposedly brings out the truth. Though Helmut hadn't planned on it, Finn's unexpectedly clear articulation forced him to respond. Hey, you think I have some talent for swordsmanship, right? I've never seen a demonic beast before this mission, but I managed to fight and swing my sword around. It was my first real battle. Could I possibly make it to rank 2 mercenary or something? Most mercenaries, even those with skill, stop at 3rd rank. Only those who are special advance to 2nd rank, and only those with skill, experience, and talent reach 1st tank. Skill in swordsmanship can improve with effort, but surviving missions and advancing in rank as a mercenary requires more than just effort. Luck and talent are also necessary. However, Finn had only luck to his name. Helmut was dumbfounded by such a detachment from reality and bluntly spoke his mind, perhaps due to the alcohol. No, you lack talent as a swordsman, you're too scared and your swordsmanship is clumsy. Helmut's cold voice made Finn's eyes widen. Hardiness and the size of one's guts are somewhat innate. If courage was a talent, Finn was severely lacking. Mercenary work inherently involves risk. Regardless of skill, a coward like Finn would likely collapse from heart strain before long. Finn blushed and became defensive. Hey, isn't that a bit harsh? I get you're strong, but to belittle someone like this. But you're good at cooking. The food you've made was all delicious. Maybe you should focus on what you're good at. Helmut spoke earnestly. The food at this inn wasn't particularly tasty, and Finn's cooking had been superior. Considering Finn worked with fewer ingredients and under worse conditions, it was a testament to his skill. Inventing a slightly different menu each time under those harsh conditions wasn't easy. Finn seemed to enjoy cooking too. Helmut had no life outside of being a swordsman. He didn't resent this. He had to become strong and wield his sword, and swinging his sword brought him joy. He wanted to be stronger, to surpass even Darien and Alaga, who were stronger than him. Life in the monotonous forest of roots. It was one of the few pleasures and goals he had. Through the sword, Helmut could achieve everything. But for those not bound to the sword, those who didn't find joy in it, perhaps there were other paths to follow. For the first time, Helmut thought this way. It was a significant development for him, born from observing the diverse lives of humans in the outside world. It showed he cared enough about someone else to offer such advice. Finn's expression turned complex. He stared directly at Helmut. Helmut's words had struck him hard, sobering him up. I know I lack talent, but still. Joining the Pace Mercenary Corps had been a stroke of luck. Living among these renowned mercenaries, Finn naturally wanted to become one of them. He hadn't considered any path other than becoming a mercenary. But Helmut had offered him an alternative, a path Finn had never considered. Finn asked hesitantly, Are you serious about that? Chapter 41 Part 1, Would it be insincere if it weren't? Helmut countered. His expression was so impassive it felt cold. Finn knew those deep, black eyes of Helmut always carried a serious light. Helmut wasn't one to falsely bolster someone's confidence by lying about their talents. There was no reason for him to need to impress Finn. Finn felt pleased. Helmut was a stronger swordsman than Finn, a prodigy deserving of the word genius. A warrior among warriors who had single-handedly defeated fearsome beasts. For such a Helmut to acknowledge something Finn was secretly proud of was gratifying. Do you really think I have a talent for cooking? You said yourself the food I made tasted good. Finn scratched his cheek sheepishly. Well, yeah, you did seem to enjoy it a bit more than others. Elated, Finn gulped down his beer. A terrible hangover was certain tomorrow, but no one was there to stop him. Lost in his thoughts, Finn murmured. I do cook well, Yeah, no one ever complained about my food, but isn't being a mercenary cooler than being a cook? Handling a knife to slice meat is one thing, but swinging a sword in battle is something else. I don't know about that. To Helmut, neither seemed particularly cool. In fact, he wasn't sure what feeling cool even meant. Finn was seriously considering a career change. Well, famous chefs do make a lot of money. Maybe that's a better path for me. Honestly, even though I've been trained in swordsmanship, I keep forgetting it. Training till I'm sweating isn't fun either. Then he asked outright, Hey, what do you think is higher, your talent for swordsmanship or my talent for cooking? Is that even a question? Helmut couldn't help but smirk at the absurdity. Obviously mine. But when it came down to outright comparison, he found himself at a loss for words. Even Helmut wasn't entirely sure how skilled he was. I'm stronger than Finn, so I must be at least a second-rank mercenary or higher. But when asked if there were as many 14-year-old boys with more than second-rank mercenary skills as there were 14-year-olds who could cook as well as Finn, he was stumped. He might lean towards his own skills, but he couldn't be certain. Helmut chose to remain silent. Hey, if I really become a chef and open my own restaurant, I'll invite you. You better come, sure. Regardless of what the drunk Finn said, Helmut gave noncommittal responses and brushed it off. Soon, Finn reached his limit and collapsed onto the table with a thud. He seemed unbothered by any pain, snoring away as Helmut looked down at him in silence. Now alone with his thoughts, Helmut reflected on everything that had happened since leaving the Forest of Roots. Things were going smoothly from his perspective. The human world was new and fascinating, making the pain of crossing the barrier worth it, but this was just the beginning. His body had recovered and he knew his strength. Once the mission is over, he wasn't sure about the exact amount but expected to be quite well off. He had a destination in mind, though he was skeptical if going there was the right choice. But Darien had mentioned it was necessary. He must have his reasons. I need time too, to sharpen his sword skills, gain more experience, and slowly learn more about the human world, about the woman in his pendant, Helmut's mother. Helmut was swimming against the current. If he encountered a wall on his path, he would overcome it, as he always had. Leaving Finn passed out at the table, Helmut returned to his room alone. It wasn't until dawn that Finn awoke, uncomfortable and clueless about how he got to his room before falling asleep again. Luckily, the departure wasn't until later in the morning, otherwise he might not have been able to get up at all. As they were leaving the inn, Finn winced at the bill. How much did you guys drink exactly? Finn can barely stand straight. Ah, my head. Hey, how can you be the only one who's fine? That's so annoying. Holding his head and groaning, Finn complained. Helmut remained indifferent. Unlike Finn, Helmut was perfectly fine. It wasn't water but alcohol he had drunk, and he had evaporated any lingering drunkenness with his vis. Now there were only a few days left. The Pace Mercenary Corps members looked noticeably better in the morning after a full rest. Focused on resting rather than unwinding to the end like Finn, they were scolded naturally. This guy, already slacking off as a rank 4 mercenary, the mission isn't over yet. After getting smacked on the back, Finn nearly fell forward. Smirking, he shouted back, Sean, you're not getting invited to my restaurant. Wait until I open a high-end place you can't afford on your salary. Sean looked incredulous. What are you even saying? It seems Finn hadn't forgotten their conversation from the night before, despite all the alcohol. Boasting to Sean, Finn winked at Helmut. A new chapter in the life of a young man contemplating a change in direction had begun. Chapter 41, Part 2, Days passed and the journey was nearing its end. As they approached their destination, Miles opened the carriage window to look outside, his gaze searching for something. Now Miles was the only person left from the Butin company. The merchant who survived with him had stayed in the previous village. Though he had regained consciousness, the mental shock was severe enough to prevent him from continuing the journey. The company had been notified, so there shouldn't be any issues. In contrast, the Pace Mercenary Corps members had almost fully recovered from their injuries. Uter, Marrows, and Sean included. Given the dangers they had faced, their condition was remarkably good. As the last day approached, they relaxed and even engaged in casual conversations. It's ironic that our bodies fully recover right as the mission ends. Using injuries as an excuse to slack off must be nice. I can't wait to rest when we get back. I'm not taking any missions for a while, especially not monster hunting. I keep dreaming about that split monkey head. I urgently need some rest. Oh please, if they offer enough money, you'll be the first to raise your hand. We're not in a village yet, so stay alert, everyone. The mission isn't over. There could still be thieves, even if not monsters. However, no such signs were apparent. Their heightened senses from constant vigilance against beasts detected nothing amiss. Tanya spoke to Miles. We're nearly at our destination. This isn't a village, just a roadside according to the map. Do we really meet and hand over the goods here? Yes, it's not in a village. Just head to the marked spot on the map. So how will the client Antial receive and carry the goods? Even if he takes them by carriage, he can't do it alone. Does he have underlings? He doesn't need to take them himself. We're to deliver the goods to Antial's hideout. Deliver them? Yes, he will open the hideout for us. We just need to enter, leave the goods, and come out. The more Miles explained, the more baffling it sounded. Open the hideout. Was there a building nearby? After scrutinizing the map with his glasses, Miles pointed to a spot. Here. Miles stepped out of the carriage, holding something. Attached to a long chain was a pendant with an unusually colored red gem. The gem flickered faintly as if signifying something. Looking around from where they stood, he asked the mercenaries, "See any withered old trees around? There's one over there." "Yes, that's it." Miles approached the tree and inserted the pendant into a notch in the middle of the trunk, fitting it as if completing a missing piece. A rumbling sound followed. Drrrrrrrrr, dust rose from the ground. Helmut's expression hardened. This alien power wrapped around his body wasn't necessarily harmful given its subtle and non-aggressive nature. Helmut suppressed the rising vis. Beyond the old tree, the forest opened a path. Beyond it, dense trees and underbrush made way for a narrow forest path just wide enough for a carriage. The mercenaries were astounded. Is this magic, typical of an archmage's hideout? Fascinating. All right, it's all over now, let's go inside. Miles urged them forward, his usually stern expression slightly relaxed. At last he seemed relieved, reaching the end of the journey. They followed the path. A gentle mist surrounded them, disorienting their sense of direction. The path seemed straight but wasn't certain. It appeared to descend, then ascend, veer left, then right. It was impossible to tell where it led. It seems like magic that crosses spaces is at work here, Fiend muttered. We're actually moving to a place far from where we started, through this forest path, Helmut asked. How do you know? The temperature is getting cooler. If there's such a noticeable temperature change, it means we're traveling a long distance. A strange phenomenon indeed. Sorcerers are divided into two types, regular mages and mages who follow a lineage of one-to-one transmission. The latter was rare, not forming groups and passing down magic directly from master to apprentice. For mercenaries like them, such lineage mages were not easy to come by. Lineage mages were generally more skilled than those educated in academies or through private tutoring. They could perform their unique brand of magic. Through the mist, they spotted a clearing in the distance. A spacious area with green grass was large enough to accommodate all their carriages. At the edge of the clearing, they saw a figure standing with his back turned, a gentle-looking old man with a long white beard and a monocle. Welcome, guests of the Butin Company. The old man greeted them with open arms, to which Miles approached. Are you Antial? Who else would set such magic in a place like this? Please inspect the goods directly. As far as I've checked, there are no losses, but here's the list. Good, you've arrived just in time. I've been anxiously waiting. Had you been late, I would have had to change the barrier's formula. The forest changes with the seasons, so I need to adjust the formula accordingly. It's less bothersome this way. Trustworthy Butin Company indeed. The scholarly-looking old man went through the carriage's contents, chattering non-stop. True to being a bit eccentric, he seemed quite talkative. After checking the list for a while, the old man clapped his hands. Clap. Excellent, everything's here. Some items are hard to come by, so you've done well. I'm quite satisfied. Truth be told, we encountered monster attacks on the way, but I'm glad we could deliver the goods safely. Miles subtly highlighted the hardships of their journey. It was time to receive the payment for their commission. Chapter 42, Part 1. Normally, a portion of the commission fee is received up front before proceeding with the transaction. But when secretly dealing with a mage hidden away in a hideout, the situation is different. The process of receiving an advance payment becomes complicated. Therefore, the Butin Trading Company planned to collect the full commission fee on-site after delivering the goods. Having conducted several similar transactions before, deals could be made even without an advance payment. Antial clicked his tongue in disapproval. Judging by the shabby state of the wagon, it's clear. The number of people is too few compared to the number of wagons. There are also bloodstains below. It's a sign of human life force draining away. Seems like several have died, haven't they? Miles nodded grimly as Antial spoke with keen observation and insight. About a third of the people here remain. Good heavens, you've been through a difficult journey. Then you must have encountered a significant number of demonic beasts. They're inside the wagon. I sense magical energy. Is it a demonic beast carcass? True to being a mage, Antial's interest lay there. His green eyes sparkled as Miles readily shared. Yes, we've prepared them. It would be good if you could purchase them together. Well, let's see the condition first. The fresh carcass of a recently killed demonic beast seemed to have satisfied the talkative mage. All right, I'll take everything. How much was the commission again? You mentioned 100,000 marks. With the demonic beast carcass and my satisfaction with your swift delivery included, let's make it 130,000. Is that sufficient? As expected, mages were known for their generous spending. The amount was more than enough, but Miles' lips twitched, sensing room to ask for more. It wasn't without reason that the astute owner of the Butin Trading Company accepted this risky mage's request. Though couched in terms of favor, Antial was indeed a lucrative client. Seeing your expression, I understand. Let's make it 150,000 marks. Greed can be harmful, so be satisfied with this. With the generosity befitting an archmage, Antial smiled warmly and handed over a hefty purse of money to Miles. After counting and confirming the amount, Miles bowed deeply. After all, the customer is king. Lineage mages, inheriting their hideouts and laboratories from their masters, have amassed enormous wealth over generations. The income they could generate from selling potions and weapons was staggering. If they had chosen to build a power base against the temple, they certainly could have. However, these individuals acted independently and showed no interest in uniting. Eccentric, solitary, and dedicated to their research, they were nonetheless undeniable forces of power. Shall we leave the wagon, or do you want to retrieve it? It's of no use to me, take it. Just leave the goods on the ground. We shall do so. Hurry up, you need to go before the path you've taken gets disturbed. By the way, boy, you've been staring at me intently. Is there something you want to say? Despite the accurate identification, Helmut was not flustered. He had been standing by the wagon all along, observing the old man known as an archmage. This man was different from the cunning old man in the forest if roots, Irugo. The subtle presence of magic energy around this elder revealed that he was completely concealing his magical power. Judging the strength of a human is no easy task, especially one who can hide their magic power so thoroughly. This elder was a formidable being. The combat power of a mage versus a swordsman is difficult to determine without a fight. Although Helmut felt a competitive spirit, this was not an opponent to rashly challenge. The archmage Antial had been observing Helmut. In fact, Antial had been aware of Helmut's presence for some time. A swordsman with a powerful presence, though young, and something slightly unsettling. A faint but unnerving energy emanated from him. After ensuring all the items were accounted for, Antial finally turned his attention to Helmut. Approaching him, Antial said, "This is interesting." Spreading his arms as if engrossed in religion, he spoke earnestly. "You are a very special child, I can see that, Helmut. It must be nice to be recognized by an archmage, eh?" Finn, standing idly by, nudged Helmut's shoulder, muttering under his breath about whether a chef could also gain such recognition. "Your eyes are lively. That's how a swordsman should be." Antial burst into laughter. However, his expression soon turned serious, his gaze as deep and vast as an ancient forest. "Sometimes a mage can glimpse the truth. Especially a mage of my caliber who can guess at things others wouldn't dare to." Helmut's aura sharpened, his aura of murderous intent making Finn step back in alarm. Whether the old man was simply talking or actually knew, if it was the latter, he would have to be dealt with. Chapter 42, Part 2. Despite the overt display of murderous intent, Antial did not flinch. Indeed, secrets are necessary. He approached, creating a thin barrier around them. The buzzing sound indicated a separation of space. If he could instantly perform such intricate and high-level magic, he truly deserved the title of Archmage. Finn's shouts from the side were inaudible. Antial said, "I am a mage, and mages do not think from the perspective of ordinary humans, neither enemies nor allies. I have been exposed to many secrets of the world and have remained silent about them. Secrets reveal themselves to those who keep them. I have always respected truths that should remain hidden beneath the surface, so the thing you worry about will not happen. Can you swear to it?" Helmut mentioned something he had heard before. Violating it would result in a significant loss of magical power, known as the Mage's Oath. While it wasn't a matter of life or death, mages were obsessed with their magical power and would not break such a vow unless under extreme duress. Antial stroked his long beard. "Yes, the Mage's Oath, you're well informed. I, Mage Antial, swear not to divulge that the boy Helmut harbors a seed of darkness." He had indeed seen through Helmut. The power imbued in his words granted them efficacy. Feeling the spread of magical energy, Helmut's murderous intent subsided. He changed his tone, indicating he was ready to converse amicably with Antial. "I've heard the temple is hostile towards you." "Yes, those fools are hostile towards me, and I am fervently against anything they stand for. We maintain a healthy relationship of mutual antagonism." His tone was peculiar. He spoke of enemies yet did so cheerfully. "I have a question. I suspect I know what you're curious about. You're worried about the dark power at the core of your heart, aren't you?" Helmut nodded. "You being an archmage might know how to eliminate it. You know what power it is, don't you? The mark of the Demon King, a massive magical energy. If left alone, it will grow and consume one's reason, posing a latent threat. Sometimes the seed of darkness felt not just like a mere presence of power, but as if it had its own will, potentially the will of the Demon King himself. A will towards destruction. As a swordsman who has reached a certain level, you have some leeway before the seed of darkness grows enough to consume your reason, unless you encounter a significantly devastating event. You seem to have a temperament that maintains calm well." His expressionless face and calm eyes. The seed of darkness dulls emotions while drawing out evil and rage. However, the boy before him was composed and did not seem to have a ferocious nature, likely influenced by his achievements. Reaching a certain level means having better control over oneself. Despite his young age, the boy before him radiated an immense presence. Accumulating such presence requires more than just talent. Likely, a renowned swordsman had taught him the way of the sword. Not much is known about the seed of darkness. There weren't enough subjects for study, but I am an archmage. So I do have some knowledge. The elder boasted slightly as he stroked his beard, beginning to share what he knew. A child born with the seed of darkness manifests magical energy from birth. The temple has means to detect the emanation of magical energy. A detected child is either killed or sent to the Forest of Roots. This method allows the child's magical energy to be isolated in the Forest of Roots along with them. However, sending them to the Forest of Roots requires a significant amount of divine magic, making it a difficult choice. He continued after clearing his throat. Such a child would likely be devoured by magical beasts in the Forest of Roots, a place teeming with them. The seed of darkness aids in physical growth and development of reason, but humans need time to grow. Unlike beasts, human children grow slowly, and that's an insurmountable issue regardless of their talents. Couldn't a child who survives and leaves the forest of roots exist? Helmut asked nonchalantly. Once you have magical energy, you cannot pass through the divine barrier. It's the most powerful barrier on the surface, incomparable even to those that detect mages passed down from ancient times. Fortunately, Antial seemed more focused on his own thoughts than on Helmut's words. To elaborate, the seed of darkness is closely related to life. The prevailing theory is that it dwells in children who should have died in the womb due to frailty. By saving a life destined to die, it instead takes that child as its host. But the seed of darkness is ultimately a mass of magical energy. If purified by a barrier, the seed will burn away, extinguishing the host's life as well. So I truly survived because my presence protected the seed of darkness. It was a close call. Helmut's seed of darkness had nearly been extinguished. At that time, Helmut was on the brink of death. His survival was miraculous. Thus, Helmut's emergence from the forest of roots was not in accordance with successful theory. It was as if heaven itself had intervened. Antial concluded, therefore, what you mentioned is impossible based on my knowledge, unless there's another theory. While he speculated beyond common knowledge, the mage before him seemed unable to imagine that Helmut had come from the forest of roots. Your case is rare. The seed of darkness is scarce, too weak to manifest in infancy and thus evading the temple's notice. Those who grow up as mages or swordsmen rapidly advance, but they don't live long. Why is that? Because the temple hunts them down. Mental growth cannot keep pace with the seed of darkness consuming reason, becoming increasingly ferocious and eventually rampaging, or showing abnormal signs before that. Magical energy attracts magical energy after all. The seed of darkness seeks growth, but acquiring magical energy while living among people is not easy unless you're chewing on the cores of magical beasts. Instead, it pursues negative emotions: fear, murderous intent, and rage. Historically, all brutally vicious murderers had the seed of darkness. That's an unofficial fact. Chapter 43, Part 1. The seed of darkness ultimately signifies a destiny of destruction. In the forest of roots, there was an abundance of the prey required by the seed of darkness. With the air filled with magic, it was an affinity-rich environment, allowing Helmut's seed of darkness to grow rather gently without invading the host's mind. It wasn't greedy due to being in abundance. It's really unique in your case, whether it was influenced by your intrinsic calmness or your master pressed down your seed of darkness well, various factors must have influenced it. And now you have reached a realm where you can control the seed of darkness, skillfully concealing and suppressing it. That you've survived without catching the temple's eye seems fortunate. Unless someone examines your body directly, even a priest might find it difficult to detect traces of magic in you. How did you know? Because I am an archmage. And because you were in a place dense with magic, the magic resonating with your seed of darkness lingers on your body. Helmut remembered Darien's words to stay away from places with magic. Darien might not have theoretically known about the seed of darkness as this person did, but he had insight and he was right. I guess I can't be a demonic beast hunter, Helmut thought regretfully. It was Fiend who had subtly suggested it as a good way to make money. The seed of darkness will grow within you. Your achievements only delay the speed at which it consumes you. What happens if it's removed? You would die, Antial said solemnly. It's the source of your life. It also gave you the power to live. There's always a trade-off in everything in this world, big or small. I thought you would know a way. If you abandon this, I can install a control magic circle on your seed of darkness. A sturdy magic circle that won't catch the temple's attention. You might be able to live as a normal human for the rest of your life. For now, your vis repels my magic, making even that impossible. Antial smiled meaningfully. But I suppose you wouldn't want that. Helmut nodded without hesitation. Even if he gives up vis, the swordsmanship ingrained in his body remains. Helmut will remain a skilled swordsman, but that's it. Without vis, he cannot advance further. It was a choice of losing everything for Helmut. It's entirely natural not to want to give up everything because of fear of the seed of darkness. There aren't many futures available to you. You will become stronger, perhaps a tremendous swordsman, if you can avoid the temple's attention until then. But eventually, the seed of darkness will consume you, and by then, your powerful sword will destroy the world. Countless lives will be lost, and their blood will flow like rivers. The temple has deemed that the fate of those who possess the seed of darkness is to be eradicated. You would prove them right. It sounds like you're saying there's no way. If that's what you hear, then so it may be. But the future belongs to those who forge it. Humans can change their future. Helmut suddenly realized. This mage was favorable towards him. Was it out of curiosity about a human with a seed of darkness? Or simply because the enemy of an enemy is a friend? With eyes revealing his interest, he slowly expounded. I don't think the temple is right. They try to make the world uniform according to the teachings of Lumen by eliminating all variables and risks. You merely by existing stand in opposition to the temple. I want you to prove them wrong. Resist your fate with the seed of darkness. By not succumbing to it, prove your potential. That's why I'm telling you this. Because I want to see it. That was the implication. The temple wants to maintain the world on a certain track, sweeping it clean. They don't want beings that stick out disruptively. Antial didn't like the balance that the temple sought to protect. It was, in other words, the suppression of possibilities. This could be an opportunity. Helmut was a rare variable that appeared in this world, one that might not appear again. I'm not sure how this will play out. Whatever happens, he intended to watch the outcome. Antial murmured with hope. Who knows? If your mind and body reach the ultimate realm, even the seed of darkness might ultimately fall under your will. With those words, the barrier lifted. Like the wind blowing away the dense fog, the scenery became clear again. It was an open space where the carriage was parked. Though they were gone for only a brief time, it was enough to cause confusion. Members of the Pace Mercenary Corps showed shocked expressions. Finn rushed over. Hey Helmut, are you okay? What did that damn mage do? Even in the midst of this, Finn's voice was cautious and small, typical of the cowardly Finn. As soon as the barrier was erected, Finn, who had been nearby, was excluded, leaving him in a state of panic. Antial, with his hands clasped behind his back, said as if to listen. Oh, I almost forgot. Your dullness and calmness are strengths but also weaknesses. Perhaps having a human heart would benefit you. Yes. What are you talking about? Finn looked at Helmut with a puzzled face, but no one answered him. Well then, this is farewell. Helmut gave a slight bow and turned around. Chapter 43 Part 2. There was a reason to show courtesy to Antial. Unlike encounters with black magicians like Urugo, Antial had changed Helmut's impression of mages. Nothing was clear, but he seemed to know which path he should take, and what Antial said aligned with Darien's words. Be human. Helmut had lived in the Forest of Roots, interacting only with Elraga and Darien. To experience more humans, to undergo relationships, to belong to the species of humans, his destination was decided. This mercenary corps isn't bad either. There might be a chance to get involved later. As they left the forest path, they found themselves back where the magic had begun. In front of the old tree, the delivery of the requested items was complete. Now it was time to return. Escorting Miles to the Butin Trading Company was an afterthought. Helmut had no intention of joining them. Here it is, 80%. Check it. Miles immediately began the settlement. According to the contract, it should have been 100,000 marks, including the demonic beast's corpse, based on the 130,000 marks initially mentioned by Antial, but the amount turned out to be surprisingly large. 80% of 150,000 marks is 120,000 marks. The amount was more generous than expected. It was uncharacteristic of Miles. Usually he would try to take a bit more for himself. When Fiend showed a hint of suspicion, he cleared his throat. I had a lot to be sorry for. It's only right to do it this way, given the discussion. Well, that's fine. It's fortunate that we were able to conclude the request without any mishaps. Thank you for your hard work. I'll escort you to the Butin Trading Company on the way. Miles boarded the carriage and Fiend divided the money pouch into two. Here you go, this is your share. A hefty money pouch was handed to Helmut, 70% or 84,000 marks. After confirming the division was correct, Helmut tucked the pouch into his pocket. With the settlement complete, Helmut was now a wealthy traveler. So, will you proceed as planned? Yes. He had already answered the question of what he would do next night by saying he had to leave. Finn, who was completely unaware of this, asked in surprise, Wait a minute, you're leaving here? I have a place to go. They all noticed he hadn't lost his memory. Noble in appearance and outstanding in skill, he was extraordinary in every way. If they were asking for discretion, there must be some unspeakable secret. The members of the Pace Mercenary Corps had agreed to remain silent about Helmut until death. Finn held on with a full expression of regret. Whether he was a formidable friend or not, it had been a long time since he made a friend of his age. He didn't want to let him go. Shouldn't you at least visit the Pace Mercenary Corps once? You even made a mercenary certificate. You might like it more than you think. There's no better place to be a mercenary than our corps. My destination has nothing to do with mercenaries. You mean you won't do mercenary work? For the time being, yes. He might become a mercenary again someday. But at least for a few years, no. Fiend chimed in as if remembering something. The new certificate we made for you, you can keep using it if you want. We set it to 3rd grade because that's the highest level it can certify you for. Now you're a silver medal mercenary guaranteed by the Pace Mercenary Corps. You're free to take requests as a nominal member, but if you want to rank up, you'll have to go to the Mercenary Guild. That's enough. Becoming a 2nd-rank mercenary would increase the fee for requests, but becoming a 2nd-rank mercenary at 14 would be too conspicuous. For now, this was enough. Finn clung to Helmut's arm and whined. Hey, what about the treat you promised? You're just going to leave like this? Perhaps Finn was more concerned about the treat than Helmut himself. Helmut was slightly doubtful. He had never said such a thing but decided to leave some room for possibility. Someday, that means we'll see each other again, right? Where are you going? Finn, stop it. Are you Helmut's girlfriend or something? No, I can ask if I want to. Tanya grabbed Finn by the nape of his neck as he persisted in asking. It wasn't right to pry into someone's circumstances without permission. Helmut had decided not to stay with the Pace Mercenary Corps. When leaving, it was best to send him off without asking anything. That way, he could return without hesitation. This boy who seemed destined for a rough path, Tanya hoped his future wouldn't be lonely. Thank you for everything. This was sincere. Tanya smiled broadly, her characteristic lively smile. I should be thanking you, I lived because of you. I hope we can meet again. Helmut didn't answer, just gave a slight bow. He wouldn't forget the kindness she showed when he was most vulnerable, when he had lost consciousness. Not just her, but the Pace Mercenary Corps as well. Helmut, take care, stay healthy. Hey, you have to come to my store later, got it? As farewells poured from the Pace Mercenary Corps, Helmut began to walk away. A part of his heart felt a bit sore. Meeting these people in the human world had been lucky. Though brief, he felt a bit attached. Feeling this way meant something. But there was nothing good about entangling them with himself, who possessed the seed of darkness. Since he didn't know what the future held, it was best to leave it at this. That's why he didn't say where he was going. Helmut's destination wasn't really a secret. Someday, Helmut repeated to himself. As long as he lived as a swordsman, there would come a day when he would meet them again. Now the journey was his alone, not as a member of a mercenary corps. It would take about a fortnight to reach his destination. A 14-year-old boy traveling alone would be an easy target for bandits. I'm looking forward to what will happen. A fierce smile crossed his lips. Ideally, he would have a reason to draw his sword. With a deadly resolve, Helmut embarked on a new journey. Chapter 44, Part 1, Travels, Incidents, and an Encounter. It all began there. 3 days after parting with the Pace Mercenary Corps, Helmut stopped by a certain village. Having enough money, he decided to end his days of sleeping outdoors and comfortably rested at an inn. Even if the bedding was hard, it was incomparably comfortable compared to Helmut's previous sleeping arrangements. Along with food, it was one of the few luxuries Helmut enjoyed in the human world. Helmut entered the inn's dining room for dinner. Noticing the dining room was unusually empty, he saw 6 menacing-looking men occupying a corner. Mercenaries, it was unclear, but they were certainly swordsmen. With their developed muscles, calloused grips, and swords at their waists, they looked to be of a rough sort, drinking from early evening. Ignoring them, Helmut looked at the menu. Not understanding it anyway, he pointed at something labeled recommended and ordered a beer. The server, sensing the atmosphere around the other table was not ordinary, brought the food with caution. Helmut drew his sword and began to clean it. Though a fine sword does not damage easily, it requires regular maintenance. Remembering Darien polishing the sword daily, Helmut had bought an old treated cloth at the forge. However, his actions caught the attention of the men. They began to jeer and laugh with 2 approaching Helmut. Hey kid, that's a nice sword you've got there. Let me see it. No, thanks. His refusal was crisp, turning the 2 men's faces red with anger. One incredulously slammed his palm on the table. Bang, the wooden table creaked as if hit by an earthquake. Can't you understand human speech? Hand it over, can't you hear? This is picking a fight, a needless display of force. It wouldn't intimidate him, Helmut replied indifferently, his face expressionless. I said no, are you deaf? Ah, this bastard. One of the men reached for Helmut's collar aggressively, however his wrist was suddenly caught. Helmut had effortlessly stopped him. Ha, this is. The man struggled to free his hand, but to no avail, his face changing color as he exerted all his strength. But his hand remained immobile, as if stuck between rocks. What is this? Sensing something was amiss, another man swung a fist at Helmut. You gonna let go now? Helmut, about to draw his sword, hesitated for a moment. I shouldn't kill in the village, right? That would only cause trouble. Even if his mercenary license verified his identity, it wouldn't excuse a murder. Helmut forcefully pulled the gripped wrist, causing the man to lose balance and unintentionally strike his companion. Thump. The man stumbled onto the next table, yelling out in pain. What are you hitting for? It hurts. No, I was swinging at that kid. The man stuttered, glaring at Helmut, but dared not advance further. Sensing something off, the rest began to stand, readying themselves. Helmut looked between them and his aggressors, then coldly said, "Scram." His dark eyes flashed intensely, his demeanor emitting a chilling, killing intent. Instinctively feeling threatened, the men hastily retreated to their comrades, all wary of advancing further. Helmut, unconcerned with their response, sheathed his cleaned sword. My order is late. Looking up, he saw a server, frozen with a beer glass in hand. Where's the food? The server hurriedly placed the beer before him, saying, It's coming right away. Helmut, noting their reluctance to start more trouble, relaxed and prepared to enjoy his meal. Troublesome groups boasting of their strength are common everywhere, especially in outskirts where law enforcement is lax. In the kingdom of Kainan, where two princes vie for succession, causing political turmoil, such areas suffered from poor security. Not officially registered with any mercenary guild but skilled with the sword, these lowly ruffians lived by preying on others. They were a nuisance, connected secretly to dark organizations, nobility, or trade guilds, exploiting merchants and small villages for their gain. These groups typically avoided provoking officially recognized mercenaries or guilds due to potential complications. However, a 14-year-old boy was a different story. His fine sword contrasted his humble attire, and his appearance suggested nobility rather than a trained physique. Compared to the rugged mercenaries, his pale, aristocratic features made him seem like an easy target, possibly a naive noble youth in disguise. After Helmut disappeared into his room, the unfortunate server found himself surrounded by the rough guests. Is that kid really a mercenary? Yes, yes, definitely. He showed a mercenary license when renting his room. A third-rank mercenary? Yes, yes. It was natural for an innkeeper in such a remote area to be unfamiliar with mercenary affairs. Thus, the innkeeper failed to notice that Helmut was associated with the renowned Pace mercenary coeps. Had he known, the situation might have been different, as being part of a well-regarded group itself was a testament to not being an ordinary third-rank mercenary. So what if he's a third-rank mercenary, just a kid? His gaze was fierce, though. That gaze would be gone by now. He drank 5 beers, drunk and barely able to keep his eyes open. Yeah, he'll be fast asleep soon, not even able to open his eyes. The men exchanged meaningful looks, persistently plotting despite their lowly nature. Chapter 44, Part 2. Unable to bear the humiliation of retreating, they yearned to see the boy who had boldly stared them down, kneeling before them, sobbing and stripped of his possessions. One man signaled the server. Hey, you got a spare key, right? Bring it. That's. It was clearly wrong to give out keys to guests' rooms, not to mention against the rules. But faced with the threat of a fist the size of a boulder, the server's resolve crumbled. You little won't move unless it's the hard way. Working in this tiny inn and you want a hard life. Fear of the immediate fist outweighed the distant law. The server, terrified, handed over the key. A couple of hours later, the men made their move, quietly ascending the stairs to the door, threatening the server to act as their shield. Hurry and open the door, you bastard. If the boy noticed, they planned to use the server as a human shield. With a grim face, the server unlocked the door. Click. The door opened with a faint sound. The darkened room, curtains drawn, was barely visible. The server quickly backed away, but one man grabbed him to prevent escape. Where do you think you're going? Stay right here. They couldn't risk attracting attention. The rest squeezed into the narrow room in single file. The lead man, wielding a club, struck the bed with no mercy. Thud, the force could have broken bones. What? The sensation was off. It felt as if he had hit an empty, covered bed. Then the door closed behind them. Clunk. The light leaking in from the open door vanished, plunging them into complete darkness. The 5 men were trapped in the small room. What the hell? Where is he? That rat bastard, catch him! In the darkness, they flailed wildly, shouting, but only managed to grab each other. A small figure began to move in the darkness. Snap. Snap, crack. It felt like being hit with a metal rod, excruciating pain assaulting their bodies. The pain of being stabbed in the solar plexus made one vomit and crouch. Another felt as if his leg had broken. Blindly swinging their arms, the men screamed in agony. Og, where are you? Open the window. Someone tried to pull back the curtain to let in outside light, but before he could, he saw something else. A flash in the darkness. A lethal intent reflected in the pitch-black pupils. Crash, the body that had been by the window fell outside. The heavy sound of flesh hitting the ground echoed. At least one bone must have broken. The broken window allowed light to spill in, revealing a room in chaos, filled with groaning or unconscious men. Helmut looked on with an expressionless face. Stepping on a groaning man's wrist, Helmut's foot pressed down hard. The groan turned into a scream, quickly silenced by a kick to the jaw. Helmut was displeased. He had liked the soft bedding and had planned to rest comfortably until these unwelcome guests arrived. What should he do with them? The answer came quickly. They weren't even worth drawing his sword against. Familiar with the darkness, Helmut had seen their every move, controlling his killing intent and using his sheath to deal blows. Making sure the conscious ones were knocked out, he stepped outside to see the pale-faced server. Run away, sir. Helmut raised an eyebrow. Why should I run? Against such weaklings, why would he need to flee? Those people are from the Black Hawk gang. Since the person they were holding got away, they'll definitely bring more members. You must leave the village quickly. Helmut tilted his head. What's Black Hawk? It's a notorious thieves organization that dominates the underworld. Those men are part of it. They'll come back with their gang for revenge. Helmut pondered for a moment. Would attacking their gang bring higher-ups? Would stronger opponents come? That could be interesting. They're incredibly persistent. If you don't escape now, our inn will be destroyed. Finally revealing his true concerns, the server clasped his head. The thought of the gang attacking the inn was terrifying. Why should he suffer for a conflict between the inn and the gang, especially since the owner had quickly disappeared after the men arrived? This is going to be troublesome. Though the fate of the inn didn't concern him, Helmut decided to leave, not because he felt threatened but because attracting attention for such matters was inconvenient. After all, he had places to go. All right, I'll leave. Helmut began to pack his things, then pointed at the fallen men, charged their room to them. Having lost his comfortable night's rest, Helmut decided to generously overlook the server's mistake of leading the men to his room. It was the fate of the weak to succumb to the strong. Chapter 45, Part 1. The chaser was futile. The employee's warning to quickly leave the village because the trackers would soon be on his heels was in vain. The next day, Helmut killed 5 trackers and buried them in the ground. Despite it being his first murder, he felt no particular emotion. Helmut realized that, from the perspective of being enemies, the lives of beasts and humans were equal to him. He had simply killed an enemy. Helmut felt no sense of belonging to the human race. Rather, he felt closer to monsters, experiencing a sense of alienation as if he was floating alone in a world filled with humans. This feeling intensified after leaving the Pace Mercenary Corps to be on his own. When would this feeling dissipate? Black Hawk was it? Each enemy had the skill level comparable to a third-rank mercenary. A group capable of sending such individuals was no ordinary organization. However, 5 silver medal mercenaries were not enough to face a swordsman who could manifest the vis. Especially if that swordsman could move unaffected by the deep darkness. I did handle it well though. He would need to be careful about disposing of the gains from combat. So far, he hadn't moved with the intention of erasing his tracks. But from now on, he would have to. Killing to silence them was also intended in that direction. Helmut intended not to leave behind anything that could cause trouble in the outer world until he reached his destination. If they still pursue me despite hiding my tracks, then he could only hope for enemies more challenging than this. A subtle excitement rose within Helmut and he clenched his fist. Deep within his heart, a seed of darkness wriggled and slowly grew. Damn it, how did those guys survive that? Tarek Mercenary Corps' Paul was not in a good mood. It was easy for him and Max, both second-rank mercenaries, to break through the encirclement and escape. The problem was the head beast, which did not stop them. Because it chased easier prey behind them, they could escape the pursuit. After running at full strength and escaping the forest filled with demonic beasts, they breathed a sigh of relief. The rest must be dead. Paul and Max were convinced. They decided to lay low for a while before slowly returning to the Tarek Mercenary Corps. It was an inevitable situation. They had managed to escape with their lives by running away during the fight, and they had excuses ready for needing time to recover. But an unexpected event occurred. Just as they were resting in the first village they arrived at, it became noisy outside. A bad premonition made them leave their room, and they discovered a familiar sight: 4 carriages and the appearance of the Pace Mercenary Corps. How could this happen? Panicked, Paul and Max immediately left the inn and fled the village. Afterward, there was an argument between them, but they were now accomplices. Blaming each other was pointless. They needed to think about what to do next. They decided to recover and contemplate their next steps for a while. Looking back, perhaps joining forces with Max to silence the surviving Pace Mercenary Corps members would have been better. They were the survivors, after all, and depending on how it's explained, breaking the contract could be justified. But even if they ambushed, there was no guarantee of victory. It was already too late. Many witnesses in the village saw them. It would be too risky for 2 second-rank mercenaries to massacre all the villagers. Was that guy from the Pace Mercenary Corps, Fiend, capable enough to take down the head beast alone? Perhaps the beast had a clear weakness. Our mercenary lives are over, Max muttered despondently. The Tarek Mercenary Corps leader would not forgive them. The Butin Trading Company would also spread the word that they abandoned their client and fled. As a large trading company, they would prevent them from setting foot in the mercenary world again. There was no turning back, but there was a new path. How about joining Black Hawk? Max's eyes widened at Paul's suggestion. Black Hawk was a dark organization of a higher caliber than a mere gathering of thugs. Mercenaries, thieves, and assassins who had abandoned their clients gathered there, forming a corps that undertook illegal and morally reprehensible tasks that regular mercenaries wouldn't touch. Operated with secret branches and connections to the power elite, no one dared to mess with them lightly. For people like Paul and Max, Black Hawk was the best option. We have connections there. 2 second-rank mercenaries like us will be a valuable asset to them. If it's Black Hawk, they'll pay well for assignments. With no better options, Max nodded. Together, they sought out a Black Hawk branch and made contact. Welcome. 2 second-rank mercenaries. In times like these when it's hard to find skilled individuals, we are grateful you've decided to join us. A man with half his face covered by a black beard kindly greeted them. His name was Anton, the branch manager of Black Hawk in the Kinnan Kingdom. Chapter 45, Part 2. Anton had been at this branch when these two big shots voluntarily came, so he personally welcomed them. However, our side doesn't accept people without any conditions. Expecting a welcome gesture, Max's eyes sharpened at the relaxed tone of the other party. Before Max could speak, Paul interrupted and asked, "Are you saying there's a test to join?" "Yes, of course we have data on the skills of the two Tarek Mercenary Corps members, so there's no doubt, but it's a necessary procedure, so please understand. If you believe in our skills, why is this procedure necessary? As you know, we take on some illegal work, right? It would be problematic if, due to some misguided sense of justice or morality, you can't follow through with orders from above. That's why we need some proof." Paul and Max seemed to understand. Apart from their skills to be part of Black Hawk, one had to be more than just a cold-blooded, immoral human. Having abandoned their clients and comrades to flee, they had no issues in that regard, but verification was still necessary. "So what do you expect from us? Have you heard of a young mercenary with black hair and black eyes? He's probably no older than 16. His skills seem to be at least that of a third-rank mercenary." Max tilted his head. Nothing came to mind, but then an image flashed through Paul's mind. Wasn't there a fourth-rank mercenary in the Pace Mercenary Corps? But if he was running away from Helmut, his hidden skills must not amount to much. That Pace Mercenary Corps has one guy like that, but as far as I know, he's a fourth-rank mercenary. He shouldn't have the skills of a third-rank mercenary. "Well, the person I'm talking about might not be him, but it doesn't matter. Our boys had a quarrel with him and he put all of them in bed. They say he had quite a bit of money. He's a third-rank mercenary, but the 5 third-rank level assassins we sent to take care of him have gone missing. They lost contact right after reporting they were going after him." Anton calmly continued his explanation. "I don't know if he has companions, but there's no confirmation, but we can't just let this go after such a loss. It's a matter of our face. I was considering whom to send. It might be a bit of a tricky assignment, but could you take care of him?" It was a calculated move by Anton. Assigning this task to the 2 second-rank mercenaries as a test was perfect. Since they weren't yet members of Black Hawk, they wouldn't have to be paid separately for this test. "We can handle it, but I'm disappointed. To think you'd rely on us to take care of just one kid." Paul thought Black Hawk wasn't so special after all. Assassins of third-rank mercenary level, but in reality barely passing the test. Especially if they were assassins, they'd struggle in direct combat if their ambush failed. 5 of such opponents would be easy for him alone. Their confidence in securing a high position within Black Hawk as skilled individuals grew. Anton shrugged. "Once you're part of Black Hawk, you'll be given high-level assignments as desired. The treatment will also be more satisfactory than in your previous mercenary corps. Illegal assignments come with corresponding rewards." Looking at each other, Paul and Max nodded. "Where is this guy? If he's not sleeping rough, he'll be in an inn. Just keep a good watch on the inns and you should find out where he is. We'll inform you as soon as we track him down. Whatever he has, you can take." "Understood." Max and Paul, former second-rank mercenaries of the Tarek Mercenary Corps, found themselves intertwined in a strange fate with Helmut once again. About a week left, Helmut estimated the remaining schedule while looking at the map. His modest belongings were gradually increasing. In the previous village, Helmut had visited a general store. He had bought the minimum necessary items for travel, but it was too late to visit a bookstore, which he regretted. Bookstores full of books were unfamiliar places to Helmut. "Darien told me to read books and gain knowledge when I go out." He had learned a bit about the common sense and basic knowledge of the human world from Darien. He also picked up some knowledge on short escort missions through observation, but his teacher Darien wasn't particularly knowledgeable, sharing only what came to mind. Knowledge and training, both were not easy to fulfill. Indeed, camping in the forest was better for training. There was no need to consider the gazes of others, but if so, how different was it from living in the forest of roots? Humans live among humans. Helmut knew he was different from others. Even if he didn't have to become the same, he needed time to become familiar with the human world. The most urgent was knowledge. "There's no bookstore in this village. But the next village is a day's journey, so I should visit a bookstore there," Helmut decided. "There's the guy." As a Black Hawk member pointed him out with a telescope, Paul took it from him. "Huh. That guy?" Helmut was a boy with a memorable, intense presence. Such jet black hair and eyes matching in color were uncommon, and his noble, fair skin and elegant face were hard to find even among nobles. "That kid chased by Helmut is a third-rank mercenary, and he took down 5 assassins." Paul was puzzled. It's easy to grant someone a third-rank mercenary certificate, but a place like the Pace Mercenary Corps wouldn't do it for just anyone. Had there been incredible progress in that forest, in extreme situations a swordsman can sometimes achieve rapid advancements. It wasn't impossible, but he felt odd. His calculations about the Pace Mercenary Corps had always been off. The boy's appearance was completely unexpected. Why is a mercenary from the Pace Mercenary Corps wandering around here alone? It was strange for Black Hawk to interfere with the Pace Mercenary Corps. Perhaps they were unaware of his affiliation. It would be undesirable for Black Hawk to have a conflict with such a mercenary corps. Chapter 46 Part 1 Paul believed that together with Max they could easily handle the boy. It wouldn't take more than 5 minutes. Let's finish this quickly and wrap up the story with Black Hawk. Killing the boy would also serve as a way to vent his frustration for ruining his mercenary career. He had no intention of needlessly delaying their attack by informing Black Hawk of what he knew. After all, they had to pass the initiation test. Paul steeled his hesitant heart and said, "All right, you can go." Yes. After the member of the Black Hawk organization left, Max noticed something odd and asked, "Do you know him?" "He's a member of the Pace Mercenary Corps." "You've seen him before, haven't you?" "Ah, that's impressive." A bitter smile appeared on Max's face, and Paul, wearing the same smile, gestured with his chin and said, "Let's go." Senses sharpening, he detected hostility aimed at him almost instinctively. Even after leaving the forest of roots, his senses hadn't dulled. "I've felt this presence before, stronger than the ones who came before." Helmut moved as if he hadn't noticed anything, ahead in the bushes. Even if they tried to hide their presence, the insects in that area unusually silenced themselves. Such persistent ones. He couldn't guess how the Black Hawk were tracking him. He should have left them alone from the start. But the dispute had started from their end. Even if he thought about it, there was no other way. "I have no choice but to crush them this time as well." He intended to attack as soon as they emerged from the bushes. However, the opponents didn't resort to a surprise attack. As the bushes rustled with the sound of movement, 2 men walked out. Their relaxed demeanor seemed to underestimate Helmut. The man on the left asked, "Hey, do you remember me?" Helmut looked at his face. His memory was excellent, but he would have remembered him regardless. He was one of the few second-rank mercenaries Helmut had encountered and a traitor of the Tariq Mercenary Corps. "Why has he appeared before me?" Since they showed hostility, it clearly wasn't for a good reason. Helmut decided to observe the situation for the moment. Paul stopped 10 steps away with a smile on his face. "Your name was, ah yes." "Helmut, I know your name too, Paul. Insolent brat speaking to adults without manners. Do cowards who run away have any manners to speak of? You little—" Max instantly reached for his waist. "The truth hurts." But Paul remained confident. "Hey, calm down, Max, don't get worked up over a kid's mouth. So Helmut, how did you survive out there? I thought the Pace Mercenary Corps was completely annihilated." Helmut cheerfully responded, "By not running away like you but fighting properly. That wasn't enough strength, right? There were several injured. No, let's assume that's the case. Then how did you deal with that monkey beast? How could you escape the forest with the merchant?" Helmut was the only one who could answer right now. Curiosity quelled Max's anger. They looked at Helmut patiently, waiting for him to speak. Helmut tilted his chin arrogantly. "Wanna know? You don't seem very willing to talk. There's no such thing as a free lunch in this world." His arrogant demeanor irritated both Max and Paul at the same time. "Fine, it doesn't matter. You'll beg to tell us soon enough. Consider your luck has run out here." Paul immediately drew his sword. There was never any intention to spare him. After hearing what he needed, he planned to deliver only the severed head to Black Hawk. Without a signal, Max also drew his sword almost at the same moment. Second-rank mercenaries, both of them. Among second-rank mercenaries, Max and Paul were not of low standing. Helmut's lips curled into a ferocious smile as he met worthy opponents. His dark pupils narrowed instantly. Regardless of their caution, their coordination was perfect. The stabbing attacks from both sides were fierce and sharp. Indeed, they were qualitatively different from third-rank mercenaries. However, they intended to capture Helmut alive to make him talk, thus holding back in their attacks. Helmut inwardly scoffed. They don't know their place. Whether second or third rank, it makes no difference. It's foolish not to recognize who they're dealing with. It's arrogance for the weaker to challenge the stronger with such a mindset. Helmut decided to make them pay for their arrogance. With death, Chapter 46 Part 2, "What's this?" Paul's eyes widened in surprise. He had intended to lightly slash at the legs and knock him down for questioning. His sword, loaded with force, should have easily sliced through a leg. However, at the moment his blade should have hit its target, the figure in front of him blurred. A movement too fast for the eyes to follow. A chill ran down his spine. Paul swung his arm to the left. Clang, a pain like his grip would be torn away surged through him. He had blocked it with pure reflex. The attack came from the opposite side to where he had just been standing. "Not bad." The boy pressed down hard with his sword, his eyes unnervingly calm. It was an impossible situation. Logically, a young boy like this shouldn't be able to stand against a second-rank mercenary like him and resist. But Paul was sweating cold sweat. An enormous pressure was bearing down on him. Any rash move to shake it off would lose him his balance. This brat. As Max momentarily lost his target and charged at the boy, Paul's swordplay was precise while Max's was overwhelmingly powerful. The thrust aimed at his flank seemed unavoidable. But the boy didn't panic. His sword began to glow faintly. Paul saw it, the grayish force blooming from his sword. He finally realized. It was this kid, the reason the Pace Mercenary Corps survived. It was clearly revealed before him now. Max, as he called out, Paul freed himself from the pressure. Swish, the sound of the sword cutting through air followed. Max's eyes widened, the gray force covering the sword. Even as a second-rank mercenary, he couldn't manifest such a force. This young boy, could this really be happening? Feeling awed, Max halted his attack and narrowly avoided Helmut's strike. Second-rank mercenaries, not just in name it seems. Helmut muttered, frowning, their quick decision-making and movements. Now they were lined up side by side, their eyes filled with tension. It didn't seem like it would end easily. Helmut held his breath. Then, as he exhaled, his body explosively shot forward. Several exchanges followed. Although Helmut held the advantage in power, their complementing movements, dodging and striking, were exceptional. This was the result of their long-term coordination. Minor scratches adorned his limbs. His newly acquired clothes were torn. Second-rank mercenaries who abandoned their clients to flee. The accumulated skill and experience from their long careers were not to be underestimated. Vis is powerful but doesn't know how to seize victory. He has little experience dealing with multiple opponents. Paul and Max quickly identified Helmut's weaknesses. Inflict small wounds gradually to drain his strength. Wait for an opportunity to strike a decisive blow. Helmut took a moment to breathe. Annoying. This was his first time dealing with weaker opponents attacking him in an organized manner. Helmut had only faced demonic beasts that relied on their inherent strength, or opponents who were significantly stronger or weaker than him. Dodging and returning strikes while the other side intensified their offensive. Focusing on one would expose his back. The continuous crossing attacks were cautious yet sharp. Indeed, I'm not so far ahead of these two in skill, Helmut admitted, but he hadn't yet used his full strength. Knowing how to win means finding a way to the answer. Haphazard attacks and defenses will only get one overwhelmed. The end comes from the extreme. Pierce through at one point. Helmut leaped backward from his position. As soon as he gained some distance, he kicked off the ground. He shot forward like an arrow. When they split, he would cut down one. His sword, filled with the powerful gray vis, was formidable. Seeing himself as the target, Max saw an opportunity for a counterattack. If he could just withstand the full-force attack for a moment, Paul, who had turned around, would stab him in the back. If he could hold on, the impact would momentarily paralyze the boy. Then the chance for a decisive strike would come. But the surging gray sword in front of him sent shivers down his spine. Max raised his sword. He concentrated all his vis into the sword. Paul would surely accomplish what he needed to do if he could just withstand. Max's eyes widened. The two blades clashed. Crash, a sharp noise sounded. Max couldn't believe his eyes as he looked at his sword. That was his last memory. Slash. As the sword split into two, Helmut's blade cleaved Max's body in half. It was an inevitable outcome. Time could be dragged out, but if a single clash couldn't be endured, victory was impossible. As Paul's sword, aimed at Helmut's back, sliced through empty air belatedly, he was now alone. Paul's face trembled. How could this be Max to fall like this? Would this be the feeling of facing a first-rank, platinum medal mercenary? In the face of an absolute enemy, he became like a rabbit chased by a hunting dog. Standing with his back turned, holding a gray sword, Helmut's presence was like a terrible nightmare. There was no courage to rush in. Paul made a quick decision: flee. Even before he fully resolved to run, his legs kicked off the ground. He frantically ran through the bushes, desperate to escape the beast. But then thud, something pierced his leg. As sensation returned in an instant, Paul screamed, "Ag!" He rolled on the ground. Blood streamed from his leg, pierced by a tree trunk. Death was approaching. Helmut stood before him like the Grim Reaper. His clothes were a mess and his body was covered in wounds. He was in a bad mood. To die in one strike like Max was perhaps fortunate. Now who should be begging? Helmut, with a bored expression, lightly kicked the trembling body with his foot. A cunning one who led the Pace Mercenary Corps to death. I don't particularly hold a grudge, but now that it's come to this, taking revenge doesn't seem too bad. After all, Helmut had found a reason to reveal his true power. Paul opened his mouth. "PL, please. Spare me." There was no time to feel humiliation or misery. He desperately wanted to live. Paul, tears streaming down his face, crawled on the ground like a dog. Nothing was more important to him than his own life. Whatever it took, he had to survive. That's why he didn't hesitate to abandon his client and flee. Helmut stared down at him, gripping his foot. With an inscrutable look, Helmut watched Paul plead for a while before murmuring, "It seems I feel nothing at all." And the next moment, a red line was drawn across Paul's neck. Paul and Max, like the 5 attackers before them, followed the same path. They would sleep eternally in the ground. A nauseous feeling surged through him. As Helmut walked away towards the next village, he suddenly clutched his chest. A feeling as if a seed of darkness was growing inside his heart, swelling to press down on his heart with an alien feeling. It was repulsive enough to be considered a role. Leaning against a tree, Helmut retched. It took a while before he regained his senses. Chapter 47, Part 1. Why? He had committed murder, yet his emotions remained unstirred, feeling only a slight discomfort. It wasn't anger or an intense desire to kill that he felt. He was far removed from negative emotions, almost indifferently so. Guilt that he hadn't felt? No, this wasn't an issue with his emotions. Does murder nurture the seed of darkness? He knew he should avoid the dark magic. But it hadn't been like this when he had slain beasts. There had been slight signs when he killed the previous 5. Maybe it was because he depleted his vis, creating a vulnerability. If not me, then who? Was it the emotions of his opponent that were the problem? The fear and pain of death, if these were feeding the seed of darkness within Helmut? The unavoidable emotional trigger during the process of fighting and killing an opponent. As the seed of darkness grew, Helmut felt an increasing sense of crisis that it might consume him, along with a faint fear. I need to head to my destination quickly, Helmut muttered. Though he had previously enjoyed the thrill of real combat, his thoughts had changed. He couldn't allow the Black Hawk to track him. If the Black Hawk sent trackers, Helmut had to eliminate them. The idea of sparing enemies was a naive thought. He had thought killing them would silence them, but it was hardly effective. How did they manage to follow me? Helmut soon found the answer. His appearance was not common. If their reach extended to each village, tracking him wouldn't be difficult. Either avoid villages or change my appearance to evade immediate tracking. Either way, the influence of the Black Hawk would likely extend near his destination, but from there, the assaults would cease. The place he aimed to reach was beyond the Black Hawk's reach. I should change my appearance first. Changing his facial features was impossible, but a disguise was feasible. Helmut made up his mind. Also, acting alone makes me a target, so forming a group would be wise. Hidden within a group, I'll draw less attention. The journey wasn't far off. Helmut decided to visit the mercenary guild in the next village to take on a request. It would be his first request as a third-rank mercenary. As soon as Helmut arrived in the next village, he immediately sought out the mercenary guild. In a village of this size, there was bound to be a branch. When asked, a passerby gave him directions with a strange look. A member of the Pace Mercenary Corps, the famous one, the inside of the guild was quiet. When he spoke up, the receptionist's eyes widened. She was a woman in her mid-20s with a cute, girl-like aura. From the calluses only on her fingers, it seemed she purely did office work. Twirling her hair around her finger, she observed Helmut. A youngster like you, impressive. A third-rank mercenary and a member of the Pace Mercenary Corps at that. Despite emphasizing it, her voice held suspicion. It seemed being part of the Pace Mercenary Corps was a big deal. Is there a problem? No, no problem. Just surprised, it's rare to see a young third-rank mercenary. Sorry, but I have to check. Why don't you have an official mercenary badge but this certificate instead? She kept looking at the stamp on the mercenary certificate as if she doubted its authenticity. I've had it since I was a 4th-rank mercenary and recently got promoted. I was planning to get the badge next time I visited the guild. I see. For a 4th-rank mercenary, handling minor requests means an official badge isn't strictly necessary. Understood. After scribbling something in her notebook, she handed back the certificate to Helmut, who suddenly asked, "Is the Pace Mercenary Corps really that good?" Having only known them from the start, Helmut had no standard for comparison, though they seemed more skilled and organized than the Tariq Mercenary Corps. You're part of the Pace Mercenary Corps and you don't know. They're not just any mercenary corps, they're more like a mix between a knight order and a mercenary corps. They only take in mercenaries who have proven their skills and character. It's not a corps anyone can join. Think of it as the Royal Knights among knight orders. The Royal Knights are the cream of the knight orders then, Helmut nodded, filing away this new information. The receptionist, now much friendlier, asked, "It'll take a few days to issue a mercenary badge. Shall I make one for you?" "No, I don't have the time. I'm looking for a request on my way to my destination." "Where are you heading?" "To Baden." Chapter 47, Part 2. Baden, that's a major city. There's often a lot of people heading there, so finding escort or convoy requests shouldn't be hard. We're located on the route to Baden, so many seek mercenaries here. I believe there's at least one available. Let me see. She rummaged through a drawer for another notebook and flipping through the pages asked, "Do you have a desired amount in mind? As you know, the easier requests don't pay much. They're just side jobs. Mention any experience you have. I'm not concerned about the amount. I'm heading to Baden anyway. I've done an escort for the Butin Trading Company before. That one, huh? Yes. There's one suitable request here. How about this?" She pointed to a passage in her notebook. Helmut barely made out the scribbles. "An escort request for a noble lady, 800 marks. The amount is quite good, isn't it? Wealthy nobles don't skimp on request fees." Helmut then realized how much he had earned from his first request. It was more than he had imagined. "I can afford to spend a bit more from now on, but there's one condition." "What is it?" "The lady must like you." It seems they plan to replace some of their knights with mercenaries on the way to Baden, but the lady is picky. She'll only hire someone she likes. What kind of person does she like? Well, considering the usual tastes of nobles, probably someone clean, well-dressed, with a trained appearance and also handsome. They use guards as a status symbol after all. Helmut looked down at his outfit. The first two criteria certainly didn't apply to him. The receptionist clicked her tongue. If you weren't handsome, I'd have thought a beggar had come begging. Be thankful for your face. Okay, Helmut felt a complex emotion, unable to pinpoint exactly how to respond. Do you have money? You're not completely broke, are you? I have money. Good, then this request is yours for now. Go get a haircut and buy some nice clothes, then come back later. With your current look, who would know you're a mercenary? Helmut felt slightly wronged. His clothes were tattered because of a fight with two second-class mercenaries, not out of preference. When dealing with noble clients, appearance is important. You must look strong enough to knock anyone down or be a well-known mercenary or at least look decent. It shows you earn well and can manage yourself. Right now, you look like you've been starving for months. Her advice sounded more like an insult, but it made sense. Helmut furrowed his brows. I'm not starving. The receptionist clapped her hands together, exaggerating her reaction. Right, I know, with a face like that, you're halfway there. You can make a living off your looks alone. It's just your outfit that's a bit lacking. Buy some clothes and come back tomorrow morning. After giving the name of a shop and some tips, the receptionist waved her hand. Helmut, feeling pushed along, left the mercenary guild. Change my outfit. He had planned to disguise himself anyway, and he had plenty of money. Following the receptionist's recommendation, he entered the clothing store, where a middle-aged owner greeted him with a dull look. Welcome, he looks shabby and doesn't seem to have much money. What a nuisance. If he causes any trouble, I'll kick him out immediately. The owner eyed Helmut suspiciously. I came here on Sarah's recommendation from the Mercenary Guild. Mentioning her as instructed, the shop owner's demeanor immediately brightened. Ah, Sarah recommended you. Are you a mercenary? Then, sir, what kind of clothes do you need? It seemed the owner had a connection with Sarah. Becoming friendlier, the owner asked Helmut to specify his needs. Traveling clothes, mine are worn and torn. I'd like to buy about 3 sets. How much are you thinking of spending? It's better to be specific. Helmut had bought his current outfit for 30 marks, but that was with a map included, so he wasn't sure if that was a fair price. The price doesn't matter, but they should be of good quality. Helmut paused to think. Clothes that would look good in the eyes of a noble lady. Be specific, she said. The owner looked slightly uncomfortable. Very specific, I see. Well, okay. Let me look. Such items will be a bit pricey, just so you're aware. Helmut nodded. Soon the owner brought out several sets of clothes from the shelves. Many of our customers are large, so let's see. This size should do, and black looks clean but might give a dark impression. Nobles associate black with thieves or assassins, so it's not a good choice. How about these navy, dark gray, and purple travel clothes? They're not the absolute best, but they're high quality. I didn't stock the highest quality in your size. It'd be a waste to have them sitting around. The owner mumbled an explanation. This should do. We often have knights visiting our store and they leave satisfied. These are warm, windproof, lightweight, and comfortable. Try touching them. Helmut did as suggested and was amazed at how soft they felt. The difference was like night and day compared to what he had worn before. Do you like the material? Yeah. For these 3 sets, let's see. Since it's Sarah's recommendation, I'll make it cheap for you, 2,000 marks. The commission fee he considered generous was 800 marks, so this price didn't seem cheap at all. Is this what they call being ripped off? Helmut raised an eyebrow. Sensing his skepticism, the owner defended himself. No, this is Thomas. I run an honest business. I wouldn't cheat a customer, especially one sent by Sarah. Besides, I wouldn't exploit someone who looks so. Less fortunate. Thomas tried to recover, revealing his true thoughts with a cough. Anyway, if you want, you can find something for under 100 marks. But since you found good items, I picked the best for you. The shop owner shrugged, as if to say he was just trying to clear out expensive stock. Helmut's mouth finally opened as he stared at him as if trying to determine his true identity. Chapter 48, Part 1. No, this will do. 2,000 marks, though. Credit might be a bit difficult. The shop owner cleared his throat again. I have the money. When Helmut took out a heavy purse and showed it, the shop owner's eyes nearly popped out of his skull. Oh no, his demeanor changed in an instant. Well, turns out you're quite the wealthy one. You should have said so earlier. The shop owner suddenly became very polite, rubbing his hands together like a fly. Why don't you try these on inside, sir? After Helmut changed into the clothes, the shop owner made a fuss. Wow, they suit you perfectly. As expected, you have a splendid figure. Perfect. The shop owner had a good eye. The purple traveling clothes fitted Helmut perfectly. The clothes were a bit loose, but considering his growth rate, it was just right. Indeed, changing from his worn-out clothes made a huge difference, like wings to his appearance. Helmut had to admit he looked quite poor before. Helmut, about to pay, raised his head. By the way, do you sell any hair dye or wigs that could change one's appearance? Hair dye. Ah, since you're a mercenary, perhaps for undercover missions. Let me see. Rustling came from the back of the shop, and the shop owner returned shortly. A wig might not be the best choice for you. He presented a bottle that radiated magical energy. This is a high-quality magic hair dye. It'll turn your hair brown. The effect lasts about a month, though it may be shorter for those resistant to magic. Helmut pondered for a moment. Resistance to magic, he thought, but resistance only arises when resisting. If he controlled his vis, the effect should last. And this too. Helmut took the item the shop owner handed him. It was a pair of glasses with thick black frames. He knew of glasses, but weren't they for people with poor eyesight? These are just glasses with plain glass lenses. They might be a bit uncomfortable, but there's nothing better for changing one's appearance. Your gaze is quite sharp, so this will definitely make a difference. With the glasses on, Helmut looked in the mirror. His iris, indistinguishable in its darkness, and the somewhat intimidating air he carried were gone, replaced by a more gentle look. More like a novice swordsman than a mercenary, the change in his appearance was definite. Helmut nodded. All right, I'll take everything. As for the price, I was hoping for a discount since I'm buying multiple items. Following Sarah's tip, the shop owner's face twitched slightly, but he soon smiled and said, "Oh, of course we can arrange that. You know your stuff." Eventually, he quoted a price slightly lower than he originally intended. 38 marks, please. The hair dye is quite pricey. It was a stock item because people usually don't dye their hair common brown, so it was beneficial for him to clear it out now. 35 marks. Following the advice to call a price just under 10% lower, Helmut firmly stated his offer. He was so decisive it seemed he wouldn't buy it at any other price. The shop owner, initially wanting to haggle, soon raised his hands in surrender. Well, okay, that works. Thus, a satisfying transaction was made. The next morning, as Helmut entered the mercenary guild, Sarah greeted him with a bright smile. "Oh my, Helmut, you've changed so much I hardly recognized you. You look splendid, really. Your advice was very helpful. The shop she recommended was good, and he even managed a discount. Interacting with others proved beneficial for Helmut. It was good to have access to valuable information." "Ah, of course. I don't take care of just anyone like this." Sarah laughed pleasantly, then scrutinized Helmut, pointing out every change. "Wow, honey, you changed into better clothes and dyed your hair brown, and you're wearing glasses. Trying to look harmless because you'll be escorting a noble lady. Good thinking. Normally, you have black hair and eyes, but a very white face, which gives you a strong impression. They might think you're too intimidating to be a guard." "My name," Helmut bristled at the new nickname. "My name isn't Honey, it's Helmut." I know, oh dear, that's something only a lover can call you, right?" Helmut felt puzzled by her words. If Honey is a term of endearment, why did she call him that? Was she interested in him? That seemed unlikely. Sarah was an adult woman and Helmut was just a 14-year-old boy, a sign of familiarity. His guess seemed to be on the right track when Sarah spoke up again. "Anyway, the client is scheduled to come this morning, so just wait a bit. I sent your profile yesterday. I might have embellished a bit, emphasizing that you're from the Pace Mercenary Corps. That should be enough to pass. There aren't many mercenaries that fit the noble lady's taste. They need to leave soon too." Sarah chatted a lot with Helmut, seemingly out of boredom. It was a leisurely time. Helmut paid attention to her casual remarks. Though his ears were a bit tired, this was better than silence. At least he could learn something. Chapter 48, Part 2. As time passed, the door of the mercenary guild opened with the ring of a bell. A stern-looking middle-aged man with a hawkish nose and a lean build entered the guild. Sarah, who had been chatting, suddenly closed her mouth and put on a business smile. "Welcome, sir. Are you from House Zaringen?" Helmut didn't know, but Zaringen was the name of a ducal family in the Deus Empire, a demanding client. If Sarah introduced him to such a place, it seemed she thought highly of Helmut. "Yes, my lady, we were contacted by the Mercenary Guild, but is this the man?" The sharp gaze scrutinized Helmut from head to toe. He had an authoritative manner, checking if Helmut had any ill intentions, was unruly, or most importantly, if he would be acceptable to the lady. "I heard he was 14, thought it was a joke, but he's tall for his age and has good posture. He's affiliated with the Pace Mercenary Corps. For his age, he must be a competent recruit." Helmut momentarily thought of Finn, but he was likely to pursue a career as a chef, so there was no risk of damaging the reputation of the Pace Mercenary Corps. "Well, he seems usable enough. What's your name?" "Helmut. A third-rank mercenary of the Pace Mercenary Corps. Is there a reason you're acting independently from your band?" "I was on my way to Baden and thought it'd be good to take a request if there was a suitable one." After a formal exchange, the man nodded. "All right, come with me, just act appropriately in front of the lady." It seemed there was still a final hurdle to clear. Helmut had never met a noble lady before, so he was curious. "Do well. See you next time." With Sarah's farewell, Helmut followed the middle-aged man. The man, who seemed almost decided on Helmut, began talking as they walked. "My name is Gilton. I'm the steward for the Zaringen ducal house. Have you heard anything about us? I'm not familiar with noble families." Being a duke seemed significant, but Helmut had heard that not all high titles meant a strong house. Better not to know than to know poorly. He didn't try to impress, which Gilton found appealing. Gilton had seen countless people trying to latch onto the Zaranjan's power. A mercenary who simply wanted to complete the request was preferable. However, if you're going to be a mercenary, it's good to know about the major noble families and the power structures of various countries. It helps to know how to deal with certain situations when you encounter them. Gilton subtly hinted that the Zaranjans were a major noble family. I heard you've never been a guard before, but you've done convoy missions. Yes, convoy or guard, there's not much difference. Just follow what the family knights tell you, complete the mission, and you'll get your share. Yes, your answers are clear. Being reticent is an important virtue for a guard. As they conversed, they neared their destination. The building they approached was much larger and more imposing than where Helmut had stayed the night before. The interior was dazzling. Marble columns, sculptures adorned with fresh flowers, and the drapes and wallpaper made of silk. The staff, all neatly dressed, bowed their heads to them. Only after entering did Helmut realize this was an inn and wondered how much a night here would cost. 500. 1,000, the lodging fee was likely more expensive than the average mercenary commission. Helmut realized his client must be truly wealthy. As they entered, a well-dressed man approached them. A sword hung at his waist, and he was dressed in armor embossed with the family's crest. He looked Helmut over with a puzzled voice. Is this the mercenary? He looks young. The mercenary guild has verified him, so there should be no problem. He's from a well-known mercenary band. Cedric, you can teach him. Yes, I understand. Where is the lady? The lady is having breakfast in the dining room. Good, let's go to the dining room. As they walked, a delicious aroma filled Helmut's nose. The savory smell of a well-prepared breakfast. They approached a corner of the high-end dining room with impressive silverware on white tablecloths. There sat the lady, engaged in a lively conversation with someone. Glancing over, it seemed she had barely touched her food, with most of it left on her plate. Oh dear, you're all so concerned about me, how kind. But no, I'm fine really. The food here just doesn't suit my taste. Our family's chefs are quite skilled, you know. It would be wonderful if Aaliyah could visit our estate sometime. The lady laughed heartily. Her distinctly dyed golden hair was perfectly curled from the morning's effort. And someone hooded next to her. Helmut couldn't see their face from his angle, but he sensed something. A mage, Helmut mumbled internally, not a dark mage, different from dark magic, more like a clear, clean energy. Good magic feels like clear spring water, he had heard. Given the mage wasn't hiding their magic completely, they probably weren't an archmage like Antial. Gilton called out to her, fully immersed in her conversation. Lady Xenia, oh Gilton, what is it? She responded with a playful tone, finally turning her head towards them. Her large blue eyes were striking, belonging to a girl about Helmut's age, maybe a year or two younger. Though her blonde hair seemed artificial, it matched her doll-like beauty, but her attention seemed still fixed on the mage next to her. Fortunately for Gilton, he quickly introduced Helmut. Lady Xenia, this is the new mercenary we've hired. Chapter 49, Part 1. Xenia's gaze narrowed before she casually scanned over Helmut. She then turned her head back to the mage she had been conversing with and said, Oh, I don't mind about the mercenary. If Gilton thinks he's all right, let him handle it. I have matters to discuss with Lord Aaliyah. At that moment, the mage beside her stood up. It's time for us to depart, so I must prepare. A clear, melodious voice flowed from him. It was a gender-neutral voice, too low for a woman yet too delicate for a man. Oh my, but you haven't even finished your meal. That will be all, thank you. Though his reply was polite, it seemed to draw a line. He turned towards the exit in the direction where Helmut was standing. Only then did the face under the hood reveal itself. The fleeting glimpse of silver hair sparkled transparently, and his face, as neat and elegant as it was as white and clean as snow. Mystical violet eyes, nestled beside the delicate bridge of his nose, gave an engulfing sensation. It was hard to imagine how he might change as he matures, given his still youthful appearance. The mage was at Helmut's age. While Helmut's charge Xenia was a noticeably beautiful young lady, this mage seemed almost inhuman. His appearance was so surreal that it seemed impossible without magic. It was as if this was how a magical beast, disguised as a human to enchant humans, would look, alien yet mystical. Ah, Lord Aaliyah. Leaving behind Xenia's regretful call, the mage named Aaliyah passed by Helmut with an expressionless face. It seemed their eyes met for a moment, but he did not acknowledge Helmut. Something is odd. Helmut pondered his own senses. Not just in appearance, there was something peculiar about this mage. Indescribable, but definitely an unsettling feeling of discord. I should return to my room as well. Xenia passed by Gilton and Helmut, her dress fluttering. Lord Aaliyah, let's go together. Her shout, amplified by her full voice, shook the dining area. One might fall running like that, Gilton sighed deeply. With the escort knights following her, they would take care of Xenia. That young mage always looks so surreal every time I see him. I wonder if beings from legends look like that. Gilton clicked his tongue. Helmut asked, is that mage also an escort? No, he's a guest of Miss Xenia. I hear he's studying at the Greta Academy in Baden, quite a celebrity there. The lady has a cousin studying there and it seems she's heard about him. They met by chance and she recognized him, so they ended up together. The lady is going to the academy in Baden. She's off to take the entrance exam. She'll be turning 14 soon. Baden has 3 famous academies, and the academies accept students starting from the age of 14. Helmut realized that he would soon be 15 years old. It didn't feel like long since he left the Forest of Roots, but time had flown by unnoticed. Okay, you have about 2 hours. Prepare as quickly as possible and go see Cedric. He'll tell you what you need to do. I need to prepare to leave. Understood. Helmut hesitated for a moment. That mage, something bothers me about him. But there was nothing he could be certain of. Taking Helmut's hesitation as confusion about where to go, Gilton called a servant to guide Helmut. Putting his doubts aside for now, Helmut followed the servant. As you've heard, my name is Cedric. I'm Helmut. Late 20s, his abilities range between a second and third rank mercenary. Helmut made his assessment of Cedric. Actual skills could vary with combat experience and other factors, but that was the impression he got. Quite a noble-sounding name. Well, there are many who come from fallen nobility. Mercenaries don't inquire into each other's pasts, and Cedric nodded as if he was well aware of this. Can you ride a horse? Despite never having ridden before, Helmut confidently answered, yes. Do you have your own horse? No, tell the staff, if you follow them to the stable you'll be given a horse. On treacherous journeys, there might be paths where horses cannot go. In such cases, rather than abandoning an expensive horse midway, it's chosen not to ride from the start. This was the case with the request from the Butin Company, but knights almost always rode horses. If it was a noble's request, riding was frequent. Helmut hadn't bought a horse because he had to leave the village in a hurry and was being pursued by the Black Hawk. If he had known, he might have gotten one. Riding doesn't seem particularly difficult. Helmut knew how to handle horses. If it was just about not falling off, it seemed easy. There was no horse that could throw him off. I'll learn by watching others, Helmut thought relaxedly. Cedric continued, your position will be at the rear of the carriage. The knights will mainly take care of the escort, so you just need to keep watch. There won't be much for you to do. From the 4th rank mercenary, it seemed like he was only given easy tasks. He was curious if this was luck. If the lady speaks to you, respond with respect. Miss Xenia is the distinguished daughter of Marquis Zaringen, so be especially careful. It's a journey that won't take many days, but don't let your guard down. Yes. Chapter 49, Part 2. It was a bit early, but it was the time when carriages heading to Baden began to increase. The academies in Baden start the new school year in about 2 months. Xenia was heading to Baden a bit early for the entrance exam. Due to the unstable situation in the Kinnan Kingdom, many were taking alternative routes, but in their case, Xenia's insistence led them to choose the fastest path. Moreover, in the unstable situation, it was unlikely that anyone would dare to easily trouble a family from the Empire's Zaringen. Besides Helmut, there were 4 more mercenaries hired. He was the last to join. 4 third-rank mercenaries. It wasn't common to suddenly find a second-rank mercenary. The mercenaries who had arrived earlier treated Helmut coldly. Mercenaries who take on requests involving fussy nobles tend to be neatly dressed and less talkative, giving off an experienced vibe. They stick to their duties without causing unnecessary trouble or asserting dominance. Monster hunting or escort missions often paid less and were more dangerous than noble escorts, which tended to be safer and better paid. It was important not to cause problems and lower one's reputation. Helmut followed the servant to the stables. In Zaringen, they had brought enough trained horses. The stable, being part of a not-so-ordinary inn, was quite spacious. Horses from Zaringen were kept together, and horses with and without owners were separately managed. Knights usually rode their own personally trained horses, and mercenaries did the same occasionally. For those in combat professions, having one's own horse was important. The harmony between the rider and horse could sometimes decide the outcome of mounted combat. Please come this way. The stable master, taking over from the servant, led Helmut to a corner of the stable and said, from Zaringen, these are the only 2 horses without owners. 2 horses greeted Helmut with snorts. One was a white horse with a black spot on its snout, and the other was a chestnut horse with gentle-looking eyes. As expected of horses raised by a noble family, both had shiny coats and appeared well-nourished. Which do you prefer? I'll saddle up the one you choose. Which looks better to you? One of Helmut's strengths was his readiness to listen due to his lack of knowledge. Well, it depends on what you value more. The white horse is more majestic and stronger, but the chestnut is much gentler. A stronger horse seemed more suitable for Helmut. He made his choice without much thought. Let's go with the white one. The stable master looked worried as he saddled the white horse. Until that moment, the horse had seemed gentle, but as soon as Helmut mounted, it revealed its true temperament without restraint. Neighing loudly, the horse immediately began to prance as the stable master released the reins. Dancing around, shaking its entire body, Helmut lowered his body to cling onto the horseback to maintain balance. Ah, I knew this would happen. The distressed stablemaster ran after the prancing horse, attempting to grab the reins. Helmut stopped him. Leave it, I'll handle it. He had defeated beasts, taming a horse was nothing in comparison. It was actually a good opportunity. Helmut took out his whip. Putting strength into his legs, he squeezed the horse's sides, slowing its movements. The horse must have felt like a heavy iron was placed on its back. Helmut spoke with a tone of authority, "Stay still." After a moment of further resistance, the white horse, breathing heavily, stopped. Sweat dripped down its nostrils. Submission was stronger in such wild creatures. Their instincts were alive. Helmut soothingly said, "That's right, we need to save our strength for the departure." He tried riding the white horse, walking at first, then lightly trotting. The stable was too small for a full gallop, but it seemed fine. There seemed to be no problem in riding. The stable master, watching Helmut tame the horse with admiration, tilted his head. "Well, you seem to handle a horse well, but you've hardly ridden before, right? Your posture is a bit. How should I do it?" After receiving some tips from the stablemaster, Helmut felt more comfortable. He paid the stablemaster a little for his help. That settles the horse riding. It might not be completely resolved. Helmut had never fought while mounted, but if that happened, he could just dismount and fight. There was no problem. Helmut, having finished preparing, waited near the carriage. Soon he saw Xenia and that mage, Aaliyah, walking towards it together, followed by a butler and several knights. "Lord Aaliyah, please get in the carriage. I'm looking forward to what stories we'll share today." Unlike Xenia, who clung to him with an excited face, chattering away, the mage maintained a just polite attitude, seemingly annoyed as he looked straight ahead. As he passed by Helmut, their eyes seemed to meet again, just like before. The mage looked at Helmut. He was aware of Helmut's existence. Why that was, Helmut couldn't say. Was it an instinct to sense danger? As mages grow stronger, their senses tend to sharpen. A strong mage. Helmut reassessed the mage named Aaliyah. He was quite a powerful mage, enough to conceal his magic from Helmut. Helmut could sense his magic because it leaked from his center, wrapping around his body in a very subtle way. This was not ordinary. Normally, before using magic, a mage holds their magic within like a vessel. Even if he had a magical item, it wouldn't cause the flow of magic to act like this. Then this mage must be. Helmut found the answer. This Aaliyah was constantly employing some kind of magic. Others, not as sensitive as Helmut, would find it hard to detect magic, much less assume it's just part of being a mage. But clearly this was a trace of magic. Chapter 50 Part 1, Then what could that magic be? Helmut speculated based on the current situation. Enchantment magic. Xenia's attitude seemed bizarrely odd to Helmut, a celebrity known only by hearsay. Of course, it was true that Aaliyah the mage had an exceptionally beautiful appearance, but Xenia's attitude was incomprehensible. Xenia showed an obsessively devoted demeanor towards him, as if she would follow whatever he said. Clearly, this was abnormal. If it's due to magic, it would be natural. If the magic was subtly applied to her, and especially if it was a spell affecting her directly, others might not notice it. It's like sprinkling musk to naturally seduce someone. There was a magical beast that lured its prey in a similar manner. The escort mission was to protect Xenia, but was it about protecting her from something already happening? Helmut couldn't come to a conclusion. Let's observe a little longer. Since that person has not revealed his true intentions yet, it was not time to act. The first day of the journey was peaceful. It might have been troublesome if the Black Hawk's tracking continued, but changing his appearance and hiding seemed to have worked. Even if the tracking had been successful, Helmut dealt with two second-rank mercenaries. They had sent forces of that caliber and failed. It would take time to prepare and send stronger forces. Helmut had no intention of leaving the Black Hawk alone. I will make them pay someday. For now, he was merely biding his time. It was a rare leisurely trip. All lodging and meal expenses during the journey were covered by the client, and they would even receive payment at the end of the journey. Suffering a bit of discomfort was a small price to pay for such benefits. The mercenary certificate is really useful. Indeed, joining the Pace Mercenary Corps was a good decision. Helmut felt satisfied. The mage, no particular movements. It seemed he joined the party just to win Xenia's favor, so quiet he was. Rather, he was tormented by Xenia. Beyond the clattering sound of horse hooves, voices leaking out of the carriage sharply caught his ears. Helmut, with his keen hearing, inadvertently continued to eavesdrop on their conversation. Being the top student of the magic department, exams must be a breeze for you, right? I'm so nervous. Even after we arrive in Baden, I don't know how to prepare. If you've prepared diligently until now, you'll do well. Oh my, of course, I've prepared hard. But my heart trembles with nervousness, and I feel like I'll forget everything I've learned. Once we arrive, you'll have plenty of time to review. Yes, but wouldn't it be easier to study if someone could teach me? The academy has an excellent faculty, but fundamentally, it's a place where you must pursue learning on your own. It's best to get used to that from now. Xenia's expression turned gloomy. It was as if there was an insurmountable wall between them. The mage was politely yet firmly cutting off all of Xenia's advances with his clean and polite speech. But that's after you get into the academy. If I fail the entrance exam, how can I face my family? Pretending to be dejected, Xenia hung her head low. If he consoled her, she planned to ask Aaliyah to help prepare for the entrance exam. If you say you will pay generously, maybe I'll consider it. The Academy's entrance exam is stringent. They rank the candidates and only select those above a certain average score. If the average is below the threshold, they don't fill the spots even if they have vacancies. But he made a surprising suggestion with a stern face. If you wish, I can recommend a suitable tutor. There are students who offer private lessons to entrance exam candidates visiting Baden this time of year. They are well versed in the exams, so they should be helpful. Oh my, but with such things I'm shy. Couldn't you, Aaliyah, do it? I have other commitments, so that would be difficult. Oh my, what are you so busy with? I need to prepare for the new semester. Aaliyah cut off the conversation with a slightly sharper tone. Considering the unstable situation in Kinnan, it was said that robbers often appeared on the road to Baden. He joined this group for a comfortable journey, but his patience was running thin. It wasn't his first time dealing with a clingy noble lady, but it was his first experience having to entertain one for such a long time. Xenia gathered her non-existent wits and realized Aaliyah was not in a good mood. Oh my, I must have pried too much, I'm sorry. She quickly smiled and shifted the topic. Even Helmut, who had been eavesdropping for the sake of information, felt the conversation hit a dead end.